Let me see. Hold up. It's been so long since I went live. Hold up. Okay. Let me see. Am I here?
That's in your grandfather. That's how I'm gonna see.
Hold on. Let me check. My bad, chat. If y'all in here, my bad. I gotta get everything on the back end. It's been a long time since I went live, and I just decided to do this just randomly. Let me see. Yeah, we here. Okay. Can y'all hear me? One's in the chat if y'all can hear me. Yeah. Okay, y'all. Man, last night I was hanging out with my wife. She was cooking, and sometimes when she's cooking, we find interesting things to watch. And the Coach Greg Adams versus Andrew Wilson debate popped up, and I didn't even know that it was happening, but apparently it happened yesterday. And I just thought that it would be interesting content, something that we could all watch together, because this is really where like the two roads kind of fork out, right? You have Coach Greg Adams, who's more of a red pill, MGTOW. I believe, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe he could himself, but I believe that he dealt with divorce in the past. So he's very MGTOW, men going their own way. He doesn't believe that the law supports a marriage at all, and it almost universally benefits women, sometimes at the cost of the men and the children, to be honest. And then you have Andrew Wilson, who is a Christian ethicist. So this is just going to be an interesting discussion, and the discussion is marriage worth it? And it's just funny to even be asking that question, because 60 years ago, that wouldn't even be a question. But fast forward over the past 10 years, you got guys getting together having philosophical debates about something that was just considered common sense 60 years ago, but it's necessary now. So this should be a good debate. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I don't want to hold y'all up for too long. And I have stuff to do after this too. I have to finish No Hero Academia, and I have to finish Chainsaw Man. So let's go ahead and get right into this.
Calm down. All right, I got my notes up.
You got it?
Mm-hmm.
You're waiting for your drink, though.
Oh, you don't have to wait for that. Sure, he can bring it in. Let me silence this thing.
Did your guy do the update too?
What's that?
You said your guy was
no,
updating?
my stupid phone.
Oh, it was your phone. Oh.
So you can confirm it's in airplane mode, so there won't be any cheating.
It is in airplane mode.
Okay.
If I look busy, I'm still figuring out a few things on the back end. I ain't went live in a very long time, y'all.
That's how I'm going to see my notes.
Okay. Cool. Let's get this thing going. I'll kick it off. You guys ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, guys, finally getting started. Thanks for being patient. I know there was some delays. We got Andrew here versus Coach Greg Adams, a.k.a. the Free Agent Lifestyle. We're going to talk about today, is marriage worth it for men in the West? So let's get into some opening statements. Who wants to start off?
Yeah, man, marriage is a great institution. It was an institution that built the community of America. Most of the better communities that have safety, good children, good schools are typically centered around marriage. However, marriage has not progressed to the point where men could be safe legally, and a lot of men have experienced tremendous damage, collateral damage as a result, and it has led to broken families, a lot of broken hearts, simply because the laws are not positioned to benefit both people in a divorce.
Yeah.
Therefore, you
and
have
it's crazy
no
because
fault
I don't
divorce.
even think very many men even needed to benefit both parties. I think it just should be considerate of both parties. I think part of the biggest crime is what it does to kids, and it treats fathers like they're second-class citizens and not even parents to their own children. And I just think that's insane. If the feminists want no-fault divorce and their reasoning is because there are like a minority of women that are being abused in these marriages, so women should have the right to just leave whenever they want. And we know now it's become, he just doesn't make me happy anymore, so now I want to leave. But that was the original reason why they pushed no-fault divorce through. If that's the case, then I think that most guys would be okay with that, but I don't think that you should be able to do it on the man's dime. If you want to leave for whatever reason, you should be able to do that if that's what you want to do, but you shouldn't be able to leave with half of everything he owns and his children and him being treated like a second-class citizen. I just don't think that that's right.
You have opportunities for women to use the courts against men. And as a result, men have seen 1, 2, and 3 generations of men getting harmed, their grandfathers, their fathers, their uncles, their brothers getting harmed by this. So Generation Z men are not positioning themselves for a positive marriage. So at this particular point, if someone asked me, would I recommend marriage for them, and they were in a certain position in life, they weren't established, I would say no. There's no benefit for the person to get married today.
Got it. Your response, Andrew?
Yeah, I didn't hear any anti-marriage arguments.
Right,
I
it
heard
was
anti-divorce
anti-divorce. Yep.
arguments.
Yep.
So I'm with you on divorce, 100%.
Stream over.
And
But that's not the
it's a good thing
debate.
that the topic isn't on divorce, it's on marriage.
Right.
And it seems like you
Yeah.
agree with my proposition then. And the proposition is that marriage, quote, is a great institution.
Yep.
And that right now your concern is that men can't be safe in marriage, but that's not actually what you're saying. You're not saying men can't be safe in marriage, they can. You're saying that they may not be safe in divorce. So I have a counter proposition for you. My counter proposition is, what if it's the case that you can use religious marriage institutions without the state? And then we add the ecclesiastical structure of the marriage. That's what always kept them together anyway, before the state was ever involved. So what if instead we use the ecclesiastical church, the structure of the old churches, that would be Catholicism and Orthodoxy, where you see the lowest divorce rates,
Yeah.
because the community puts pressure on the women to act right. That's what they do. Right now, the state applies no pressure on women to act right? You can just go and file whatever you want, get a divorce, and go be banging the neighbor by the next night. We totally agree on that. But to say that we should abandon marriage is silly. It seems like you're completely pro-marriage. You're just anti-divorce. So why wouldn't you just throw your weight behind institutions where the divorce rate is the least, and you have an ecclesiastical structure which can be appealed to assist with that? That's what makes no sense to me.
My response to that is, if we're fifths, we beat all drunk. All right. So that's a scenario that just isn't present.
Can you
in
explain
today's-
the analogy for me?
Well, if we use if, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we say if we have a situation where this is present, then this would work. Well, that makes sense. If we had that,
We
it
do
would
have it
work
right now.
Well, it doesn't necessarily work because, and I'm going to tell you why, because a woman can go to a divorce attorney and they can simply just say, hey, listen, it was a off the cuff, off the state divorce, but you got married within a certain state, or she filed in a certain state, so therefore the divorce goes on.
No, okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Well,
Listen, I've been to with the divorce attorneys, and what they'll tell you is, hey, listen, you can get married in a ritual, you can get married in the orthodoxy, you can get married off record, but if she files and that woman is hell bent on saying, we got married, I don't care if it was a ceremony where we walked on coals with our feet bare, that's considered a marriage. You also have common law. You have a lot of other ways for that woman to establish marriage.
How does
And
your
that-
way eliminate common law?
I don't have any way to eliminate common law.
So
what
then-
I have is a way for men to avoid
Well, then the
being
argument's
used.
silly.
No, the argument's not silly. So here's what you have. You have
Okay.
a if proposition, which doesn't exist for most men. Most men aren't religious. Most men aren't looking for.
Wait, but most men are religious, aren't they? Most men, I'm pretty sure, most men in America are religious. I'm pretty sure. Like
To
a
be
lot of
under-
times atheists think that they're in the majority, but atheists aren't in the majority. I don't know if they're practicing their religion, but I'm pretty sure a majority of the men in America are actually religious.
For a religious orthodoxy, so it doesn't apply. So you're taking a moral standard or a religious standard to apply to people who aren't under that veil.
So let's start with a couple of things you said which are fundamentally untrue. Most men are religious, in fact, including in this country. Most of them, not some of them.
But they're not religious.
Hang on. I didn't
Hold on for a
interrupt. I
second.
didn't
Right.
interrupt.
I
didn't
understand,
interrupt.
but let me just take that point. Most aren't under your religion.
Okay.
We can agree with that.
So here's the thing, though. But Catholicism and Orthodoxy is growing rapidly. And if it's the case that the ecclesiastical structure is already there, which it is, right? If you're going to cohabitate with a woman, the thing that you're offering right now is common law marriage anyway, if there's cohabitation at all. You're not protecting anybody from that. At least under my model, it gives an ecclesiastical structure that's designed to prevent divorce by applying community pressure. That was the way it was always done. Apply the application of community pressure within the confines of the woman's social circle. Right now, do you agree with me, for instance, that many divorces happen because women like to yap. So you get a freshly divorced woman, and she's free. You go, girl. Girl power. And she starts talking to her little
shout
friends.
out to the
And
Lapeef
she
Network
starts telling
in
them
the
how
chat.
liberating it is and how great it is and this and that. And this is why when women have divorced friends, their likelihood of divorce actually rapidly increases.
Yeah.
It's for this reason.
Divorce is contagious.
So if it's the case that this social contagion is eliminated because now we have an
And that's
ecclesiastic.
why you got to be careful of the people that are around you, because misery loves company. You show up late to work, show up late to meetings, show up late to a class, it always feel good when somebody walk in late with you. That's because misery loves company. And if you hanging around a bunch of single people as a woman or divorced people, you're in dangerous territory because you eventually become like the people you are around. I always say it, but if you live in Mexico for long enough, eventually you're going to start speaking Spanish. So you always got to be careful. It's definitely
Structure and
contagious.
ecclesiastical authority, which won't grant it because you get ostracized from that social group through excommunication, for instance,
Yeah.
or not being able to participate anymore with that community. That's an application of a serious and significant social pressure, which can do the very thing you want. Bring back that great institution, absent the state, and it avoids this whole problem of common law marriage. Because if it's the case that you can be common law married anyway inside of a state, and they can, get grounds for divorce on that anyway, then we actually need to have some social pressures to prevent them from doing that.
Yeah, but my issue is, why don't men just attack the state? And by the way, I see some super chats coming in. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to get to them eventually. I just want to make sure I get through some of the content and we get deeper into the discussion before I interrupt with super chats. I appreciate y'all, though. But why don't men just attack the state? What's preventing men from attacking the state? Why would we honor a system that no longer values the soul of the man or a man, and it doesn't even adhere to its part of the social contract? Why would we uphold that system, and why would we keep supporting that system that no longer values men? Because men get all the say in what goes on. Why don't men just attack the system that for some reason we support? And I have a theory about this. When I look up and I pull up the Gen Z statistics and how they support all of this egalitarian equality stuff that's been pumped for the past 30 years, the support for this stuff it's steeply going down. But the issue is right now is boomers are like 170 years old. They want to hold on to all the positions of power, and they don't understand the problems that young men bring to them about the current dating market because they got married 40 years ago. And so they don't want to solve any of the issues. It seems like they're just buying out time until they maybe pass away and then just kick the can down the road. But my question is, why don't men take powers into their own hands and just attack the state, attack the laws? I mean, we kind of get all the say. I don't understand why we act as if we have to be passive when it comes to things that we allowed feminists to change over time. We can change them back pretty easily, actually.
So it sounds like
Pretty easily.
we agree marriage is awesome for men. Divorce is terrible for them. So it seems like we should be attacking the divorce structure here, and it doesn't seem like you actually have anything to do that other than just avoid the thing that's great for you because this other bad side effect could happen.
Sure, that's
so
like
why don't
smoking cigarettes.
So why don't we attack the bad side effect
Oh,
when
no,
we have the
Coach
mechanism
Greg
to do it?
Adams
It's not
with the
if, we can do
personal
it now.
attacks.
Okay,
Right
so
this
like
second.
smoking cigarettes is the same analogy you're saying. Okay, here, cigarettes in this situation, we obviously know it has negative side effects, so you would avoid it. Now, here's the issue that I have with it. It sounds great on paper, but we can't travel to the land of make-believe. It sounds great. The majority of people probably wouldn't do it, and if you ask a guy, which this is an important part, they're not even prepared to even talk about that. They don't even know what divorce laws are. So you're asking them to travel to the land of make-believe under a marriage system that small percentage of people use. No one uses it today. You might have said they used it to the past. Today, that doesn't exist. So we can't travel to the land of make-believe to make marriage work for you. It might work in your marriage, but it doesn't work for the greater structure.
Your argument here contradicts itself because on the one hand, you say men don't know enough about marriage, but my assumption is that your mission is to let men know about marriage.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then I don't understand how it's the land of make-believe if you can let them know about this, but I can't.
Sure.
Right,
And you can offer that.
So if
You
I
can offer
am,
that.
it sounds like I'm offering a real alternative to what you're offering, and here's what you're offering. Men, marriage is great. It's a great institution. It's the best for children. These are your words. In marriage, right, men seem to thrive. Their health seems to thrive. Everything seems to thrive. You're saying Well, the problem is
But
that
see,
divorce.
here's the issue with the health argument and the health like being better is it's also the case that women tend to select for men who are healthy. So married men tend to live longer than single men because if there's a man that has a disability or a man that might have a certain mental issue that might cause him to, make super risky decisions that might eventually lead to him dying or whatever it may be, women seem to select for healthier men, so that's why it skews the health statistics. And as far as the wealth statistics, it's the same way too. Women tend to marry men who have a little bit more. So men who have more tend to be more likely to get married. Therefore, married men make more than single men. So,
rates are high.
It's one of
They
those
are.
things.
However,
You gotta
there's a
look
few
all the
things
way
here
into
that
it,
you haven't
'cause-
covered. One, it depends on demographic too. For instance,
Absolutely.
if you're black, it's going to be way worse than if you're white.
Correct.
Okay, way worse. And also, socioeconomics matters, right? Demographics in general matter. So you can do a lot, actually, including prenuptial agreements. You can have a prenuptial agreement with the ecclesiastical authority without the state even involved. And it seems like that would mitigate your risk to damn near nothing.
You said if about 50 times
So did
today.
you.
Now, here's what I'm telling you.
So
I'm
did
telling you
you.
when, all right? We're already in this system. You're going outside of the system to create a scenario for me to argue
What
against.
system are you going outside of?
We're talking about marriage is typically done with the state. Almost everyone does it this way. So now
Typically is
you're
not-
here's hold on
is
for a
not
second. Hold on
must.
for a second. You've
Typically
moved the
doesn't mean
goalposts.
anything.
You've moved the goalposts to a scenario of if, and you're arguing
is.
from the if. No,
Is.
hold on for a second. You're arguing from the if perspective.
It is perspective.
No, listen.
It is.
Give me a
is
chance to
perspective.
listen.
All right,
give
I'll
me a
give you
chance.
Go ahead.
You're arguing from a very small percentage point. Now you're saying demographics, and we can talk about that, but you're still trying to get me to argue in your cloud of if. That's the land of make believe. Most people, by far, are married to the state. Not only that, your land of make believe still exists. The prenup with the ecclesiastics, you can write whatever you want in that prenup. It only matters in the divorce. That's the reality. So I'm still dealing in reality.
So
You're
am
in the
I.
clouds. Hold on for a second. You're in the
Okay.
clouds. So let's take the demographics.
Okay.
In your scenario, it sounds like, which would be fair, your primary concern is with white people.
No, it's with
Hold
all
on for a
people.
second. You said with black people, the demographics, the chances high.
I think he's more concerned about Christians. I think Wilson's more concerned about Christians.
Yeah.
So have you discovered the ecclesiastics approach to black people married within this?
Yes.
However, there
Yeah, we were married at significantly higher rates not very long ago. And that's why when we talk about these things, people talk about this world of women not sleeping around and people not sleeping around, promiscuity just being like people having sexual discipline. And we talk about actual marriage, people talk about these concepts as if they're impossible, but it's like it was just that way very, very recently. And we know how we got to where we are, and you can undo it. You literally can undo it with social engineering, just like how we did it with social engineering. You can undo it with social engineering too.
their demographics, economics, which all do affect marriage, has nothing to do in the land of the clouds or the make-believe with ecclesiastics. It's all going to boil down to in the law. And there's no church reverend that's going to go into your household to make sure there's social pressure on your wife. Do you know
yes,
any?
sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know any that can cover all marriages? That
Yes.
answer is no.
Yes. And by the way, when you keep
Are we in reality here?
I'm
or are we in
trying-
the clouds?
when
I mean,
you're-
we're
when
not
you're-
we're not arguing
I was
anything
just trying-
legitimate.
I was just
this
trying
is
to-
this is in the land of make believe.
Well, when I'm allowed to respond, let me
Okay,
know.
give me a second.
Go ahead.
Let me finish this point.
Go ahead.
You're imagining. Your imagination is great. John Lennon would be great. You know, you would be proud of you at this particular point.
But I'm imagining all the people.
You're imagining all the people
CGA talking in riddles right now.
under a situation and a structure that you brought in here. All right. But the state highly governs this, and the state highly governs divorce. I'm
Yeah.
dealing in a reality situation where I'm trying to counsel men to give information to. The best thing you've told me is that you're willing to give men the option to do this. Are they willing to all do this option? The answer is probably not, just like they're not willing to do what I'm telling you.
But see,
them to
I'm in
do.
the middle though, because CGA seems kind of defeatist, and I'm like, fuck, man. Hey, I was about to start cursing. Man, forget them feminists, bro. Why should we let them just hijack these systems that are supposed to benefit not just women? They're supposed to benefit children. The whole point of marriage was never to benefit the man or the woman. It was to build stability for children. That was the whole point of it. And when you add in no-fault divorce, you completely take away the whole point. If the point is to have stability for children and a woman can leave the marriage whenever she wants because of no-fault divorce, then you essentially just have a relationship where the man is 100% liable for anything that goes wrong. But he doesn't have any authority over if it can go wrong because the woman can just leave without him having any say in it. So right now with the contract for men is they want men to take on the responsibility, really sacrifice freedom, because when a man will always choose his freedom over responsibility until he has people that he loves, that he feels like he needs to be responsible for. And men will usually take on a huge responsibility when it comes to marriage. And we sign up for that to have a level of authority over the what happens in our households. And with this no-fault divorce stuff, it's completely destroyed that part of the contract because you have all the responsibility with no authority because the woman can just leave. So it's completely destabilized the whole point, and people oftentimes forget marriage was never about male or female happiness. It was about stability for children. And so when you ask, like, is marriage worth it? If you're talking about for the kids, 110%. I mean, you just don't get better results in any other circumstance. And I'm saying specifically between a man and a woman. I don't care if you a dog and a cat or a man and a man or a woman and a woman. Statistically speaking, the best results you get in terms of stability and development for kids is when a man and a woman are in the confines of marriage. It's just the truth. So I don't understand why we would let these feminists hijack a system that or just let them hijack it. So I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think you have to go super religious marriage. I think it helps, statistically speaking. People can say sky daddy in the sky, but if you look at the statistics when applied to life, the more you attend church as a couple, the less likely you are to divorce. That matters, applied. Regardless of if you believe in the concepts as an atheist or not, that matters when applied. Religious people have more children. They report more percentages of happiness after 5 years of marriage. All types of different statistics that supports that having religion behind your marriage and having meaning behind the words you say because you are religious makes a difference. When you make these vows, you're not just saying silly words. You're not just talking shit. You actually mean for better or for worse. A vow isn't something you just say. You're making a vow before God if you're religious, and a vow to her family and her as her protector and leader. So these things all matter and they all make sense. So yeah, if you're religious, applying that religion that Andrew's talking about definitely does help the marriage, but you don't have to be hyper religious. And you don't have to give up and just say we just don't need marriage anymore because it doesn't benefit men. Go back and attack the systems like we had before, and men have all the power to do this. There's literally nothing stopping men from just saying fuck all, we're going to attack the system. There's nothing stopping men from doing that. I don't know why men seem so defeatist when it comes to this feminist BS. Men have all the power. I think guys have forgotten about that, but men have all the power to change everything. That's like the whole point.
We're both attempting, which is a good thing. It's noble. However, your situation rarely exists. Can we talk about the reality of what exists?
Sure.
Absolutely. So let's take your moral religious crusade out of it and talk about the reality.
Yeah, let's
Are
not.
you willing to do that?
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
See, you're not willing to do that
Well,
because it's all based on your reality.
Guess what? It's a debate, and I will argue my points from my view, how I see fit. It's not for you to govern.
But what I'm not going to do is expect to be arguing from the land of make-believe.
Yeah, but it's
okay.
Not,
all right, so
okay,
anybody
my
have
turn. My turn.
Anybody
Relax.
have anybody have the sound effect for the television show where the train comes through, Mr. Rogers?
Let me know when
because I want to be on Earth.
Yeah, let me know.
All
when
right,
you
Let's
gas
let
out.
Andrew respond.
Yeah, so the thing is it's funny that you bring up Imagine All the People of John Lennon, which is an anti-religious song. And hilariously enough, was designed to assist with female empowerment. Isn't that hilarious? But the thing here is you keep on saying that what I'm offering is make-believe, but it's not. It's been governing the Orthodox and Catholic Church for 2,000 years, including in this country. Now, here, let me give you an example, for instance, the Amish, right? Do you know what the divorce rate is among them? It's almost non-existent, yet they're still governed by the same laws of the land that you're speaking to. So sounds like if I give a counter, if I say, look, I can give you a way, a methodology, in which you can utilize the religious ecclesiastical institution which has existed for 2,000 years and has right now the lowest divorce rates. Right this second
hard.
as we speak. Not
like-
make-believe land,
Talk
not
that.
hundreds of years in the future.
Talk that,
right
Wilson.
this second, as opposed to the system you have of common law divorce, which is sky high, and you can't do anything about it. That's what is true. So pointing out what is true is right now you can have a prenup. That is true. What is true is prenups are usually held up in court. That is true. What is true is that you can have a marriage outside of a state because
Is
it's a
that
religious
true? Are
institution
prenups usually held
anyway.
up in
You
court?
never have to have a license with the state. It's never been necessary. And if you do, the only way that that can be done is if it's sacramental. And if it's sacramental, it's governed now by the church. That's going to be the community the women are a part of. And so the thing is like, that sounds like a real viable solution. What's yours? More fucking degeneracy? Go out
Okay,
and
it
play
is
the
true.
field, hump a lot of chicks? How's that going to help anybody do anything? That's been the progressive mantra for 100 years. Isn't it wonderful? Your turn.
All right, we're returning back to Earth. Now, first things
I'm gonna
first.
just be completely honest too. When it comes to just getting older and sleeping with a bunch of women, when people talk about that as men, you're talking about a small minority of men who are even capable of that. And usually those relationships that you're going to get into with younger women are going to be transactional. I'm sorry, but I do not. At some point in my life, I don't want to have to go hunt for coochie. I want to be involved in my grandkids' lives, teach my sons how to do skills, teach them things about life so that they have advantages that other people's kids don't. I want to be involved in that stuff. I don't want to be chasing coochie at 60. It's just not, it's not appealing to me. So yeah, like when people talk about men getting older and having the ability to sleep with just women that they may meet, it's like, yeah, that's possible for a small minority of men, but who wants to be that guy at the bar? You know? Who wants to be that guy? At some point, life has to be more than coochie. Is that at 50? Are we allowed to like have a family and do like family reunions and shit? Nobody want to be chasing coochie at 55.
When it comes to this, back in reality, there's no God in marriage. So, Mr. Sky Daddy, God, religion, that's all great, but there's no God in marriage. At this particular point, when you go through a marriage, if one person decides to not obey the Holy Bible or whatever you're thumping, you have no basis to keep that marriage together. If she decides to leave the church and decides not to listen or excommunicate herself, she's now under the state.
Agree.
Now, when you're getting divorced, which I'm assuming you've been divorced.
Well, I mean, that's a hell of an assumption to make.
Have you been divorced?
Well, I mean,
have you been married?
Can you tell me, if you can tell me how that has any merit?
Give me
to
a
the
second,
debate?
because if you've been through one, you would know that there's no God in the divorce court, in the
I
family
see.
court. There's no God in there. No one asked you.
There is the state in there.
There is the state. So
Yeah.
that's what we're arguing from.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
when you get married. So you're telling me if, and I'm telling you, well, this is what's going to happen.
Well, the problem is Coach Greg Adams is basing his argument around the negatives of divorce, but Andrew Wilson's saying to him that when you have the marriage, the religious marriage that Andrew's talking about, statistically speaking, your chances of divorce are significantly lower. When you have the secularist marriages that we have today, that we have in America, where people don't believe in the words that they're saying and they believe they should be able to leave just because they're quote unquote unhappy, the statistics are heavily skewed. If you look at the divorce rates for women who have already been married in their second marriage, it's like 60 or 70% for a woman on her second marriage. And if that's added to the pool, it's significantly skewed. So I think that Coach Greg Adams is making his whole point around divorce, but Andrew's saying, well, you can avoid the reason why you're saying that it's not worth it. If I can avoid that, statistically speaking, if I'm significantly, say even if it's 70-30, 70-30, that's pretty good odds for a marriage, especially if you understand, like if you value the relationship. That's pretty good. That's pretty good odds.
Even if you took Sky Daddy into court with
It's way better than the secular statistics, which are like 50-50 at this point.
you, they would say you pray to the judge.
How-
The judge is the authority in the court. So the God argument is a nice, interesting argument, and I probably am not going to stay on the conversation very long because that's your God. That's your Sky Daddy. That's
that?
your religion. I have a different religion. So who
What does that
gives
do
you
with
the
anything?
listen? Who gives you the authority to change?
What is your religion? Does anybody know CGA's religion? I've seen significantly more Andrew Wilson lately than I have CGA. So I'm not 100% on CGA, but I wonder what his religion is then. Is it just like nihilism or hedonism, like just seek pleasure, just do things that because you feel life is meaningless, just seek pleasure and sleep around till you're 70?
Change the understanding, the conversation to your religion. That's your religion.
I'm not changing the conversation.
Okay, so it only works if it only works if you believe in your sky daddy. That's the only way it works, and that's the only way you're going to advise men.
We're talking about mitigating
Okay, he's not
risk.
religious. Okay.
No. We're talking about can men get into a marriage today only under your sky daddy? That's what we're assuming.
Okay.
Now, can they do it otherwise?
Yeah, you can have secular marriage.
Okay, go ahead and explain.
Okay, yeah.
Make it work.
I just did. So
Make it work.
The argument that you have is that marriage is great. It's a great institution.
We already covered this.
Well, what made it great?
We already covered this.
What made it great?
Can we go into why it would make it work for your secular? That's the question I ask you. You're asking me questions back. Go ahead and answer the question.
So if you're talking about secular marriage, there's never been any point to it.
I'm sorry?
There's never been any point to secular marriage, ever.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Never.
He about to make somebody
What would
mad.
ever be the point of secular marriage? It's always been a religious institution. That's what made it great. Now, when you say it's a great institution, what made it great for secularists, other than the fact that Sky Daddy and God had all these enforcement arms and those things had to be enforced socially?
And
like,
that's
for
one
instance,
of the reasons,
men were not.
and the religious backing is one of the reasons, especially that gay marriage was never allowed. The reason why marriage is sacred between men and women from the religious perspective is because men and women is the only combination of two people that can create life. Outside of that, you're just in a pretty much a relationship. So because men and women can create life, you have to give it you because you want more people in your country. That's a valuable thing to be able to replace your population. You want to have stability for those kids. So you get these two people basically in a contract, whether that be religious or by the state. And through that, you have stability for the kids, and that brings up better kids. But that's one of the reasons. It's because a man and a woman is the only relationship that can procreate, and that was the reason behind marriage for, like I said earlier, stability for children. That's why it was always exclusionary to men and men marriages and female marriages.
Allowed to run away.
It was a religious backing.
And women, right, they had to show cause for these divorces. And they had to be good causes. They had to show it for things like infidelity, right? It was all biblically governed. It was all lawfully governed by this Sky Daddy guy you like so little. But that's what made the institution great in the first place. And what you're talking about here, you're making a point that divorce is bad. And yet, I agree, divorce is bad. So what we're really talking about is how do we...
Somebody said if I get married, I'm going to slap my wife if she questions my extramarital affairs. I don't think that's how much marriage... I don't think that's how marriage works. I don't think that's how it goes. Somebody said hitting your wife is like scratching your own car. It's just stupid. It's pointless. It doesn't really do any good for you.
mitigate the risk for divorce. And we have two different methods here.
Well, the conversation is marriage good for men. That's the conversation.
But it is. We already said it's good for men. That's not even in dispute.
And now, how do we make it better since they're avoiding it? Since men or women are avoiding it.
It sounds like the thing that you think makes it bad is divorce, not marriage.
Correct.
Then we need to mitigate divorce.
We're 15 minutes in, and we are in the land of reality. You finally called up. Can you tell me how we can get to the secular marriage? I mean, I've given you a chance. So you're dragging your feet.
So again, secular. There's never been any point to secular marriage ever.
Now listen, marriage is for child creation. It would be great for child community and all of these things. And now listen, by the time the religious aspects got into marriage, they were chopping people's heads off and burning Bibles. So listen, I know we want to take it back to the past and act like the past was better, but there's always a negative part of the past. If you go back and you look at the English, this has all been there. People were getting their heads chopped off. The Crusaders were doing their things across countries, and they were spreading Christianity through threats and violence.
What does that have to do with anything?
Now, that's what you're trying to uplift. That's what you're trying to uphold.
I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
You wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
That's where you're lacking.
I have no
So
idea.
catch up. You're sitting across from me.
What does the Crusades have to do with divorce?
That was when your holy marriage was the best marriage that you're trying to go to. Now, listen.
But the Crusades were a response to Islam moving into Europe, right? Or Islam conquering Europe? It was a pushback by the Christians?
trying to drag it back.
1950s? Were we crusading
No,
in
no,
the
no,
1950s?
no, 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 no.
What the hell are you talking about?
You talked about the institution of marriage for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Sir, do you need me to catch you up on what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
but
You're having trouble
you know what
keeping up
marriage-
with me.
do you know what
You're
marriage looked
having
like
trouble
50 years
keeping up
ago?
with me. You said
I am.
2,000 years ago.
Truly,
and
your
I told
intellect
you
is
2,000
dizzying.
years ago, they were chopping people's heads off.
Which
need
has
you
what to do with
I
anything?
need you to catch up with me, sir.
Okay.
If you want to take things back to the past, you have
Uh-huh.
to accept everything as the past. You can't just cherry pick. Now,
What?
here's the thing. You're cherry picking. If you want to take things back to tradition,
Uh-huh.
take it all the way back. Why stop at the 50s? Take it back to the 1890s.
What you're saying right now is so incoherent. I actually don't even understand
Well,
it.
that's what. Listen, when you're
It's
when you're
completely
running out of bullets,
incoherent.
when you're running out of bullets,
Well, it's
the
just
last thing you do
incoherent.
is the shame. All right,
I'm not
listen,
even trying to
are
shame you. It's
struggling?
just incoherent.
I need you to catch up with me.
Okay, catch me up.
Just say you're lacking if you can't keep it up.
It's
all right,
an
now here's the
incoherent-
problem.
it's
Here's
incoherent.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem.
I don't know what to tell you.
Here's the problem you're having.
2,000 years ago, they were chopping heads off. Who gives a shit?
Listen,
what does that have
you
to do with
said
anything?
2,000 years ago. I'm coming up with yours. You're wholly religious. 2,000 years ago, it's been a part of
What
the
does that
institution.
have to do with this?
Exactly. Here's the problem. You're cherry picking.
Cherry picking what?
Listen.
I'm
you want-
listening.
I'm going to slow you down. I'm going to
Slow
slow
me
you
way
down
down.
because I see what you're doing here. I'm going to slow you down.
Okay.
Because it's hard for you to keep up.
It is. You're
I
right.
understand.
I
I
am-
understand because you
I
haven't
am
been across. This is your
bedazzled.
toughest debate. Your audience knows this.
Oh, it's rough.
There's no God in marriage
Okay.
in the United States.
Yeah.
Can we agree to that? When you get to divorce, there's no God in
we
marriage.
can't agree to that.
We need to agree to it because when you go into divorce court,
Yeah.
there's no God.
Yeah,
you
but
can't bring in your God
thought-
and your Bible. And at that particular point, none of your ecclesiastics marriage works.
Okay.
Period.
So,
Well, yeah, that's because the marriage is already over. I think Wilson's point is to not get to the divorce court where God doesn't exist because you already believe in God, right? That's the whole point. When you made your vows, you actually had some integrity behind the things that you were saying. I think that's kind of Wilson's point. That's why I feel like they're talking past each other a little bit. Just a tad.
thing is, you just said, can we agree that there's no God in marriage? And then he switched.
You don't have to agree.
But hang on, calm down. And then he switched over to divorce. There's no God in divorce. But those are two different questions and proposition. Hang on, relax. The second thing is that me saying that what made marriage a great institution is this whole Sky Daddy character, and that the institution has been in place for 2,000 years, and it's
we
been.
go,
Hang
2,000
on,
years.
calm down.
2,000
and it's been a
years.
strong institution. I'm not actually sure how tying in that at the time they cut people's heads off, what that has to do with the fact that in the 1950s and 40s, you still had 95% of these marriages staying together. This is not ancient history.
Yeah,
This is not even early American history.
Can I
That's hang on. That's in your grandfather's lifetime, basically.
It was
And
so close that part of the problem that we have with actually bringing forth equality and modernizing these marriage laws is that there are people that are still alive from a time when it worked. That's how recent it was when it worked. It's so recent that part of the problem why we can't modernize it is because there was the people who are in power were alive during a time when it worked.
By the way, that was the case for black marriages as well. Very strong institutions.
Yep.
But all of those institutions were that way.
Black marriages and the black family is what funded the civil rights movement. It funded the Black Panther Party. It funded Malcolm X. And you don't really get that type of leadership unless you have black families. The destruction of the black family is why you don't really have very much black representation. Now, regardless of if you agree with the political movements and what the political movements were actually about, I'm just talking about the representation on the forefront. We've gotten to the point now in Black America where the civil rights happened, and now everybody just piggybacked backed off of it. Like the left doesn't even value black people anymore. They know that we're going to vote for them no matter what, so they just refuse to do anything. I remember when Trump was going against Biden, and it was Ice Cube created the Platinum Plan for Black Americans. He got a bunch of black economists together because, you know, a country is only as good as the people who are doing the worst. And if you can stimulate the black economy and you get all these experts together on ways to do it, and this man comes up with this plan and puts it all together, and he wanted to present it to both of the presidents to see, or potential presidents, the candidates, to see which ones would hear out the Platinum Plan for Black America. Trump agreed to the meeting, and Biden said no. Instead, Biden took a meeting with Cardi B, who's not even a black woman, to talk about black issues. So what I'm talking about here is that black people don't even have representation at the national level anymore. We've just been kind of pushed down. A lot of the leftist movements, they said like 60% of DEI was actually going towards white women getting jobs. But when you look at who the world thinks DEI actually supported, they think it supported black people. And it's because we go to the forefront for all these movements that don't actually even support us. And I just think it's crazy. Like, the left now cares way more about gay people and migrants than they do black people. You don't even really even hear any discussions about specifically the black family too. If you do hear anything about black people, it's more concessions for specifically black women, and I think that's part of the problem when it comes to some of the families being separated in the first place. You don't really support a community by supporting the women in the community, because if you give a man $1 million, he'll say, good, I get to take care of a family. If you give a woman $1 million, she'll say, now I don't need a man. So really, to build a community, you want to support the men in the community, and that's how you really build it. So yeah. What Wilson's saying here in terms of the importance of family, I can completely get behind, because a lot of the great things that black Americans did, we did it in a time where we had very high rates of marriage. It is extremely important. Women who are in marriages are 4 times wealthier than women who are single. There's a reason for that. So by almost every metric, men and women and children do better when they're married. By almost every metric. It's the divorce that's the problem. And I do agree that there has to be something done about the divorce laws if you want men to continue to sign up for the responsibility of marriage.
Because they followed that whole Sky Daddy thing.
Correct.
They were like, oh, that Sky Daddy's going to smite us if we don't. And so what you do here is you're giving the classic progressive argument, which is, well, guys, it is true that it's a great institution, and it is true it's the best place in the world to have children for the continuation of the species. And also, it's fantastic for men's health. It's fantastic for their mental health. It's great for them in almost every way. But that divorce thing is real bad. And I counter. You're right. That divorce thing is real bad. We have now a center of agreement. But now we're going back to the marriage in the West thing, which is that whole great institution problem. Well, if we agree that what made it good, which you just did, is, hey, that Sky Daddy guy, and then I point out that right now you can still utilize that Sky Daddy guy for an ecclesiastical marriage outside of the state. Hang on. And the only thing you could do is say, well, what about common law? But you can't govern anybody from common law. And at least in the ecclesiastical institution, you have social pressures on women to stay married. You can't offer a man anything like that. Give me a single social pressure you can offer that would actually keep these marriages together. One. What? Just one.
Can I answer something
Yeah.
you just said? This would be interesting.
I can't wait.
You
No,
said
he got to answer that question, though. Wilson asked him a direct question. I wanted him to answer that.
Can you answer
19
that question then?
No,
answer?
before.
Okay.
Oh, of
The
course.
1940s.
Of course, you gotta ask me a question.
Because
before you
listen,
answer mine.
I'm listening to you. You asked the question at the end. If you would have asked it at the beginning, possibly I might have been able to address it. But let me address this point.
Okay.
You said the 1940s and 1950s with this imaginary Sky Daddy controlling marriages. That sounds like enforcement. Because by the time the
Doesn't it?
1970s came around, the very first chance women got to file a no-fault divorce without need for evidence, without need to have a private investigator to prove an affair.
Was no fault the 70s?
Yes, it was the 70s, started by Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
I'll educate you.
But hang on.
Came along. Hold on for a second. No.
Yeah.
I got the
Go
floor
ahead.
here. I got the floor. So you said the religious institutions governed it and made it great. The 1970s came along, and as soon as they did,
Feminism.
women started to file divorces at record rates, which is back to my conversation. Soon as you remove the authority of Sky Daddy, now you're back with the state. And now you have difficulty, and now the risk is now greater.
Oh.
So that's the issue that
Then
you
it
have.
sounds like men should be moving towards Sky Daddy then, because it mitigates their risk.
The courts, the nation should be
There's
moving
no
towards
courts.
that. But how do you enforce that?
What court? What court?
Your
You're
land is
not
in-
getting a marriage from the state. What courts are involved
everything
here?
you told me is a make-believe scenario.
How? You can
You're
do it
telling-
right now. How is it make believe?
How do you do that when people,
Here's
the
what you
marriages
do.
through state?
Yeah.
I know, you want to go
I'll
back
tell
to
you how.
Ecclesiastics. This
No,
is
I'm
going to be
telling
a
you, you can
problem.
do it right
Okay.
this second.
Okay,
You
can
could go do it right now.
You can do it at this particular
can't
point.
do.
However,
What do you mean?
Here's the problem.
Okay.
Can you get men to do it?
Yes.
Okay, you might be able to think you can get men to do it, but as soon as they do it, I want you to stick around for the average of 8 to 10 years when these men start getting divorced. See, what you're doing is you're leading
We've
men,
been
hold on
watching
for a
it for
second.
longer.
You're going to lead men into a burning building.
Oh.
And the reason why, and this is a famous quote by Martin Luther King, is because the laws of integration didn't catch up fast enough for what he wanted for people to integrate. And what happened was it took him 12 to 15 years to realize that he led men or black people into a burning building in which integration was not possible at the time.
Okay.
You are also proposing.
Well, the thing about Martin Luther King is he was a radical at that time. I know this is going to sound crazy to a lot of other people, but, there's a lot of people that didn't really even want integration. Black people were very dependent on each other, and we kept our money together, and we supported our own businesses and trades, and black men who were leaders were in the black communities that they should be in instead of moving out of those communities because they're afraid of danger in the community. A lot of people didn't want integration, and I think that it was part of the downfall of the black community to integrate because we started to abandon the businesses that our parents created and took our money to other communities instead of supporting each other. When we had to support each other, we did significantly better, in my opinion. But, there's a lot of people that make that up. I'm telling you, you can look it up. I'm not making that up. He was a radical. Like, people were like, who is this young guy? Martin Luther King was very young when he was doing what he was doing. A lot of the OGs was looking at Martin Luther King like, brother, look, we don't want to be nowhere. Nobody don't want us. We'll just do our little thing in our little corner of the United States. Build our little, sure it get tore down sometimes, but we're resilient people. We'll keep building that. We good over here. But Martin Luther King pushed it and, now we have it. But and a lot of the guys who were influential, the guys who made more money, who may have been better leaders, the dentists, the doctors, they left the black community and took their expertise and leadership skills with them and fled to more multicultural and white communities because when you have a community governed by just single mothers, it becomes dangerous. And so I can't really knock those men because those men are trying to protect their families, and their family as a man is your number one priority. So if you need to flee a community because it's rampant with single motherhood and people are holding guns to you, you got to do what you got to do. So I don't blame them, but I am saying the fact that those men who are influential, made money, could potentially be good leaders, had stuff to teach the kids, started to leave the communities because of integration was part of the reason of the downfall, in my opinion. But either way,
and I would like for you to stick around to see the results of what you're proposing, because eventually you would have to pay the price. How did Martin Luther King pay the price? You would have to pay the price for the men that you misled.
So Martin Luther misled men, and that's why he was killed?
I said he misled black people. You missed that part.
He
said, let me repeat it because you're slow. All right, you definitely are slow in Neanderthal.
That's for sure.
Let me tell you something.
I'm dragging
Martin
Knuckles
Luther
over
King said specifically, related to black people and civil rights, I'll speak slowly for you, that he believed at the end, he led them into a burning building. I'm going to speak slower. The reason why is because the laws of integration did not catch up with what he would like to present. Black people weren't ready to integrate. As a result, he said, I may have led my people, that means his people, into a burning building.
Okay.
I would like for you, under your scenario, if your movement takes off.
One of the funniest parts about integration that really offends people, and just tribalism in general, and how it's just such a part of and it doesn't mean that you got to be like mean or bad towards people or have like certain judgments, but it definitely causes it. But people will desegregate. Like when I go to black clubs, there's mostly black people in there. You might have a sprinkle of white folks. When I go to Hispanic clubs, there's mostly Hispanic people in there. When you go to white places, like places where it's like EDM music or just like regular, like when you go to places that are predominantly white, it has the vibe of white culture. There's white people there, and you might have a little sprinkle of Asian people, black people, and Hispanic people, but people naturally segregate, if we're completely honest. Not completely. There are always people who, go around. I'm one of those types of people. I have friends from every community. But yeah, people naturally not integrate, but naturally desegregate. Like there's just kind of like part of our tribal nature.
To see the results, because it took Martin Luther King 12, 15 years to see the results of his efforts. Yeah. You're proposing something very extreme that majority of people aren't going to do. But let's just say because you like to hide in the clouds of make-believe, if this works, I would love to see you represent these men in a divorce when they get their head bit off by these so-called women that are forced by Sky Daddy to stay in these marriages.
This is really I don't even understand how
You
to.
don't understand. I know you have a hard time understanding.
I do. I don't actually even understand how to respond to a lot of this because it's so incoherent. But I'm going to try anyway.
Oh yeah, see, this is.
So
I
let's
see
start.
this is his always incoherent when he understands. Perhaps you don't understand. That might be what it is, and it's okay to say you don't understand, and I can speak slowly for you.
I don't understand now, but I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
Dismissive. I mean, you know.
Am I tripping, or is CGA kind of just being insulting and throwing ad hominem attacks? Am I tripping? Like, there's just some things that could be avoided that he doesn't have to, like, he's adding little jabs in there. Am I tripping?
I'm going to tell you why.
It's okay. When you're losing, just say you're losing, and I can speak for you.
Let me know when I can talk
slower.
and you gas out.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So here's
typical tactic, but you can work that against these
so I still
OnlyFans
can't
girls.
talk.
Hey,
Go
listen.
ahead.
Yeah, someone said Coach Greg Adams is making a good point here because he's saying the laws of marriage haven't caught up. And yeah, it's because the laws of marriage weren't actually made for the amount of divorce that we have now. And it was made to compensate for women that were stay-at-home mothers, not women who worked. So everybody fights for equality until it comes to real equality. And 50-50 divorce isn't real equality. Women getting the advantage and predominantly getting custody of the kids damn near automatically isn't real equality. But you're never going to hear any feminists talking about that because they're not actually about equality.
Tactic against those OnlyFans girls that you debating 23-year-old ignorant women.
They're smarter than you.
But now you're sitting across from a person.
They're always smarter than you.
Yeah, you're sitting across from a person here.
Oh no,
that's looking at a Neanderthal. Say you don't understand something very simple.
Let me know when you gas out.
This is the simplest thing that you can understand.
Okay.
Your go.
Are you sure?
Please.
I can actually do it this time?
And please, put me to sleep. Please.
Okay, so
put me to sleep.
Here's why it's incoherent.
Wilson's being passive-aggressive? You don't. I mean, yeah, okay. Some people saying I'm not tripping. I heard somebody say Wilson's being passive-aggressive. To me, it just sounds like he's making his point. CGA just said something about the 24-year-old girls on whatever podcast. Some of them girls be having PhDs going up there. They're supposed to be these bigwig feminists that pay $60,000 for college. I would assume they know something. And if they go into a debate with a man who actually has world experience and they get their butt whooped, then maybe you should go back to the drawing board about a lot of that stuff you just paid to learn because it don't seem like it's actually accurate. So I'm not against countering these ideas early on. I think you're now a grown adult. Welcome to the real world. These are the real statistics. And if you're not good at debate, either get better at debate or change your ideas because they don't actually have anything that supports them. So CGA just kind of pointed out that fact that he was talking to the girls on whatever podcast. And then Wilson just said something about they're smarter than you. So it seemed like it was countering an insult. And CGA has been calling him a Neanderthal and stuff. I just think it could be avoided. I think you just stick to the topic.
And there's a bunch of this I don't understand. You keep on saying that these men are going to get divorced, and yet I'm proposing non-state marriages. How are they going to get divorced? Well, you can only say then via common law. But again, you have no defense yourself against
these are if scenarios.
I
mean, come on, I don't. Please, you said I was going to debate somebody that's going to come.
Why do you keep filibustering?
Scenario.
I
Give me a real scenario.
I let you speak the entire time.
Give me something to speak about.
Okay.
You're giving me
I'm not
an
asking
scenario.
you to speak.
You're trying to invite me to your church.
I'm
not going to your
you
church.
to
Please
listen.
give me a real scenario.
You have to shut up long enough for me to
Come
do
on,
it.
Please.
Somebody said Andrew only debates those who are easy to make look foolish. But when it comes to CGA and Pearl, he loses. I think part of the reason why it's harder for Christian ethicists to go into these debates, and this is why TradCons will never debate red pill people. This is why people like Michael, like all of those types of people who are like traditionally conservative in the mainstream, they always try to look down on red pill ideology and some of the concerns that we have about these infrastructures and these laws and stuff like that. They never want to debate because it's actually hard to debate against, because Pearl and CGA, they don't really seem to have prescriptions. Andrew's trying to give a prescription. That's the biggest difference. So Pearl and CGA is just going to basically say there's no hope. Everything's bad. Everything's lost. Hope is lost. Just give up, men. Stop getting married. And Wilson's like, but here's an alternative instead of just living a life of being single. Because I'm going to be honest here. Most guys ain't going to be a playboy at 55. Most guys aren't going to be players ever. There are some dudes in marriages don't get no play because their wives restrict them from it. I think that's egregious, by the way. If you're a woman and you sign up for marriage, which is monogamy, and you're with the man, and he's the only one that you can sleep with, you have a responsibility and a duty. But those guys who are in those sexless marriages are probably still getting more sex than the average man will get if he's single. Let's just be honest here. Average men are not just going from bar to bar picking up young girls. That's not how most men are going to live. So Wilson's just kind of saying, hey, if you don't like these divorce statistics, here's a prescription on how you can make them at least better. And so he's actually giving a solution versus Pearl and CGA. I see somebody saying that is a solution, just opting out and just not being a part of it. Yeah, that could be the case. But the issue is then you have kids being born out of wedlock and being raised by single mothers, and that's not good for the kids. That's really what I'm concerned about. We obviously know it's not good for the women, but if they've convinced themselves that it's good for them and that's what they want to do, be single because they can't get along with the guy that they had a kid with, that's, up to them. But I'm more concerned about the results for the kids. So
here 30 minutes waiting for you to do it.
All right.
Give me a real scenario.
Okay, so what I don't understand here, again, and I'm going to ask again, in your incoherent worldview,
okay, please.
You keep on saying that these men who I propose this to are going to get divorced. But I'm not proposing that they get married through the state. The state's the one who does the divorces. So the only thing you could say is that there's a potential for common law here. But that's something you yourself cannot guard them from by your own admission. The second problem that we have here is that I don't have to stick around for 10 or 15 years because we can look at the numbers right now in religious marriage for what this looks like. And here's what this looks like. If you're a Catholic, you're way less likely to get divorced. And if you're Orthodox, even less likely to get divorced. And it's because of that ecclesiastical structure. You're not ever going to be able to prevent all risks from divorce, not under anything.
Thank you, God. That's the most realistic thing you've said all day.
Yeah, but not under any system is that going to be the case.
But why are Catholics getting divorced? How do they get divorced?
They get annulments. They don't even get divorces. Okay, and it's a really long process, and it's rare.
Christians have a similar divorce rate than the secular.
No.
So they have a very close. So how do they get divorced?
I'm going to
explain.
How
do Christians get divorced?
I'll answer your question.
Please tell me, because I know how to get divorced.
So
right into the divorce court.
Yeah, I know. So because they call it a state marriage.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm proposing that they don't do that, right?
Okay, a land of make-believe.
How's that a land of make-believe?
They're going back and forth now.
Go fucking do it right now.
Please tell me what
are you talking about?
What percentage of people do this particular thing that you're doing, that you're proposing?
Why would that matter? Let's say it's one person.
Okay,
why would that matter?
It's one person. So you're taking a very small chance. You're arguing against me that has millions of people on my side.
Who are getting divorced and you don't want them to.
But you're telling me a small 20 people in a little house on the prairie that you govern people without electricity and you riding horse and carriages.
Yeah.
You're telling me this small percentage of people are going to lead a movement of doing something you're proposing here on YouTube. This is going. How many people are doing this?
Okay. Why would that matter?
It would matter because then we can use some data to determine, do these people end up in divorce?
Well, we can
more
do it.
than likely.
This is great because we can look at the data. So let's look at.
Please.
Do you want to look at the Catholic data and Orthodox data for
Yeah,
marriage?
I've seen statistics on specifically people who attend church, and the interesting thing to me is it's the more you attend church or religious services, it's the more you actually are involved in it. It's not just claiming to be a Christian if you're not actually going and doing the thing. Or at the very least, going to church or going to the religious institution where your community is supposed to be holding you accountable to being, a part of your marriage, active in your marriage. So I do think that it's very interesting that for religious statistics, it's specifically how much you actually engage with and attend your religious institutions. I think that's
talking about your ecclesiastic proposal.
That's what we're talking about. This is the ecclesiastical proposal.
If we're using Catholic and Christians, their divorce rate tends to be very close.
I'll look it up.
It's very close. Let's
not
go ahead and
Catholic.
Look it up. Hold on.
Self-ID'd Christians.
Okay,
Self-ID'd Christians.
Okay.
Self-ID.
No. Let's just put Christians.
He's like, Christian and Catholic.
You have to tell me what a Christian is.
He likes to dice up all of these people. And listen. I would love to go to your church one day. I would be a wonderful guest, and I would love to thump the Bible, and I would love to say a prayer with you. However, this conversation is entering into
Can we pull up my screen?
Very much a Sky Daddy conversation, which
it's about belief.
Who brought up Sky Daddy? You.
Yo,
You brought it up
we
about
got
the
the divorce rates
ecclesiastic
pulled up right
marriage.
here.
That's not.
You brought that up.
What is that?
So that is a religious
if
argument.
you're an
which more
atheist, you
people
should
in
be
a
able
religion-
to
Okay, listen,
contend with that.
A lot of
dude.
people would not want to do that. You're telling me a small percentage
Who
of people are going to
cares?
do this.
We're talking about mitigating the rates of divorce.
Okay,
It
now,
doesn't matter how many
can
do
we
it.
move forward from this one? We agree to disagree.
No, we
Can
don't
mo-
agree to disagree.
Okay,
I need
so you want to keep it here in your
Go back
land
to
to make
these,
a. I
to
brought
these
that
stats
up.
real
What
quick.
you
Yo,
brought it up
we
about
got
the
the divorce rates
ecclesiastic
pulled up right
marriage.
here.
That's
Wow, 19 to 25%, 75% not getting a divorce is pretty that's pretty freaking good. It's actually pretty good. I mean, nothing's ever gonna be perfect. Mainline Protestant, okay. Evangelical, okay.
You brought that up.
What is that?
So that is a religious
if
argument.
you're an
which more
atheist, you
people
should
in
be
a
able
religion-
to
Okay, listen,
contend
listen,
with that.
A lot of
dude.
people would not want to do that. You're telling me a small percentage
Who
of people are going to
cares?
do this.
We're talking about mitigating the rates of divorce.
Okay,
It
now,
doesn't matter how many
can
do
we
it.
move forward from this one? We agree to disagree.
No, we
Can
don't
mo-
agree to disagree.
Okay,
I need
so you want
counter
to keep it here in
arguments.
your land of make a.
I want
make-believe.
counter
No, I'm
arguments.
not going to argue in your land of make believe.
Yeah,
because
because you can't.
Because
You have no counter
because it's
arguments.
ridiculous. It's
You don't have
ridiculous.
one counter argument.
Here's a counter argument.
Okay, what is it?
There's no God in marriage. How many times do I have to say that?
That's an
If you
assertion.
end
It's
up-
not an argument.
If you end up in divorce court, God doesn't matter. None of this matters. That's real. That's the realest argument that you can possibly hear. Soon as she
How do
goes-
you end
hold on
up
for a
in a
second,
divorce court without the state?
Hold on for a second. Hold
How?
on for a second. Hold on for a second. I'm going to tell you how.
Okay.
In the 1940s, which you so love, I don't know why you don't live there. You look like you live there. You're dressed like you live there.
They
Here's
wore
the problem.
hoodies and
Hold on for a
jeans.
I see,
second.
oh, that pretty good. It doesn't account for 60s marriage and infidelity. I see a lot of people talking about like Andrew Wilson's personal life. It seems like 5 kids, 3 men, crazy work. Yeah, I see people talking about his personal life, but I don't really care about that. I'm more interested in the conversation. I don't like, regardless of if you've had a divorce in your life, talking about is marriage worth it is still a good conversation, even if you've been through a divorce. I mean, I care more about his points than I do his personal life, to be honest.
Hold on for a second. Here's the problem.
Okay.
These people, under your authoritative, godly marriage, still got divorced at high rates
No, they
once
didn't.
no-fault divorce showed up. It started at 25%. Then, by the time you get here, it's close to 40 and 50%. It's still prevalent. I'm giving you the reality
That's
here.
not the
You're
reality.
trying to drag me back over here to the little house on the prairie. It's not working. It's not going to work with me. How about this?
How about a counter argument?
If
Can I get one
traditional
of
marriage,
those?
I gave you one.
What?
I mean, come on, man.
What is the
Come
counter
on, man.
argument? Come
Listen,
on, man. It's not a
listen,
counter
listen.
argument. What's the counter argument?
There's no God in marriage, and divorce
That's an
court,
assertion, not
there's
an
no
argument.
God in divorce court.
God's not an
I assert
argument.
that there's no
Okay,
God
well, there
in
is a
divorce
God
court.
in divorce court. Argument defeated.
Exactly.
Argument
Yeah.
defeated.
Oh my goodness,
It's
boy!
so
All right, did you
silly.
need your sandbox outside? Did you miss your toys?
It's just
did you not get a
ridiculous.
nap?
Like,
Here's a
I
problem.
want an argument,
This is the
dude.
absolute argument.
Okay.
You're trying to drag me to church. I'm taking you outside of church. You can't combat it because you want to battle inside the church. I'm not letting you. So let's get back to the
I
state.
don't care if secularists get married.
Let's get back to the state
What do you mean?
and that divorce rate. Did you find out the numbers?
Yeah, I pulled it up earlier, but I'll pull it up again. It's up on the screen. Can you guys see this? Catholic, 19 to 25%. Mainline Protestant, 30 to 35%. Evangelical, 26 to 33.
That's
Yes.
up there.
Now, pull up
That's up there.
Orthodox.
40,
Orthodox.
33, 34,
Yeah, Andrew Wilson's a Orthodox Christian.
30. That's pretty high.
It's gonna be low.
Orthodox
I'll tell you that.
divorce
Orthodoxy
rate.
don't play.
Let's see.
17 to 20.
I see average 33%.
That's
US
U.S.
average.
That's evangelical
all adults.
Protestants. That's with the
It says
coalition
Orthodox
of all
adults
of them.
ever divorced 17 to 20. U.S.
Yes.
adult average 33%.
Yeah, so they're much lower.
It says in the U.S. 33%. The
They're
Orthodox
He's
ever
saying
divorced.
17
That's
to 20.
worldwide.
Yeah, they're much lower rates.
Okay, but you're saying that they can't get divorced. That's what you said.
Oh, bro.
You said, is that what you said?
The whole point
said
here
they
is
can't
how
get
do
divorced
we
because you're
mitigate the
enforcing
risk
them.
of divorce? You can't ever completely mitigate
30%.
it. It can't ever be completely mitigated, but you can mitigate the risk of divorce.
Okay, great.
It is lower. They're
Much
saying.
it's
lower,
lower.
much lower.
Okay, all right. So a chance of getting hit 30% versus 44%. This doesn't defeat the argument.
It does defeat the argument.
Those divorces happen in the court of law because no divorce cannot be
right.
reported in
So this
that's
is
not in the
great.
court of law.
Actually-
so what is the divorce
Yeah.
that happens outside of the court of law? If it's 33% in the court of law with your Orthodox ecclesiastic marriage, What is it outside?
Even
What is
lower.
it within that?
It's even lower.
Okay, so add that 10%.
yes. No,
now
no,
we're
no.
at 40%.
No, you wouldn't
Whatever.
add that. You wouldn't add 10%.
That's the legal
what are you
divorce.
talking
Hold on for a
about?
second. When you say a divorce, those are reported divorces legally. That means these people filed in the legal reported system. That's 30+%. Okay, you said there would be more that were outside of the door.
No, less.
Outside of the state.
Less.
No, hold on for a second.
Less.
There's additional
No.
outside of the marriage, outside of the state.
No.
Oh, there's none.
Well,
So you're
no,
saying
no,
there's zero.
Not really.
What are you saying?
Okay, so let me explain.
Please.
So that you understand.
Additional to the 33%.
Yeah, but you
That's
have
a good
to.
question.
Can you at least let me finish this time?
Please do
Good
it
question,
because
my
you're
friend, yeah.
slow.
So if it's the case, you're in an ecclesiastical marriage, you're still adding usually the state. These people are all adding the state, okay? The Catholics themselves, if you were to look at their annulments rate from the ecclesiastical authority, it's actually much lower than even the percentage that you're getting from the state because they add the state in, which means some people will ignore the ecclesiastical authority and get divorced anyway.
That's exactly what I've been telling you the entire
Nobody
time. And
ever
then what?
argued that.
Exactly. But so
We're
how do
arguing
you
about
mitigate? You're saying
mitigating the risk.
It
Mitigating
seems
the
like there's
risk.
still a risk.
No, it would mitigate the risk.
So the risk is slightly lower.
Much lower.
Okay, that's not that much lower.
It's
the
much
divorce rate
lower.
is 40%. You're talking about 33% to 43%.
No, we're not. We're talking about 20% to 35 to 40%.
Okay, so that's lower.
Yes.
Okay, that's all you got. Now, here's
That's
the
all I
problem.
need.
That's not all you need because there's still risk. How do you say
Nobody said there wouldn't be risk.
Exactly.
You
So
can't
at this
mitigate
particular
risk
point-
for anything 100%. It's not possible.
Exactly. So now why are we telling men to get married? at that
Because you
particular
have
point?
to, because everything is a cost benefit analysis.
Well,
Your
somebody
issue,
just said the conversation, the topic is marriage worth it today. Andrew Wilson has morphed it into mitigating the risk. Well, it's because at the beginning they both agreed that marriage is worth it. It's very hard to come up with a scenario where it's not worth it, absent divorce. So the issue isn't really marriage. The issue is the conditions currently of divorce. That's the biggest issue. So yeah, so
not
now they're
marriage.
talking about mitigating the risk because Coach Greg Adams, his point basically is that divorce is so bad for men they should avoid marriage, even though marriage is good for them. And Andrew Wilson's point is marriage is good for them. So instead of avoiding it, they should practice religion, specifically orthodoxy, in order to mitigate the risk, and be involved in the church in order to mitigate the risk, and just get the
your
benefits
issue
without the
is
negatives.
with mitigating
Pros
the
At
without the
this
risk.
point, it's not marriage.
It's
This is the only.
mitigating-
Hold on for a second. Can I say this?
Oh my God.
You're-
Can you
Hold
ever
on,
Matter of
stop?
fact, let me read some of these super chats real quick. I really appreciate you guys. I just wanted to keep the conversation going. The HBO, let's go. I appreciate you, bro. $2 super chat. Happy the cat. Hey, great videos, man. My dad and I both enjoy them. Pleasure getting to see your rise up. Pleasure to getting to see your rise up. Been following since I think sub 100K. Appreciate you, bro. Elton, I'm damn near blind. Let me put my glasses on. Let me go put my glasses on. Somebody said, Elm5252 said, you can't knock out the drowning person anymore. You can't knock out the drowning person anymore. We have to lead by example with evidence or no one will follow you. This is the age of truth or else. Unwanted Ghost said, why are you always spitting the truth and facts? I appreciate you, bro. Black TV said, thought you were done live streaming. I am for the most part. I don't live stream that often. This was just something I thought was interesting that I seen. And it's longer form, so why not? Y'all saying Andrew speaking from Fantasyland, but CGA telling men to not take women serious and focus on himself forever. That's Fantasyland. I completely agree with that. I don't think most men will live a fulfilling life if they do that. I think life is a two-player game and is better played with two people. And I think most people's purpose in life is to have a family that they love and care about and provide for. I don't think most people find purpose through career. I think that's a pipe dream that's sold to people so that they pay $60,000 to go to college, which is now a failing institution. I think that most people find fulfillment through family. So I agree there. A lot of men do not want to be alone. They are forced to due to the type of women available. Men with status still generally want a family. Yeah, I think most men generally want a family. Henry, that was by Henry Jones, $5 super chat. Last one. Henry Jones again. What Andrew is saying is religious or not if you don't go through the state, because then there's an unnecessary benefit for divorce for women. What Andrew is saying is religious or not. What Andrew is saying is religious or not if you don't go through the state, because then there's an unnecessary benefit for divorce for women. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a necessary
something
benefit.
so I can say
don't
something?
fully
At this
understand the
particular
super chat. I
point,
appreciate
okay,
the $5
I'm
super
You're
chat. Let's get
telling
back to
me
it.
from this point, we haven't even got to the entire marriage
Really
because you're
appreciate
still
you
over
guys.
in the land of make-believe. We haven't even got to the other issues
What's
of marriage.
make-believe?
Hold on for a second. We still haven't got to the other issues of marriage.
I'm willing to
so
get to
you're
everything.
telling me about the mitigation risk, and we've wasted too much time on it. Can we talk about the other issues of marriage?
Well,
which
okay.
are sexless
Can
marriage.
we at least wrap this up?
Yeah,
Please?
let Andrew finalize this, and then
Yeah,
we'll move
so
on to that.
the thing is like, the problem is you said it was a great institution. If you say it's a great institution, even when it was a great institution, people were still getting divorced. So if that's the case, what you're really after is just mitigating risk. And I'm giving you a perfect way to
That was a
mitigate
good point.
risk, right? And the fact of the matter is that it is becoming more and more popular to do it this way. Prenup plus ecclesiastical authority almost mitigates your risk entirely, except for common law, but you can pick the state to live in for that. And you, by your own logic, can't defer from common law either. You can't protect men from that. So the thing is like, you can't have it both ways. You can't agree marriage is good and the backbone for the West and you really like it and it's fucking great and it's a great institution, but also don't do it because it's make-believe that you can mitigate risk even though you can right this second. That's insane.
Listen,
All right, final
I'm
point.
listening.
final point. Let's get to the other risks that are associated with it. We got that.
That's
we
not a
tackled
final
that
point on this.
That is
Make the final point and then
listen,
go to
listen.
that.
I'm a grown man. I'm not 22-year-old OnlyFans. I'm going to say what I want to say. Listen to this. At this particular point,
You got
we're
me
moving
on that
forward.
one.
Listen, we're moving forward.
Okay, we're moving
At
forward.
this point, what are the other risks that we want to guard against? We got the divorce. You're going to put them on the ecclesiastic paperwork. Less people are doing that. Not a lot of people know how to do it. He just got married. He didn't do it. All right. I can almost guarantee.
Probably not.
Exactly.
So what?
So now, less people are going to do this. Not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of men are going to
So it
prepare
sounds like we
themselves to
should
do
try to
that.
change that, huh?
Exactly. So that would be
I
a
agree.
very tough
We should
scenario,
try to change
and
it.
most likely it's not going to happen moving forward.
Okay.
There are other issues in marriage
Okay, let's
that
get to 'em.
typically, if depending on what authority you go under, are still a risk for men. Yes, it's great for the backbone, but a lot of men are in sexless marriages. A lot of women are in sexless
True.
marriages. The percentage of affairs in marriages
Mm-hmm.
are still a big issue. That can't be addressed.
Oh.
Those risks are going to be tough, and now you have an issue because now whoever's
can
your
be
authority
addressed.
has to mitigate that risk. Now all of a sudden they have to govern or socially pressure the women, and that's going to be difficult to do. 20%, 30% of sexless marriages, 30% of people having affairs. This is not the
Yeah,
intent
but I
of people.
wonder how many single men are sexless. Like, what do you consider to be a sexless marriage? Like, how long does it have to be in between sex? And comparing that to single men, are they also sexless? If you're holding the same standard in terms of the duration of time that considers you to be sexless, what percentage of men are sexless? Because I seen statistics last year that came out talking about 30% of young men are virgins or haven't slept with anybody in the past year between the age of 18 and 30. So 30% of men, 33% of men between the age of 18 and 30 have not slept with anybody or haven't had sex within the past year. So would you consider that to be, sexless? Because I think, me personally, there ain't a lot of single men out here getting play. I'm going to just be honest here. Most dudes are regular guys. They not out here womanizing and picking up chicks at the bar. That's just not most guys. So if you don't have a wife at a certain point, you're just kind of like, what, beating your meat?
Who get married. So yes, we have the divorce. We set that aside. Now, what about within the marriage? How do you mitigate the risk for that? I'm assuming you're going to have the ecclesiastic come through the home and force the wives to fuck their husbands.
Oh, that's quite the straw man. But
I'm assuming.
I'll go ahead and answer. Actually, the ecclesiastical authority does mitigate against this, and here's my proofs. Proof one. If it is the case that you get married to a woman who's a virgin, but she's a virgin because she's a Christian, hang on, let me get through the entirety of the argument before you start freaking out. If it is the case,
Virgins.
your chances of that marriage ending, very, very, very small, one.
Yeah,
And
that's
two,
true.
they
True.
report that they have a happier sex life.
Yep.
This is actually the case with the decrease in body count, which generally comes with the more religious people, meaning the more that you take your religion seriously, the more that you pray, the more that you engage in that whole ecclesiastical authority thing, the less likely it is you step out of your marriage, significantly less
that's
likely.
true. That's
the less
actually true.
likely it is that you end up in a sexless marriage. You know why? Because there's a reinforcement in Christianity that men and women are not allowed to deprive each other of that, of sex, when it comes to marriage. And you find that people who follow the traditional faith generally don't. And so, yes, the ecclesiastical authority preaches that from the pulpit. Sorry, lady, you got to fuck your husband. That's part of God's law. Yeah. What do you got for him? Go out and just fuck everybody? What is
That's an interesting
what are
leap.
you going
That's
to
an
do
interesting leap.
to mitigate? By the way, you're at the mercy of the same criticism. You can't mitigate guys' girlfriends from fucking around on them any more than you could a person's wife. You can't mitigate them stepping out on them. You can't mitigate them treating them like shit. You can't do anything. At least I have a mitigation here. You have nothing. You have nothing. Just liberal degeneracy. Give me something you could do that would give any kind of fail-safe against this. One thing.
I don't know what communities you live in, but your church pastor is going to be very busy walking in all of these bedrooms, preventing divorce and enforcing women to sleep with their husbands. Now, the first leap of faith that you have, hold on for a second. Oh, I heard you. The first leap of faith is virgin. Okay, if we look at the stats, please pull up the stats of how many women qualify as a virgin.
On virginity.
You said
That's
virginity. I'm just letting you know.
Oh
you brought it up.
In America?
Now, in America, what women percentage qualify as virgins? All right, so you're going to say very few. So you know this.
7%, age 22 to 34.
It's crazy because if you look at these statistics from like the 1970s, it was like 65% of women were married or were virgins or only had slept with one partner before they got married. And then you wonder why the marriages lasted longer. Like, it's great. Like, women have just completely said, oh, you want virgins? That's just not even a thing anymore. Like, we're just going to not do that anymore. And guys, I mean, there's a lot of guys that still sign up for it. But, yeah, and even the one partner that they had was, generally speaking, the guy that they were sleeping with that ended up getting pregnant. So they did a shotgun marriage. Like, that used to be a big thing, shotgun marriages. You would, as a man, get a woman pregnant, and as a woman, understand that now you guys are together because you have to bring stability for this child. Leaving is not an option, and people would go get married because of that. So 65, literally from the 1960s, or maybe even the early 70s, I was recently looking at those statistics again, and it was saying that 65% of women were virgins or only had slept with one person before marriage. And with that being the case, it's not surprising why those marriages lasted longer.
10%.
Yeah.
Now they've convinced women that for you to be good at sleeping with your husband, you have to sleep with other guys. And really, they haven't convinced women that, but women would like to believe that because they want to sleep with other guys and then get a husband because you want to have your cake and eat it too. But that's just usually not how it works. Usually, it just destroys your ability to be happy with the man that you get because you've had experiences with men that don't actually love you, men that just wanted to have you for one night, and then you kind of get bitter. So it messes up the whole thing. It's something about having too many penises that ruins a woman's brain. And sometimes they don't see it, but over the long term, not all, but a good percentage get jaded, get mean, start saying, oh, you got to have this amount of money to have me, but the dude that you was just sleeping with didn't have nothing. Like, it just messes everything up. So it's not a surprise to me that these marriages lasted longer and people were generally happier in their marriages because the people just had a different level of morality and a different level of commitment towards the things that they said and did at this time.
Okay.
Do you know what?
Now we have.
Do you know what a baseline for an argument is?
That was the baseline.
Yeah.
You want to say now? Do we want to increase the body count?
Yeah,
I mean, because
yes,
if you're looking,
that was the whole point of the baseline of the argument.
So right now, if we can pull up how many women in Gen Z, because this is marital age women, would have a body count lower than 5.
No,
because
millennials
now
are also marriageably aged. What do you mean?
Okay, millennials, younger millennials. Okay, because there's no point in older people getting married. They're not procreating. All right, they're going to have 1 or 2 kids.
Older
that doesn't
people
help
do
us.
Procreate.
Not that much. All right, they're going to have 1 or 2 kids. All right, listen, it said in the Bible, in your Bible, it says,
somebody said women don't need to go back to the 1950s. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying women don't need to. Women can do whatever they want. If they want to like brag about being single and eventually 40 or 50 years old, single with no children, with cats, enjoy. Do that. But I'm saying to men, you have the power to date who you want and especially take seriously who you want. And as a man who makes a huge investment when it comes to relationships and especially marriage, you damn near have a duty to yourself to pick a virtuous woman or a woman that you think is going to be virtuous, especially because of the fact that she's going to be teaching your daughter how to be virtuous. So, yeah, you just don't be with those women. Let them be good for having sex like they like to do. And you as a man, pick the woman that you think is virtuous, and that's the woman you marry. You don't just go and pick one of those women who want to sleep around. Sure, there are a few of them, but that's what makes it worth it and makes it rare. And I think that if men start to marry those types of women more often and stick to strong standards that say this is what we require for a marriage, it will change, especially because the only people, secularists don't have children. That's a big issue with secularism. And that's why they have to push it, especially on religious children, because religious people are the only people procreating enough to replace the population. The secularist birth rate is like 1.5 right now. No society, and you can look this up, by the way, no society has survived a birth rate that's dipped below 1.9. You can look that up. About 1.5 is the point where you can't solve the problem anymore. And so secularist people just don't even have enough kids to support their ideology. So the people who will have kids in the future and the people who are repopulating America or populating America without immigration, of course, that's become a big issue and why secularists push it, because they're going to vote for their same policies. And that's why they want more people that's going to vote for their side to give, whatever. I'm not even going to go too far down the political thing. But what I'm trying to say is secularists don't replace their population. That's one of the reasons that the gay agenda has to be pushed on your kids, because gay people can't have kids. So they have to push that ideology on your kids for it to continue to exist. That's the thing about corrupted ideas. They snuff themselves out over time. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have a population of more conservative-leaning religious people, because those are the people that are procreating. And when that happens eventually, just straight up just demographics, just outpopulation, things are going to start to shift towards more of this. And you already kind of starting to see that a little bit. People are kind of fed up with the endless party, sex, drugs, and alcohol. They see that, especially Gen Z are starting to see that it's pretty much meaningless. So Gen Z has a materialism problem, though. But either way, let's
keep multiply, not add. All right, we're not adding one little autistic kid. We're multiplying.
That would be multiplying.
No, it wouldn't be multiplying.
Yes,
having
it would.
One little bright ass kid.
If you have 3 and you have one more, that's
all right,
multiplying.
Multiplying by 1. All right, that's
so
not
multiplying.
the answer. Okay, listen. We're multiplying by multiples. You know what I'm talking about. Now, listen.
Yeah, that is a multiple.
Hold on for a second. You want to convince me that there's going to be women of low body count in this secular world we live in to make your scenario work, to enforce women to have sex with their husband from the pulpit. Yeah. Do you see? Yeah. This is very strange.
Well, I have all the data to back mine. Show me anything.
From a very small percentage. I mean, it works in a podunk town. I don't know where you're from. We're talking about the metropolises. We're talking about major cities.
And how is your plan going to mitigate that? How is your plan going to mitigate that?
I don't know if you remember. I asked you. All right.
And I told you.
And you came back with virgins.
No.
And you came back with enforcing sex from the pulpit. Why do you only
give half the argument? That's why you can't respond to my arguments. So let's do it again. If you want to mitigate.
Force women to have loaded body counts.
You're not, dude. How's it force?
Go ahead.
How's it force?
You're the one enforcing sex
how
to the husband.
How are we using force?
How are you enforcing sex to the husband from the pulpit?
Through social pressure, doofus. The same way you would with everything.
Gentlemen, your wife is going to have sex with you because a church reverend enforced her to have sex with you.
Do you think?
Okay, please pull up the chat.
I don't think that it's because the reverend forces you. I think it's because of a different moral perspective that's deeply ingrained into your perspective of the world. You know what I mean? It's just a different worldview. It's not necessarily a forcing by the reverend. It's just you start off with a different idea of what it means to be married. They explain that to you, and you agree and sign and make vows to that agreement. So it's just a difference in worldview.
His suggestion is to have a church reverend enforce you to have burning desire to have sex with your husband.
Enforce requires force. Enforce is a derivative of force. You can't enforce absent force. No one's saying force.
This is how your sex is going to be had in his marriage. It's through enforcement through the religious pulpit.
No, it's going to be
this
the
is
idea.
2025, and we're still here somewhere on Little House on the Prairie.
If it's the idea,
I would love to have this reality.
If it's the idea that women have and men have both, that they're not supposed to deprive each other from this, because that is how they live the life of a Christian. The case of the matter is that they try to keep themselves sexually appealing to the partner. They try to keep themselves moving towards that state where they're found appealing. That's part of that. Why do you think? And by the way, you keep saying force. Can you demonstrate anywhere that I said that there would be any force involved with any of this, or that it's even necessary? Enforce is force.
Correct. That's what. So I was.
So
correct
where
by
is
using
the force? Where?
You tell me. You're the one.
You're
that's gonna
asked the question.
Wait, you're the one that told me the church reverend is going to come and force marriage.
No.
And sex.
When?
You said that earlier.
No. I said the
Enforcement
ecclesiastical authority
from the
uses
pulpit.
social pressures.
Social pressure
That's
to
not
make your
force.
wife fuck your husband.
No, you're not making them do anything.
Okay, to encourage them to fuck their
Yeah.
husband. Okay,
CJ,
Don't you encourage people's wives to fuck them?
I don't need to be in their bedrooms that much.
Yeah,
I can't force her to do anything.
if
Listen, I
somebody
can't
called
force
you,
a woman to do
if
very
a woman
much.
called you and said, "I don't sleep with my husband. He seems angry at me," would you encourage him or her to sleep with
See,
him?
but here's the thing, though. Women were never forced to do these things. Like, it was always like a social pressure because people valued family, so they just had a different perspective of life. And especially if you're religious, being fruitful and multiplying is a part of the religion, so it's necessary for you to sleep with each other, obviously. As far as other things, too, that bind two people to have more relations with each other, CJ admitted that marriage was good at one point, and it is good for men. Well, if that's the case, at some point, for some reason, without a gun being to women's heads, they were sleeping with their husbands. So why couldn't you just enforce those same ideas that caused that to start to be the case in the first place?
I wouldn't encourage her to do anything, especially with
You
me.
wouldn't
I don't mess
encourage her
with.
to do
I don't mess with married women. That's their
Brilliant.
business.
So your solution is fucking nothing. Nothing.
My solution is very clear.
What is it?
You're telling me at this particular point that you're going to enforce through social pressure. Social pressure.
That's not
Hold on for a
force.
second. Social
There's no
pressure
enforcement.
Social pressure enforces women to be very promiscuous at this particular point. Now, you're talking about 7% of the population or better, maybe 10, that are going to fall under this category, and this is going to lead a wave of women sleeping with their husband through social pressures, when social pressure quite tells them the opposite. Let me
I don't even know what the hell you're talking about at this point.
Exactly. It's very difficult. I know.
It's
very difficult for you. I know, exactly. And very nice tactic. But listen,
It's not a tactic. I'm trying my hardest to understand.
You're taking a very small scenario to make it the large scenario. When I'm telling you the larger scenario is the reality, and you're telling me
Both
if
are reality.
I do this, if I do that.
No,
this is
so
a
are
very
you.
small percentage.
You're doing the same
I'm
thing.
telling you about
if
what's
you get
happening.
married, you may get a
No, I
divorce.
said
you
when.
may, if this happens, then this may happen.
We already looked at the statistics of it likely happening.
Yeah,
so that is likely to happen.
First of all, even the
Can
statistics
you pull up
looked
the
at.
statistics again?
Yeah, pull up
The
the
marriage
statistics.
statistics, the
For the
divorces.
Christians, it's actually not likely, is
Overall
it?
in the United States. Overall in the United States.
Yeah,
So it only in order for it to work, you have to be white.
You need to break
make a
this
certain
down by
income. Hold on for a
demographics.
second. You need. Of
You want me to
course.
break it down?
So
and social
so you want to go.
economics.
You want to go. In order for your marriage to work, they have to be white, Christian.
They don't have to be white.
Make money, and then also probably
gotta
live
be
in a
white?
certain region.
If it's the
now,
case
what if that's
that-
not the case? Because in the United
Black
States,
people
I don't
can
know
have
where
good
you
marriages,
live,
what?
but in
We
the
can have
case
good
Then we
marriages.
use the apparatuses.
If you take the rest of the United States, they're highly not that. That is outside of those demographics.
And don't
so
you wanna
what if
change
they're,
that?
What if they're outside of that?
Don't
What
you
if they're
wanna-
not white
don't-
and Christian?
don't you wanna
What if
change
they're
that?
not Christian to make $100K? What do you suggest then?
Yeah, so here's what I would suggest. If it's the case that in the black community, you have more divorces than in the white community, there's going to be contributing factors for why that is. I don't think that, like, black people are just ontologically different than white people, do you? Do you just believe, like, that at their core they're just ontologically different, or do you think that they're the same? Because if that's the case, if we're equal people and equal people groups, then there must be some other social factors which are relating to this that increase the divorce rate in the black community that doesn't exist yet in the white community. If that's the case, we would specifically target those issues.
Pushing drugs into black communities to fund wars in the 60s, and then welfare programs kicking in conveniently enough when black men were going to prison at crazy rates at that time. I mean, that whole time did just a number on black families. It did. And a lot of the things that were propagated, especially the feminism, especially the abortion, which is just detrimental to the black community. Absolutely detrimental, but most black people support it anyway. I never understood why, but either way, I'm not even going to go down the line of abortion. Y'all, if y'all seen my videos, y'all know my opinion on that topic. But yeah, it was just completely detrimental. And the craziest part is usually when it comes to a sick society, you'll first see the symptoms in the people who have the fewest things. And if you look at white America now, they follow completely behind what the trends that black America was setting in that time. I think the out of wed the out of wedlock birth rate right now in the black community is like 70%, 69% or something like that. It's insane. But it's rising in every other community too, because the symptoms of a sick society are starting to affect everybody now. And so that's just the case. It's just, yeah, black people had less, and so they were affected by these things first, but now you're starting to see it affect everybody.
To prevent that from happening, right? We're going to do this across. We're going to do this across the board. Well,
okay, what would they be?
For the black community, there's a bunch. One, you have a distinction in economic certitude. The second one is you got a massive abortion rate, which is super problematic. Another one is you use matriarchal structures in the family home instead of patriarchal. Huge issue that you have. By the way, when it was Christian-based, it didn't happen. It was a patriarchal structure inside those black homes. And boy, they didn't put up with shit. Not the case anymore. So you have multiple factors here which need to be addressed. I agree with that. Nobody ever disagreed with that, though. What we're trying to do is look at the mitigation of risk, and even for the black community,
we handled that already.
If the black community moves in to these conventionally traditional churches, they still will have the same ecclesiastical authority, which will assist them in governing their marriage that white people would have, and it would still assist with the mitigation of risk. What's the alternative? It's just degeneracy, right? The alternative is just like, well, just hump them and never get married. Well, what good does that do for blacks? What good does that do? It just leads to more abortion. It just leads to more degeneracy. It leads to high crime rates, and the single motherhood's out of control. So, like, what are you doing to prevent any of that? Nothing. Nothing. Tell me what? What?
Okay, thank you. You said things that people have known for the past 45 years, but I
didn't answer the
appreciate that.
question.
Hold on for a second. Thank you for contributing to a common conversation that people know, but you offer no other solution. That's great. Now, here's a problem. Here's a problem with this. It's an if scenario. That would be great if we can go back to this. It would be great if we can go back and look at and say that blacks, when they were in the 40s and 50s, they had more stable relationships and marriages than even white folks. Here's the issue.
Okay.
Why stop at the 40s? Let's talk about 1863.
Okay.
Your tradition seems to always hit this point of 1940s where you shine this light of traditionalism that you've never lived in, that seems to be in a snapshot of something that you don't even know about.
Well, I'm going to just be completely honest here. Like, even when black folks first got out of slavery, I mean, the people that were very close to it were very resilient people. They built Wall Streets. They built black Wall Streets. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. We had one of the biggest black newspapers there. It was eventually burned down by a white mob, but these people were very resilient people, and they did a lot of building infrastructure that doesn't seem to be happening anymore because of the type of leadership that comes from families. All that stuff came from families. You don't have a community with a bunch of individuals. You need families to have that. So I do 100% support anything that can make it so that there are more families. If you want to help a community, definitely. It's really the only way. You're never gonna build a community up on a bunch of single women that have high-paying careers. That's just not how it works.
Then when I fast
You're not
forward
even saying anything, dude.
Again, you're not listening. When I fast forward to 1970, when it falls all apart with no-fault divorce, based on what I've been arguing, what happens? All that traditionalism falls apart. Why don't we take it further? Why don't we take it back to bride prices? I mean, how far in tradition you're going to go? You're only going to bang your head around 1940 and 50 because you watched a couple of movies and I Love Lucy episodes? That's not tradition.
Okay.
That was a snapshot in history that you're trying to achieve again.
So
take it back further. There's no marriages in the black community.
Let's say take it. Let's say we take it all the way back to the 1700s. Let's just say, just for the sake of it, right? And that I'm totally wrong about all this.
Just stay-at-home moms. It's not about being a stay-at-home mom. That was a very small minority of history. Women have always worked. Even at the beginning, women were a part of agriculture. Most of the calories humans were eating or have eaten throughout history was from agriculture. We were hunters. They were gatherers, that whole type of thing. So much so that now they see different colors than men. Women can see more colors than men because red, orange, and orange was the difference between life and death when you were a gatherer and women were the gatherers. So that whole women just being housewives things, yeah, that's a very small minority of history. The issue is the value of family. Women were taught, and they thought that they should prioritize family over their own individual happiness. That's the biggest difference. So yeah, women did work. Women were always teachers. They were always doctors, or not nurses. They were always in service work. This has always been the case. Women were always allowed to work. The difference is those women worked to contribute to their families. Now women want to work to contribute to themselves, to say that they don't need a man. That's the biggest difference. So it's not even just like the whole idea of a woman has to stay home and in the kitchen and the man goes out and does the job. That was the case for a small minority of history that people like to talk about. Throughout more of history, women were always a part of the work. The women worked. Women did work. They did agriculture. It's women have always worked for the most part.
For the sake of argument, let's just say.
They just value family.
What is your prescription to deal with any of those issues when you're telling men in the black community?
By the way, last point. And I'm going to rewind it here because I want to hear what Andrew says here. But you got to understand, too, when you are taught to value family, you just behave differently. You date differently. You look for different things when you date people. If you're just looking for pleasure and happiness and excitement, you're going to date a different guy than a guy when you're looking for a father to your future children. So when you date, even with the idea that family is going to be the most important part of your life, you'll choose different options. Instead of a man's money, you're going to look at his morality, because his morality is a better predictor of if he's going to stay around for your children, because you value the quality of life for your kids, and you value that over your own happiness. So when you value family more, the society just looks different versus just valuing pleasure and individualism and all these other things that women are taught to value now and that they seem to value more now. It's crazy. Like, we've gotten to a point now where people justify abortion, and I mean, that's that's kind of dark, brother. You justifying killing an innocent life because two grown ass adults decided to have degenerate sex for pleasure? You think that the solution to that isn't to have the adults learn their lesson, become more responsible by dealing with the consequences? You think the better option is just kill the kid? It's like, well, that just incentivizes more degenerate sex. That's the problem. So, yeah. But either way, it's just we've gotten very far from the idea that family is important, and we're more towards the idea that how much money you have is important, and that's causing a lot of chaos in society.
About all this, just for the sake of argument, let's just say. What is your prescription to deal with any of those issues when you're telling men in the black community to not get married? How is that going to assist with abortion? How's that going to assist with strong fathers in the home? How's that going to assist with the only demographic population which can't reproduce itself? How? Can you give me a single prescription to any of that?
Let me tell you something. I agree with you on this.
I just want a prescription, dude.
Here's a problem. I agree with you. And listen, if you had any ability to provide this prescription better than Louis Farrakhan or Martin Luther King,
does that mean no?
Give me a second. Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
These men have tried to pretty much heal this issue, and they haven't.
No, they didn't.
Andrew Wilson certainly not to. Neither will CGA. So I don't have a prescription for the black community, because the black community is pretty much doomed at this particular point. They have too much degeneracy. They have single mother rates at the 70 and 80%. But I'm going to tell you something. You want to come in here and tell me something about Ecclesiastics, and you're telling me about the reality of the black community, how to fix it. Nobody's been able to fix that community. So there's nothing you can do, and I can't offer any solution for that.
Look,
now, at that particular point, you're saying the risk is higher. It certainly will be higher under those matriarchal conditions. So you get no argument from me there. So at that point, where's your statistics lie then?
Well,
where's your solution?
So CGA just said, let me go back a little bit. So he basically just said he doesn't have any prescriptions for the black community because he's like hopeless on it. He just thinks that there's nothing you could do to better the statistics.
Of the black community, how to fix it. Nobody's been able to fix that community. So there's nothing you can do, and I can't offer any solution for that.
Look,
now, at that particular point, you're saying the risk is higher. It certainly will be higher under those matriarchal conditions. So you get no argument from me there. So at that point, where's your statistics lie then?
Well,
where's your solution then?
I'll tell you again. So I'm glad
he's going to solve the community problems here. I'd love to hear this.
Listen again. I'm not saying
the black community problem solved by Andrew Wilson.
Yeah. That says the guy who literally just got done saying, I have zero prescriptions.
Because nobody does.
Yeah,
that community is here. But I would love to hear the black community solved by Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, so let me tell you a bunch of things that can be done which will help mitigate these issues.
Please do.
The first is
that you can accomplish, not some pipe dream.
That can be accomplished.
Okay, here we go.
That can be accomplished politically, and already are beginning to be accomplished politically. The first is you have to outlaw abortion. You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
It has to be outlawed.
It has to.
And not by state where you can just go to the next state and do another abortion, right? One of the biggest problems with promiscuity in the black community is that they use abortion as a form of birth control. Same problem that you see in the white community, by the way. It's just more prevalent.
Yeah, it was a statistics, and maybe it was a statistic, and I could maybe pull it up. It was that in New York, I think this was in like 2021 or something like that, there were almost just as many abortions as there were births in the black community. Just let that sink in. Not quite. I think it was a few more births by a few thousands, like a couple thousands more, but that's not a lot when you're talking about huge demographics, swaths of people like in New York. There were almost as many kids aborted as born. It's insane to me, especially because Margaret Sanger was an open racist. She was a eugenicist. She wanted to get rid of black babies and even did rallies with the Ku Klux Klan telling them that if we legalize this thing and we get Planned Parenthoods and we put them in the black communities, they're going to abort their kids. We can control their population. And black people sign up for it and support it. I don't understand that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then they'll call you not pro-black for not supporting more black lives being born into the world. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me sometimes. I just be like, oh, so you're like supporting an idea that was came up with by a woman who's seen you as inferior and did rallies with the Ku Klux Klan, and you think that makes sense?
Black community. The next problem that you have there is the lack of religiosity, where there used to be a really strong core religious base of based black men.
Yep, that's true.
And they were
Very
patriarchal, very patriarchal. And the thing is that it's the idea of these feminist bra-burning lunatics that told black women not to be under the evil patriarchy of their men. And yet,
black women didn't get the right to vote when white women got the right to vote. They got the right to vote when we got the right to vote. So it's like, they were telling you to do all these things. And it's funny because the white women didn't even believe it. They were still getting married, still keeping their marriages together, still having their children, not aborting their children in a different time. It's getting worse now for the white community. But, yeah, they were just telling these black women to go just do anything on their behalf. And then black women was like, oh, yeah, let's just go do it. Abandon the family. Family isn't valuable. Let's marry the state, marry the government through welfare programs. Let's do that. That's a better idea. It did such a number. And I seen somebody earlier just say that, well, nobody forced black folks to do opioids when it was put into the communities. Yeah, it's like, yeah, nobody forced them to do it, but that doesn't justify placing it there. Like, you should, that isn't right either, is it? I think the people who put it there are probably more in the wrong. Well, no, the people who did are in the wrong too. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, that doesn't justify somebody purposely placing it there. That's not good either.
At this point, the men are rolling over and allowing the matriarchy to take over in their own community. Is a return to traditional church ethics going to assist that? Of course it will. Of course it will. How do I know? Because it did then, just a few short years ago. I'm not talking about hundreds of years ago.
It wasn't that long.
I'm talking about 60 years ago. By the way, there's other things that you can do too. Getting rid of EBT, getting rid of social programs which are designed to keep people dependent. These are all things which can be politically accomplished. Just like abortion, the starting of banning that was politically accomplished in our lifetime. And the thing is like, you have no prescriptions. Fuck, at least I'm trying here, man.
Man, Andrew, you are Captain Obvious. This is the obvious prescription.
Why didn't you obviously state it as a prescription?
Because people have exhausted the means to be able to do this. Trust me, there have been people way better than you that dress better than you and shave their beard better than you that can do this, and they haven't been able to accomplish it. You have the Democratic Party that is highly influential. 92% of black women voted for Democrats. That's also possibly where most of those women go to church. Most of black churches are overwhelmingly women. It's a women's club, and you're telling me about something completely obvious that everybody has pointed out for 25 years. You're not giving me anything new.
Feminism is horrible in the church. Like, we have a lot of female pastors, especially in the black community, which if you actually practice the religion and you're actually a Christian, that's just not, you can't actually have female pastors. I believe it's in 2 Timothy or something like that. But yeah, feminism has completely, I heard a female, bro, oh my God. Oh, I shouldn't say, oh my God, my bad. I heard a female pastor tell the church, and I heard a female pastor tell the church that God sent her first husband to see how bad he was or something, about warn her about bad men, and then she got her second husband. And that was like a part of the word. And I looked at my wife, I said, we have to leave. We have to get out of here. That's an insane take to be saying as the leader of a church. Insane take. And I literally in the middle of it, as soon as I heard that, I looked at my wife. I said, we have to go. Can't be in that.
This is a completely obvious scenario, and you believe that you've enlightened me over here, and you're waiting for me to give you a solution. Let me tell you something.
It's not about changing your mind.
You certainly would never do that. Now, at this particular point here, the unsettling experience that men experience in divorce, all right, you're saying you're just going to mitigate it or eradicate it. What about the small percentage of men that experience it and go through issues like high levels of self-deletion, high levels of them not being able to recover financially ever?
Yeah, somebody said here the church my mom went to been flying the LGBTQ flag out front since 2023. Yeah, that's part of the reason why men have left the church. It's because now it's just a motivational feel-good speech for women to hear to say, get through the week, God is good. Christianity used to have prescriptions. It used to tell you how to operate your life, and part of the message was you'll know my people by its fruits. When the people started to look just like the other people, when Christians started to look like and it was acceptable for them to behave just like people who weren't Christians, what does it take anymore? That's when people started to leave is what I'm saying. What does it take anymore to be considered a good Christian? You don't got to pray. You don't got to go to church. You don't got to fast. You don't even got to stay in your marriages. And so because people who claim to be Christians don't actually practice Christianity, the world can't see the fruits of what a good Christian could be potentially if they actually practiced the disciplines in the religion. Men were more attracted to the results and the disciplines in the religion. And when the disciplines just went out of the window because everybody just wanted to feel good every week and get donations, men stopped respecting the religion. So men left the church, and that makes sense. Can't really blame them for that. It was a lapse. They allowed for it to just become feel good. You're supposed to be teaching me how I'm supposed to govern my life. Avoid debt. That's a Christian message. You're supposed to avoid debt. It's not in Christian ethics to be in debt. Like, that's a good message for people to hear. You're supposed to fast. You're supposed to watch your weight. You're supposed to sleep with your husband. You're supposed to treat your husband, your wife, certain ways. Like, there are actual rules to Christianity, and if the people in Christianity were expected to follow those rules to actually be considered Christians, then maybe the world could see the fruits of what Christianity could produce. But because the Christians look just like the people in the streets and they do the same things, well, then what's the point of the religion? It doesn't even make any sense through that context. So yeah, that's why men left the religion, and you can't really blame them for that. It was a failure in leadership. Still is.
They're still going to experience this under your scenario. This doesn't disappear.
It's getting better, though. I think
what prescription do you have for those men that went to your marriage and they got divorced 33%? What do you do with these men? Okay, 20%, 30%. It still was at a high rate.
I think it would
what
even be lower than that.
You would hope so. You would hope so. But hope is not a strategy. What hold on for a second. What scenario do you have for men that you led into the burning building when they experience separation from their children, parental alienation, high levels of self-deletion? What prescription do you have, sir, that you sold? You have all the answers. Please enlighten us. What you're going to do with these men? Are you going to enforce them to have sex with other virgins that you have on the sideline?
I'll answer the question, but I want to make a deal with you that if I answer this last question of yours, that you'll actually answer when I ask you after that.
Listen, we're not in a court of law. I don't have to answer anything. I can state something.
Yeah, no, but I'm asking if we can make a deal. That if I answer this question, you'll answer my next
question that you ask me. I'll consider.
So we're not going to make a deal on that?
I don't have to make a deal. Listen,
you don't have to. I'm asking if you will.
Possibly. So go ahead.
Possibly? Okay, well then I possibly will hold the debate hostage until you possibly make a deal with me.
All right, great. So that gives me the floor.
So we'll just sit here and stare at each other, or we just filibuster each other?
Like at this particular point.
So
you don't want to.
So I can
answer it. You want to answer it,
but you're not going to. But you're not going to answer mine. I just want that clear. You're not going to answer mine after. You're just going to filibuster and stonewall again.
I ask you the question, put it on the table.
So this is pretty simple, right? What you're proposing here. Every policy prescription which is made anywhere in any nation, with any people group, from the tribal all the way to the national level, is going to be a trade-off, no matter what. There's always going to be some people who are disaffected by it in some small percentage, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. We don't run societies based on outliers. The second thing is, when it comes to suicide in men particularly, one of the best ways to mitigate that is to begin the process of eliminating deployment of troops abroad. Because one of the biggest contributing factors to male suicide, including in marriage with divorce, is their veteran status. And it's because they really depend on their family to assist them with what's going on mentally from the fact that they've been deployed in these wars. And one thing you could really do that would help that. That's what the American First policy is we want to bring the troops home, no more foreign wars. That will greatly help and aid with this problem. And by the way, policy-wise, it's already been aiding with this as Trump has wound these wars down. And by the way, I'll point out
that's a good one. I like it.
I'll point out a few more things that you can
please do. Yes.
So another thing that you can do is at the national level, right? From propaganda works. I'm sure you agree. Propaganda absolutely works.
Absolutely.
If at a national level you had propaganda, which instead of showing LGBTQ flags, degeneracy, girl bossing, shit like this, which is what you see everywhere, you had institutional family units instead. Right? And that was what you saw everywhere that you went. And that was where the social status was. At the top-down level, that would really help change people's psyches around. The same way they were indoctrinated towards the degeneracy, same way you can indoctrinate them out of degeneracy.
It's funny because that's literally what happened, bro. I remember, like, if you just even think back a little bit, and just from watching the movies and stuff at that time, you could tell that it was so forced that they were trying to paint the Sex and the City girl as like the eloquent, classy, while the housewife was just like a bumbling dummy who was just like getting abused by her wife. That was like every movie from the 1990s to like 2010, and it still is that way. It's like it was obvious propaganda to promote these women, like, oh, you go to college, you become elegant, you get this, you start having sex, and you get this job in the city, and you big wig stuff, and this is what you should be as a woman, and this gives you more status in society. And I remember that idea being pushed. And the woman who, the number one editor of Cosmopolitan magazine, the most influential female magazine in the 1990s, she said they lied about statistics because they understood that women are a little bit more influential, a little bit more agreeable, and the easiest way to get women to agree with abortion was to lie about the statistics of other women supporting abortion. So it was all propaganda. It was all propagandized. And to be honest, a lot of the women that I know that went to college, they're not living a Sex in the City lifestyle. They're managers at Burger King. They work at the DMV. They're at Banana Republic. They're not like living these fruitful, salaried, successful, passionate careers that the idea of college sells to people. We're getting older and they're childless. And it's funny because you're seeing the first generation of women when they say like that margin where 33 or 50% of women by 2030 will be single and childless. You're starting to see it now. You're finally starting. We're going to see something that is unprecedented in human history over the next 5 to 10 years. It's crazy. And it was all based on propaganda. It was all pushed by propaganda. And it's because they wanted to push women into the workforce to double the tax base so the government could tax double the people and so that they can cheapen labor. And if you don't believe that that's a strong motivating factor, look at the immigration laws currently. If you don't believe that that's a motivating factor, look at what AI is doing to the job market. If a company can make a couple extra dollars or an industry feel like they can make a couple extra dollars, they will promote social engineering to change it. Look at the breakfast is the most important meal of the day propaganda. Look at the diamonds are forever propaganda that convinced men that they need to spend two months' salary or whatever month's salary on a diamond, when the statistics show the more you spend on the ring, the shorter your marriage will be on average. So it's social engineering, and it does work. And I remember when this stuff was being propagated, and it's very interesting because a lot of the women that were sold the dream that they're going to live these high salary, Sex in the City jobs, they're getting overweight because you're working hard, you eating fast food, you're getting big. You getting big because you eating fast food and you only got time to work all day because you trying to maintain a $2,000 rent by yourself. If they do have kids, some of them be single moms, and if they don't have kids, I mean, who wants to live like that in real life? And it was propagated. It was propagated, and it's crazy because it definitely worked. It definitely worked.
It's how we got a whole nation to smoke. And it's also how we got a whole nation to quit smoking.
Yes.
So the thing is, like, there really are good prescriptions here. And the only thing I get from you...
Wait a minute.
Hang on.
We're talking about self-deletion of men.
Almost done.
Okay.
Yes. That'll help with self-deletion of men. Yes. And it's one of the biggest contributing factors. Single motherhood, another huge contributing factor. These are all things which we need to mitigate. And by the way, these are all great prescriptions. You said I don't have none.
No, for a second. That's what you said. Now, here's the deal. These are great prescriptions. I happen to live in the time that you're talking about when the FCC didn't allow degeneracy, and I was able to live through the time where they started to allow it. So I, unfortunately, was able to see a time where America was great, and now we had dysfunction. So I agree with some of those things. That took place probably 40 or 50 years. it would take a very, very
Maybe 100
unique
years.
scenario for that to occur when you have Cardi B and this type of music out here. And she's a single mother, divorcee with a man that is
Oh my
having babies
God.
with
Now,
multiple
that's a
men.
good argument.
Okay, so how?
That's
No. There are women who look up to a woman who is an ex-stripper. This is the person that the people who are supposed to be for black politics, which is the left, this is the person that instead of talking to Ice Cube, who came together with the Platinum Plan for Black Americans, where he got all these PhD black economists together to come up with this plan. Joe Biden said he didn't want to talk to him. He wanted to go talk to Cardi B, a woman who's not even a black woman, about black issues. And this is a woman, by the way, who was an ex-stripper. She married a rapper. She bragged about drugging men and robbing them for their money. She got in the marriage with the guy that was a cheater before she married him, and then when he started cheating during the marriage, she acted like she didn't know that he was a cheater. You married a cheater. Like, if you marry a guy who's an alcoholic, he's probably going to still be an alcoholic. You marrying him isn't going to change that, so don't act surprised after you did it and signed up for it, and he's the same person that he was when you signed up for it. But she ended up marrying a rapper, Offset, and they're going through a divorce now, and while still in their marriage, technically speaking, legally speaking, she got pregnant by Stephon Diggs. And that's like a idol, like that's like a boss. That's something you should try to. And this is the woman that has influence over your daughters. This is the music that your daughters are listening to every day on their way to school. And I just wonder, who is that benefiting? Who does that benefit? A woman that was caught on camera covering her daughter's ears from listening to her music doesn't mind if your daughters listen to her music. Very interesting. And that's seen as a W. There were women saying, "Oh, she got her get back because she's now a baby mother to a." She was just in a marriage with a guy that was cheating. Why'd she go out here and then break up her marriage just to be with another man that cheat? The dude got 4 women pregnant currently, and this is like a smart woman that other women should aspire to be like, right? They said that she wrote the feminist anthem that was called "Wet Ass Pussy." And I'm sorry for being vulgar, but if you think I'm being vulgar for saying the title of the song, wait until you hear the lyrics of what your daughters are listening to. It's crazy. Like, it's insane. That stuff is deliberately set out to destroy. 110%. Deliberately set out to destroy.
Actual argument.
Hold on for a
crazy.
second. No, that's something
It's
that you
obvious.
agree with. That's okay.
No, that's
okay.
an
That's
actual
okay.
argument.
No, it's an agree. You just agree. You can be humble enough to say you.
That's
agree
an
with me.
actual argument.
No, listen. You don't have to be. You don't have to belittle or attempt to belittle.
Well,
I'm here a grown
I'm
ass
not.
man.
The argument
just say
is
you agree.
propaganda
Hey,
takes
listen.
time.
Listen. Just say you agree. You want to be
It's
the
not
answer
a matter of
just say
agreement.
you
It's a
agree.
matter of
Just say
recognizing
you
that was an
agree. It's
argument.
okay, sir.
It's
I know
the
you.
only
I know you're
argument
not
you've
used
made
to
the whole
somebody
debate.
across from you. No, just say you agree. You can humble yourself in the side.
I don't agree. It's just an argument.
Listen, you agree.
It's
Be a
just-
big boy.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
a big boy.
I don't
Now, listen,
agree, but
hold
it's
on
an
for a second.
argument.
Here's a second.
Okay.
You're telling me it's going to take 50 to 100 years.
No.
I ask you about a man that's considering taking his life today.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me about propaganda machine. Okay, there are men here that are been abandoned from their kids. They've been alienated. I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about in the church. I'm talking about today.
Okay, I'll answer
You're
to
telling me
today.
about some scenario where you're going to change liberalism and bring in righteous conservatism. That's not going to work today. We need solutions for men today.
It's currently
not
working,
50
though. It
years
is
from the
kinda
turning point
happening.
meeting. Okay, at this point, today we have men that are in dire need of help.
I agree.
They're going through unsettling situations and divorces. This is who I speak to, and you keep telling me
The best thing you could do today is not change the morality behind marriage, because that's a lost cause. But what you can do is change the laws around it to make it more equal for the people who actually want equality. If you want a no-fault divorce, you leave with what you came. If you're a woman and you want to divorce your husband for anything outside of abuse that you can prove, physical abuse or infidelity, well, then you leave with nothing. That's fair. You're breaking your vows. Why do you get to leave with 50%? It doesn't even make sense. Change that law. Stop treating fathers like they're second-class citizens to their own children, like they're stepfathers to their own children in divorce court. Change that. That's what you can do now. That's what you can do now. So yeah, I'm not even opposed to the no-fault divorce. If you want to avoid, for women that are in abusive relationships, if they need to get out of it quicker or whatever, they can do that. But if you file for no fault divorce, you don't get to leave with 50% of what the man was in his goddamn retirement plan. Because then you just incentivize people to destroy their marriages, and you see that happening, and that's when you see the rates go up. When women get all the incentives, get basically paid to destroy their family, that's when you see the rates go up. So yeah, change the laws for now. And then maybe eventually the morality around it will change. But for now, humans are incentive-based beings, and all of the incentives go for women to destroy their marriages.
Obvious answers
so I
about
agree with,
propaganda
CJ there.
and changing this and going to church. This sounds great on paper, but that doesn't happen today. You don't start that today. Can you give me a one solution you got that starts today, Mr. I got all the solutions? We can start today.
Yeah. If you assist with funding MRA groups today who are trying to legislate and get legislation passed today to create preventative measures for those men today. Now, if you ask me, can you do anything about a man who might be willing to blow his head off right this second because he's already going through the events of divorce, which I had nothing to do with, wasn't there for, could never do anything about.
Nobody can do anything
Can you prevent?
about it.
Of course nobody can, but that's built
Even
into...
your righteous ecclesiastic reverend from the pulpit.
Yes, but it's built into the question. What you're building into the question is probably the worst framing ever. Andrew, if somebody right this second is willing to do something bad, can you stop them?
Here it comes. Look at the scenario.
Understand.
But your scenario is to change MRA funding when women outvote men 60 to 40%, and you have women lobbyist groups and zero men lobby groups. That's what you're telling me?
Really
We're going to change to fund MRA groups?
That's going to be the hardest part, and that's why a lot of politicians refuse to acknowledge the destruction of family through feminist propaganda and through feminist marriage laws, because it would mean losing 50% of the voter base. Women predominantly vote in a hive mind, and if you insult women, you almost automatically lose 50%. Well, in what he's saying, 60-40, you would lose 60% of the voter base. That could be a huge problem to my whole plan of changing the laws.
Congress makes the law, not the voters, sir.
Hold on. When
makes the law.
MRAs are on some terror lists. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're telling me that they're going to start just switching funding? We're just going to switch funding over here to a terrorist organization,
the thing is,
according to some of these websites.
Yeah, I would say
this is just a pie in the sky. All your solutions are completely pie in the sky.
Not only is it not pie in the sky, but I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
The least possible situation that can occur.
I'll give you an example of where it's already happened. So I would argue that the traditional churches are MRAs, that they are men's rights advocacy groups, and that's where traditional masculinity is mostly found today, where men are even allowed to be masculine. Hang on. Let me finish my point. And it is the case that those MRAs, in this case the traditional churches, already got abortion rolled back, didn't they? They're already moving these things back. They're already at the forefront of fighting degeneracy. They are also the ones who are at the charitable forefront of helping those same veterans who are blowing their heads off when the government doesn't even pay any attention to them. When by the time the government was all done doing any of these reforms when it came to veterans associations, it was those pesky old traditional churches from Sky Daddy that you hate so much. They were the ones on the forefront who were actually assisting those people and not doing that. While you asked me this question, Andrew, what can you do right this second for a guy who's going to blow his head off? Well, probably nothing. But neither can you.
Of course
but
not.
At least we could do something about that not happening to others.
Okay, so that's very easy to accomplish in red states. And red states overwhelmingly were the states that got those things passed.
Yeah.
They were already going to get it passed without the interaction of these so-called righteous individuals.
That was
hold
done
on
at
for a
the
second.
federal level,
Now
not
let's
the state level.
Through Donald Trump.
And the federal level.
Now watch this.
It has nothing to do with
California, Nevada, these are all states that you can easily drive to and get it done because they're red,
which is why we need a federal ban. Yeah.
And at
problem that a lot of people forget, with this whole thing of feminism, and why it really just can never. It really just. Well, the egalitarian principle is silly in and of itself on its face because women have to appeal to men to get the things that they want. And the biggest issue with that is this: women are powerful because they can control things without even having to move a muscle because they control the apex predator in nature, and that's men. But the issue is when men stop deeming the women worthy to do things for, they stop caring about the things that the women say that they want. And when I talked about this earlier, I talked about men or boys in the 7th to 10th grade, their statistics or their their perspectives on egalitarianism, women getting equal pay and all these different things is completely switched. It's completely switching. So when these kids grow up and they get into positions of power and the boomers are out, the ones that are holding all of these things into place because they don't understand the current issues, or they refuse to acknowledge them because they're afraid of losing the female voter base. When those men say, we don't care about you saying, oh, I'm a woman, please help me, it's over. All of the concessions, the welfare programs, women lose their ability to control the apex predator. And when that happens, what's interesting about feminism is it teaches women that they're more powerful as adversaries to men, when really it's the complete opposite. Women are more powerful when they team up with men to get the things that they want. That's when they're the most influential and most powerful. So feminism conditions women to be the opposite of what men want them to be, and women being virtuous is what makes men care about the things that they say that they want. So that's part of the reason why it's not going to work, because once the young men go, I have nothing to lose, I don't care about you crying, I don't care about you wanting to abort your kids, I don't care about you wanting these social programs for single women or and WIC and all these other things. When they say we don't care, it's over. When the young men stop caring, it is over. It's all done. And so the feminists keep pushing in this direction, but it can't really work. So it's very interesting to watch. And when the men start actually pushing back, which will happen in this next generation, from what I'm seeing, you just look at what people think in certain demographics. When you look at the younger people and how they think about these things, when the boomers are out of power, things are going to be very, very different. We'll just see what happens. Eventually, young men are going to start asking what matters more, the fact that our society continues to exist or female happiness. Because the current mantra is prioritize female happiness over everything, including keeping family together and the results of the future generation, like children. A woman's happiness in current society is more important than the results of her children. Because if you care more about the results of the children, then you wouldn't allow her to separate the father from the kids just because she says that she's unhappy. You would care more about the happiness of the kids. So what happens when young men start going, we value the results of our children and the potential to have children more than we value female happiness? There's nothing that the ladies can do about that. Once men stop caring about what women want, it's over. There's nothing they could do. And I think that's the direction it eventually goes.
Are we going to get a federal ban?
Yeah, we very possibly could, yeah.
Possible.
It looks good. It looks good,
but we don't have it today. All right, so we don't. We don't have it.
So what do you want to do?
More than likely, I'm going to tell you. You said it's possible, and I say more than possible. You're not going to get it. All right. So at that point,
that's what they said about Roe v. Wade, and they were wrong.
They're wrong today. They're wrong. Possibly, we possibly might get it, but California they're not doing it. I can drive to California right now.
If there's a federal ban,
when there's a woman that can drive it, I could take a woman to Nevada.
Yeah, but it's already decreasing the rates. It's already working. Like, what are you talking about? It's already effective.
All it does is just send women to another place.
And it reduces the amount of abortions.
It reduces it.
So significantly.
Now, that's all we're talking about, reducing it. We're talking about now the unsettling experiences.
So do nothing?
We're doing something.
Yeah.
We're doing something. I'm informing people. I'm giving people the information.
To do what?
And you're telling me a pie-in-the-sky solution that might take
Tell me
forever.
what men should do.
I'm telling you what they're doing. All right? At this particular point, this is the question that you've been wanting to ask me. All right?
Now, men are practicing indifference. They're just going, we don't care. And people have said the future is female, and now men are just going, we'll fucking find out. So men are not going to college anymore because they don't see it as a good investment predominantly, but also because they just don't care. What's the point if you don't see, like, men work for family? If men see that women are no longer having children, when they looked at the priority list for young women currently, out of 12, number 1 was having a fulfilling career. Number 12 was having children. So women are the ones that are saying that we don't want to have children, but that's their duty to society. The duty to the female duty to society is to sustain the population by having kids and repopulating. And the male duty to society is to build the infrastructure, protect the infrastructure, and be willing to die to do both of those two things. So men are doing their part. They're building the infrastructure. They got to be willing to die to protect it with selective service. But the women are just saying, we don't need men. We'll milk everything that the men around us do for us without acknowledging them. And we're not going to contribute by having children. And eventually men are just going to go, but we care more about society continuing than we do female happiness. And that's going to be a big problem for women, in my opinion. So yeah, that's women aren't holding up their end of the bargain when it comes to our duties in society. And usually the duties are around what we're the most capable of. Because men are more aggressive, we are more capable of war. We're more capable of violence. We have the duty of protecting and providing. That's the masculine duty and the burden to society. Since women are the only ones that can have children, usually their gender roles revolve around procreation and nurturing. And so, yeah, so since women are no longer holding up their end of the bargain and they're just going, we're just going to be old without contributing to society, what's going to happen is those women are going to get older and then they're going to outvote the current kids. So the kids that are going to be working to contribute to a system are going to be so heavily taxed because there's going to be more old people than younger people. I'm talking about population collapse here, which is almost undeniably going to happen at some point in America with the current birth rates. The women who never had kids are going to get older and they're going to start to depend on the state. And because they're going to outnumber the new generation, they're going to vote for more concessions from the state. And so the burden, the tax burden that our kids are going to have to endure is going to be higher because there's going to be a bunch of women that don't have anybody, they don't have family because they cared more about purses or whatever pursuit is more important than family in the world nowadays. So yeah, that could be a huge problem in the future. It will be. And because those women didn't contribute by having children or adding to what the tax base is going to be, why should they just milk all of the luxuries that they get in society without contributing to it through childbirth? It's crazy out here. It's crazy out here.
52 things that men should do prior to considering marriage.
Okay.
What it does is take it through a step-by-step approach of what they need to look out for just to detect.
What does that do?
Hold on for a second.
Right
Hold on for a
now.
second. Just to detect. This man's considering. I've had plenty of men that said they were considering marriage. They found the red flags because of my book, and they stopped getting married to a woman that eventually they saw would have been bad for them. That would have cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm doing something very positive. Now watch this.
This is
you
great.
mitigate the red flags. You allow men to understand what the process of marriage is.
Mitigating the risk.
Then you're going into possibly telling them what the state is involved in, how your children are affected, parental alienation, the odds of self-deletion, and so forth and so on. So that's an obvious
I want to make sure I got this right.
opportunity for men to learn.
So I want to get this right.
You're telling me
What
a pie in
you're
the sky
doing-
possibility of changing
Yeah,
laws
so what you're
when women
doing-
outvote men 60 to 40%.
Yeah, so you wrote, it doesn't, dude, you don't even understand the political process and how it works. Voting itself, when you're talking about...
lobby groups.
Yeah, you're
What
talking about
men's
lobby
lobby
groups and
What
NGOs.
men lobby groups? What male lobby groups do they
The
have?
traditional churches.
Okay, we're back to church again.
They're the ones
Okay,
who
we're
do all
back-
the lobbying on behalf of men.
They're doing it on behalf of the men that follow them. That's not on
It's
behalf
for
of
all men. This abortion
It's
ban
typical-
helps
it's
all
typical-
men,
It's
not some. Their charities to men who are going to kill themselves helps all men, not some.
It doesn't help all men in that situation.
Yes,
it helps
it
the men.
helps.
Because listen,
Yes, it
I'm going to
does.
tell you where it doesn't. There might be a woman considering getting an abortion, and he wants to keep the kid. He has no mitigating risk.
They're the only ones trying to change that.
Exactly. Who is?
The traditional
You're
churches.
saying the traditional churches.
Yes.
All right. At that point, that doesn't help him.
Yes, it does help him.
So you're saying at that point, it's only the traditional church when you have hundreds of female lobbyist groups and you have them out.
They're the
voting
ones
men.
combating those
And
female
that's it.
lobbying groups.
And
yes.
that's it. How are they doing? Only the red
They're
states.
doing great.
Only the red states.
No, at the federal level, they're doing great. You're wrong.
You can still go to other states to get it done.
Yes, but we've still
this point.
managed to mitigate it even in those states. It's a
That's-
war. It's a political
that's
war.
right.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
And not only that, let's point this out. Your whole solution here, I wrote a book to help mitigate future events. Oh, great. Andrew, what are you trying to do? Help mitigate future events.
Exactly.
Oh, right now, right this second, what can I do to help? Andrew says right this second, if guy has a 357 in his mouth, he's going to pull the trigger, he can't do anything. You're totally right, but neither can you by your own admission.
Correct.
So there we go there. When we're looking at the future, though, and I say, let's do all of these different prescriptions, which we can actually politically accomplish and move towards, you say, that's all fucking pie in the sky, blah, 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 blah. I ask, well, what can you do as far as future prescriptions?
And
You
I
say,
told them-
blacks are fucked, and I have absolutely no prescriptions for it.
No,
Sorry,
actually,
guys.
I wrote a book, 52 things that men could consider
To
prior
mitigate
marriage.
divorce risk. The
To
same thing I'm
find
trying
out
to do.
If they're marrying the right woman. So you're just
Mitigating
mad.
divorce
You're just
risk.
mad that I have one solution, you have another, and we don't
Mine's
agree with
better.
it. That's what you believe. I think yours is pie in the sky. So that's just.
I
your
don't see
own
how it
belief
could be
system.
pie in the sky.
When
It's
not
affecting
working.
way
You're
more men
asking-
than your book
you're
is.
Asking, no. My book actually has 15 plus thousand. You have
So?
how many? Hold on. You have how
So?
many You have how many ecclesiastic marriages that your church pastors are going to go into the bedroom and enforce marriages? You can't even give me a number.
Nobody ever proposed
you
that.
Even
You're
give me
such
a number.
a liar.
You can't
It's
even give me a
such a
number.
liar.
You said that. Give me a
Nobody
number.
said
Okay.
that the pastors are going to go in the bedroom and enforce anything.
Okay, social
I
pressure.
love how divided everybody in the comments are.
Stop lying.
All your social
Just
pressure.
Stop lying,
listen,
dude.
listen. Where's your social pressure? How many people do you have in your ecclesiastic marriages? How many people got married under that?
Millions.
Please give me a number.
Millions of
Show
people
me a
have an
number.
ecclesiastical
Can you
authority.
Type it up?
That's
Go ahead and type it up.
People have an ecclesiastical marriage. They may have a
No,
state cert also.
under your scenario.
What do you want me to type?
Yeah, we don't.
How many?
We don't
you don't
know. We don't know
exactly.
exactly.
But you're sneezing at my number, but you don't know at
We
all.
know for
hey,
sure
listen, there's a lot
that
you don't
even
know.
if it was
There's
the
a
case
lot
that
don't
you
know.
never adopted the state,
But you don't have any number.
Even if it's the
Can
case,
you-
hang on.
What's
hang
the
on,
number?
Hang on. Even if it's the case that all they ever did was get a state marriage certificate and never even followed that portion of what I'm saying, right? The number is still lower by the state's own numbers. It's still lower in
Can you
traditional
give me
churches.
a number of your marriages that you're proposing that we're all going to follow?
We don't
so
know. We
they
don't
can
have
mitigate?
polls
You
on
don't
it yet.
have a number.
Yeah, we don't know for sure.
I would venture to say it's very little, under 100.
Sure.
All
So
right.
what?
So now we got.
No,
under
it's not under
100.
100.
Okay. Certainly
Yeah,
under
somebody
100.
said here, all of Andrew, or no, I'm sorry. The people who disagree with Andrew are providing zero opposing solutions. Just let society crumble, I guess. Yeah, that's what guys are doing. That's what a lot of guys are doing. A lot of guys are just going to watch it all crumble. A family is a man's investment into society. If men don't have families, they're just going to stop building and protecting society. They're just going to have less. They're not going to have anything invested in. They're not going to care. And that's what we're going to see. And people are talking about the political aspect of this, like women having more women voting than men. And I'm going to be quite frank here. And this is going to be a huge conversation going forward. And I'm not the bad guy for talking about this conversation, because this is going to be something that women, and specifically feminists, are going to have to deal with very soon, because there's a lot of people that are talking about this now. With less men having families and having women in their lives, they're going to care less about the things that women say that they want. And the question that is being asked now is, why should men have to go fight and die in wars for policies that women are voting into place? Why should men have to go fight and die in wars? Why should men have to be the ones obligated to go fight and die in wars for things that women say that they want? Especially if these women are not deciding to have families, especially if these women are deciding that they don't like men, or they resent men, or don't care about men, or they don't need men, all these different things. So there's going to be a huge, I think in the next 20, maybe 30 years, there's going to be a huge conversation about the female right to vote. I'm just saying that's from looking at everything that I'm seeing and the discourse and how people are looking at things demographically, like the ages where they're starting to look at things differently. That's going to be a big conversation in the future. And if you don't have a good reason for why men should go fight and die in wars for policies that women are putting into place, or that vote to put into place, I guess the solution would be have women register for the draft just like men have to register for the draft in order to vote. Because the reason women got the right to vote, they didn't want the right to vote originally, because it came with the idea that you would have to register for the draft just like men do to vote. And then because women begged for long enough, guys went, because that's what guys do. They usually do things for women because we, generally speaking, love women as a whole. They was like, okay, yeah, we'll just give you the right to vote without any responsibility tying you to any of the results from your votes. And now, with the current landscape, that's going to be a big question asked. I'm telling you. People are already asking it.
It's not.
All right. I
Well,
don't hear
people-
anybody talking about it other than you.
Yeah, well, that's because you're not around traditional
Okay.
churches by your own admission. But yeah, there's
Traditional
people who have crowning ceremonies and get married
Traditional
by
churches-
churches who don't get a state cert.
Traditional churches.
In fact, there might be data on that. You should look.
please look it up.
There might be
Under
actually.
your scenario.
Yeah, under my scenario. But the thing is that
Ecclesiastic
even if we
marriages under
grant,
here.
even if we were
So
to
we got
grant,
125
even
marriages.
if we were to grant it,
Yes.
still from the state's own admission, the divorce rate's still significantly lower for a reason.
20 to 30%. Okay, so
That's
it's
huge.
still lower. It is nice.
Significantly
It would be
lower.
nice. You still have men under unsettling divorce conditions. You still have men under state-funded divorce. You
Yeah.
still have men under child support. You still have men under parental alienation. You still have sexist marriages.
2 out of
You
10.
haven't accomplished most of these things.
2 out of 10.
2 out of 10 what?
That would be 2 out of 10. It's 20%, right? It's 2 out of 10 of those marriages, as opposed to your system.
4 out of 10.
Yeah, in your
5
system,
out of 10.
In your system, it's much higher.
It's the system that exists.
No, it's not.
But you're
Listen,
telling me 150 marriages. This is
No.
all of these scenarios. And I have to be honest with you. this wasn't much of a debate.
Yeah, I know, you lost every
no,
point.
listen, much of your scenarios were make believe. To be
okay,
honest
they're all
with you, they were pretty make believe. You would have to have an extremely considerable movement to be able to accomplish them.
Like millions of people?
You would have to have millions of people to do
Can you pull
exactly
up how
what
many
you're-
Catholic and Orthodox are in the United States?
Listen.
It's my turn to ask. I can ask him to
Please
pull
do,
up the
please
stats.
do. But that's not the number I'm looking
how many?
for. That's
Yeah,
not the
it
number
is
I'm
the number
looking
we're
for.
looking for.
We're looking for ecclesiastic marriages under your scenario.
No, listen, even
That's
if it
the
were
only
the
way
case,
it works for
even
you.
if it were the case, do you agree with me that if you take the state out of marriage, that is going to assist in the reduction of
We
divorce?
can't take the state out of marriage.
Why not?
That's what you're telling me.
Yeah,
You
why
can't tell me
can't
how
you?
many people have done it.
Yeah, but why can't you do it?
Because no fault divorce, a woman can go into divorce you, even if, because you're not under her control. The
How if you're not
ecclesiastics are under
married
the
to her?
authority.
By the states, you're not married. How can she take you to divorce court? Can you
See,
explain that to me?
I asked you this earlier. Have you been through a divorce?
It doesn't matter.
That's
Answer
a
the
yes.
question.
That's a yes. So you've been through a divorce.
Why does that matter?
All right,
What is it pertinent to the
because
debate?
this is why. Can I finish? You've been telling me I'm cutting you off. You won't let me finish.
Bro, I want
At this
an answer to my
See,
question.
There we go again. Oh,
Can you
my
answer my
goodness.
question?
I mean, I can play the game you're playing.
You just
Can I-
won't answer questions.
Jeez. All right, listen. I mean, I thought you were a tough guy. Listen, under this scenario, a marriage, even if it's ceremonial,
Yeah, somebody said Andrew's avoiding the question again. It's just like what how does that relate to the debate? I'm interested to see how Coach Greg Adams maybe integrates how his previous divorce, especially when he wasn't as practicing of his religion, and that's kind of the whole point of his argument. People who practice their religion more often have lower rates of divorce, so mitigating the cost of divorce, and like just trying to change the statistics of your chances of getting divorced happens more with religious activity. So I'm interested to see how CGA makes it relevant to the debate that Andrew may have had a divorce in the past. I'm assuming he has, looking at the comments and stuff.
religious, it doesn't matter if she files for the divorce. You will still be going in court to fight that.
How
I don't
would
care.
you file for divorce if you're not married by the state, dude?
Listen,
Can you answer my
completely missing
question?
this. You're completely missing this. This is
my
what
God.
tells me you haven't been through one. Have you talked to a divorce attorney? A woman can file. You have to respond and provide evidence that you were not married. Now, you and your common law, you living with your kids, it's going to be difficult. I'm trying to give you some information.
That's
and knowledge.
common law marriage.
Okay.
That's different. In some states, there is no common law marriage. So
That's
just
not
answer,
common law marriage.
So just answer
Listen,
one. Okay.
California doesn't even have common law, and that exists. It could be ceremonial. You could get married in Fiji. It doesn't matter. Soon as you get back here, if you practice marriage, the whole institution, at that particular point, if she files, you, sir, will have to respond to that suit.
Yeah.
If you do, I would hope and pray that the judge, not God, grant you your wish. At that point, your argument fails because you then would have to say, my ecclesiastic reverend on the little house on the prairie granted this marriage, but it doesn't count under the state.
I just want to make
she
sure.
can do this, and you have to respond.
Can you
to
help
this.
me with this? Because I
I'm
am
helping you a
actually
lot.
confused. So let's say a woman and a man went out to a field and declared themselves
We got
married.
a scenario. Let's say if.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
say if a
that's the
man
one.
went out to a field with a woman and declared that they're married.
Correct.
You're saying she can still go to a divorce court and divorce him?
She can file for the divorce. You
How?
have to respond. You
Yeah,
have
with
to
what?
respond.
Yeah, what does that mean,
You're-
though? That doesn't mean
Again,
anything.
I'm informing
What are
you.
you
What does
talking
that
about?
mean? This is how a lawsuit works.
Okay,
She's
a
a
lawsuit.
petitioner.
Okay.
She files. She says, we walked on coals. We went outside.
Yeah.
This was a union. I consider it a marriage. Everybody knows and addresses us as a marriage.
Yeah.
This is in non-common law states. We receive mail at this place. We've been living under the same roof for this many years. You will have to respond to these allegations. Now, you're going to have to say on your petition, this is not true. We have an ecclesiastic marriage and a prenup under God, and we live together, but we weren't married. That's a response to the lawsuit, and then you proceed to trial and a hearing.
Is this a lawsuit or a divorce?
Divorce is a lawsuit.
Okay, so I'm curious.
Divorce is a lawsuit.
Can you look this up?
Is
Can
divorce
you
a
file for divorce without ever getting married?
Oh my goodness, you are slow. You can file a lawsuit for anything.
So then it's
So
not a
anybody
divorce.
can sue you for anything.
Okay,
Okay.
but-
So if you go into there and she
So they're just
says that-
suing you.
yes, it's
Okay,
a
but
lawsuit.
that's not a divorce. Come
It
on,
says-
dude.
It's a lawsuit.
Can we pull this up? Can you file for a divorce without getting married? Divorce is a legal process that ends in legally recognized marriage.
If you never obtained a marriage license and your marriage was never registered, summarized according to the state law, the courts have no marriage to dissolve. You're full of
Hold
shit.
on for a
You're just
second.
saying
Hold
that
on.
they can. Yeah,
No,
you're
no.
full of shit.
Listen,
they can just
they
sue
have-
you for whatever.
You said they have no marriage to the
Yeah,
to
you're
dissolve.
saying that
You
they're just
still
gonna
have to
sue you.
No. You still have
Come on.
to. You still have to respond to the lawsuit.
Yeah, but you don't have to go to the divorce court,
You
dude.
do.
No,
That's
you
where
don't.
You file the response.
No,
you still have
that's
to
not
go.
a divorce court.
That is the divorce
No,
court.
it's not. It's a
That
court
is
of.
the divorce court.
It's the
Listen.
circuit court or some shit, not the divorce court.
Listen, this is
You got
this is-
caught in 4K. You're
that's
full of shit.
ChatGPT. That's ChatGPT.
You're full
In this
of it,
situation
dude.
here, we can bring a lawyer in to
Bring
resolve
him.
this and say, can she file for a divorce? You're saying what the
No.
outcome is. Hold on for a second. You're saying the outcome, they can't legally enforce it. That's what you hope the outcome is. You hope the outcome is. You still have to
Dude,
respond.
all you're saying is that a woman can sue you for anything.
Correct.
Yeah, but that's not the same as filing for divorce
Hold on
through
for a
the
second.
divorce courts,
That's
dude.
where they would file it.
No,
would
they
file it
can't.
in-
No, they're not filing it in the divorce court.
My gosh. All right. That's where they would file it. In the divorce court.
They
That's
would
where
file a
it there.
lawsuit.
No, they would file it in the family court. Trust me. Now, here's the
family
thing.
court's
Hold on
different,
for a
though.
That's the divorce court.
Wait a second.
Family court is a divorce court.
Wouldn't you have to do that under specific criteria for family court, like a kid's involved or something? You can just
Correct. So, in this
Come
scenario,
on,
hold on for a
dog,
second.
dude. That's
Fam-
not the same
hold
as
on, hold on,
divorce
hold on for a second.
proceedings. This is
I
ridiculous.
mean,
That's ridiculous.
Listen. The family court is what people call the divorce court. There's no building
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
says
agree
divorce
with
court.
that.
You understand that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So you have a woman with children
Yeah.
that you say you're not married to. If she files,
Yeah.
you still have to go under family court jurisdiction.
Yeah.
You still have to respond
Because there's children, yes.
because there's children.
Yeah.
At that point, my point is made. She
Yeah.
has filed. They may say the divorce doesn't count.
Yeah.
But now, how do we deal with these children?
Yeah, but that was
Those
never-
children. That is a part of marriage. Did you not have children with the woman?
Come on, dude. So if you're not,
That
if
is
you-
a part of
so as long as
marriage.
you don't have children, then they can't do that.
Correct. That's what you're saying. But you're saying
No,
you're
I'm
gonna have
asking.
children.
I'm actually asking.
You're saying they're going to have children, correct?
Yes.
You're going to go to family court
Yes, you could go to family court.
if
Yes.
she files for the divorce.
Not for divorce. They could go for
If
like
she
motions
files
for
for child
support or all
support,
sorts of
any
things.
of these-
That's
that
not
is the family
divorce.
court.
Yeah.
When we talk about what men deal with when they deal with marriage and the result is a divorce, one of the things they deal with is child support, also domestic violence, which falls under the family court. So you cannot be married. Oh
you
my
have
God.
a problem here with this.
Listen,
so
that
I
can
agree.
fall under
I
the
agree
family
that
court.
if you have children, that could go through the family court system. Nobody ever disputed that,
Okay.
though.
So you're still dealing with issues,
but
right?
hang on. But that's the different one. That's different than filing for divorce. You can't file for divorce if you're never married. That's
Now
one.
you're going to
And
child
two,
support. Yes.
and hang on. Two, the second problem here is the reason that men usually lose their custody when it comes to divorce and divorce court is because women plot. They plot escape hatches. So what they do is they go, okay,
Of course they do.
look,
Yeah.
I'm going
That's
to take 2
That's
years.
the
to
saddest
make
part about the divorces to me. Is that like this lady has been setting this up for the past year and a half because she's been spiraling in her own misery. Because she thinks it's her husband's responsibility to give her fulfillment and happiness in life when, that's not the case. But either way, you just do that for like a year and a half planning this divorce, and the guy's just sitting there, maybe thinking you're a little bit unhappy or things just aren't good right now. But in marriage, there are times where things just aren't good. There are months, sometimes years, where things just might not be the best. So you're just going to work, trying to feed your family, just doing normal things, and then boom, divorce. And now you caught with your pants down, and she got all the leverage in the family court system. That's probably one of the most the worst parts about the divorces to me is the planning that it takes to really build that case before the divorce court even starts. And the incentive to lie about things happening or to exaggerate things happening because you get more stuff when you do that. And lawyers will openly tell you and incentivize you, oh, have you been abused? Are you sure you haven't been abused? Are you sure? Lawyers will incentivize people to do those things because they know that they get paid more too. They get paid more too. So everybody's in court to take money from the man. The judge get paid by the man through the state. The lawyer's getting paid by the man, the breadwinner, and the woman eventually is going to get paid by the man. It's an insane racket. It's an
sure that
insane
you're
racket.
fucking destitute on the way out, and then I'm filing in divorce court.
Correct.
You're going to get hit over the head from what happens in divorce court.
Absolutely.
Whole different ball game, though. If it's the case that you have children with a woman and she goes and she files for custody, you're actually in a much better position to get custody at that point than if it was the case that you were married through the state, dude. Much better positioned.
We don't know that.
No,
That's
100% that's the case.
You don't know that. You're guessing. Can you give me some
yeah,
data
there
on that
is
one?
actually data.
There's data on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one. Okay, go ahead and look it up. But we don't know that.
Yes,
That's just a
if
guess.
it's the case, hang on. If it's the case,
If you're not
'cause
legally
that
married.
men who fight for custody,
Correct.
right?
Yes, that's correct.
But they're in a better position to fight for custody if they're not going through the divorce court, if they're only getting motions for child support or
Well, we
child
know.
custody.
Actually, I'll tell you something. If you are not married to them, you actually fare a little bit worse. If you're not legally married, that's true. If you're not legally married to, let's just take a baby mom, baby dad situation. If he's not legally married to them, they typically fare a little bit worse.
Yes.
in custody cases.
I just said that.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
So at that point, they're still faring worse. If
No,
they're
they're
married,
faring better.
Yeah, that's another part of equality that the feminists never seem to address either. They say that feminism is about campaigning for women to have equal rights to men, and feminism in general is about women having equal rights, but women already have equal rights to men. There's nothing that men can do that women can't do, and there are things that women can do that men can't do. So women actually currently have more rights. Women can register. Women can vote without having to register for selective service. That's a right that they have that men don't have. And another big one that they're kind of discussing now is reproductive rights. A woman can kill her child, have an abortion, or give it up for adoption, and she won't even get. She shouldn't even be shamed with the idea of being a deadbeat. But a man can't sign a waiver that says that he's not responsible financially for the kid because he isn't ready to be a father. So women can choose when they're ready to be a parent, but men don't have that luxury. That's a right that women have that men don't have. And in a world of equality, men would have the ability to sign off or waive off their parental rights if they don't want to pay money. But that's not the case. The state holds men accountable because the burden of performance and the standards are higher for men in society. It's just the truth of the matter. Women are not called deadbeats for having abortions. Men are called deadbeats for not being, and put in jail, by the way. They'll put you in jail, which is a contradiction to me because if the man's the most important factor of a child's life, and we know that just statistically speaking, why, if you care about the children and if the family court is supposed to prioritize children, would you put a man in jail because he can't afford child support? Or he just don't want to pay it? Why would that be the case? So when it comes to reproductive rights, women want the ability to abort kids, but they don't want men to have the ability to say, I'm not financially responsible. So women get to opt out of parenthood with no social shame. But if a man so much as to miss the child support payment, they'll take his ass to jail, or you get, it's all kinds of stuff that go on with that. But it's a huge contradiction. And if in a world of actual equality, a man would have the right to waive off his parental rights, I don't think that should be the case on either side. I'm against abortion, but I'm also against men avoiding accountability and responsibility in that context. But if you are a feminist and you say you are for a world of equality, a world of genuine equality would be that men get reproductive rights too. And that means if I don't want to be a father, I sign a piece of paper that says I am not financially liable for this kid. But no feminist who actually wants equality, that's what they say, would ever promote an idea like that because they're not actually for equality.
Right?
if they're not married.
Yes. They'd be
Their
faring
baby
better.
no, they would actually fare worse.
How?
Well, ask any guy that's been in court. We can look at this. When they are not legally married to the woman, they go through a custody battle.
Yeah.
When they're legally married, they do better getting better custody.
Yes, men get better custody.
When
So
they're
that would be a
legally
better
married.
outcome.
If they're not legally married,
Yes.
typically they fare worse getting custody
Why?
because they're not married to the woman. This is typically it just depends on jurisdiction.
It's because of the unplanned nature of it.
Correct.
But if it's
Exactly.
planned-
but if it's planned, we don't know.
No, we do know,
The judge
actually.
doesn't know.
Hang on.
How do they know?
We do.
So now you're saying
Nope.
you're going in there
Hang on,
to
hang
use
on.
we're not legally married, but we're married.
Here's how we can logically, I think I can actually logically demonstrate this, and I think you'll agree. Okay. So the reason that men tend to fare bad in custody disputes and in divorces is because it's unexpected. So usually they're getting hit with it and it's unexpected. Even if it should be expected, because it's unexpected, they have time to plot, they have time to plan, this kind of thing.
Domestic
right?
violence
And so they
issues.
can hit them with it. Right. That's
That's normally what happens.
Yeah, that's normally.
You can't mitigate that. Or are you suggesting you
can?
can?
You can
Okay.
mitigate. You can mitigate it. Here's how you can mitigate it. If you're in a church, you have
52 things. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you have the ecclesiology, the ecclesiastic community, the community actually supports you when you're going through these problems of
They're not
divorce.
going to be in court with you.
Bro, Andrew Wilson removed the debate from his channel because if you like watch his channel, he always does that. I believe that his debates go under like exclusive content on his website or they're for members or something like that, but he does that with pretty much all his debates. And then he uploads like clips. So because this one was probably a bigger one, he probably took it off the channel and put it on some type of behind a paywall somewhere it's a little bit more exclusive. He does that with pretty much all of his debates. I don't think he hit it because he thought that he lost or anything like that. To me, it just really seems like a stalemate. To me, because it seems like they're not even talking about the actual debate anymore. The debate was, is marriage worth it? It became more about a divorce debate where it's like Coach Greg Adams believes that there's nothing you could do about the current divorce because women are in politics. They're going to vote against the family unit and prioritize female happiness. That's predominantly what they're going to vote for. So men can't do anything about it legally, and you can't do anything about it as far as religion because the religious women are still going to do the same things that the secularist women do, which statistically speaking, Andrew is combating by saying, nope, the statistics are better when you do this type of marriage. And if you go this way with a religious practice, especially if you are already a religious person, the more you actually practice your religion under the confines of marriage, the better your marriage results will be, so you can avoid the divorces. So it seems more like now about a conversation about divorce than it is about marriage, or is marriage worth it, because they both agreed that marriage was worth it because of the benefits, especially for kids. But the only disagreement that Coach Greg Adams even really has with marriage is divorce. And I understand what he's saying. I 100% understand what he's saying in terms of everything being skewed to prioritize female happiness specifically. And he's 100% right. But also understand where Andrew's coming from, because Andrew is a Christian ethicist. And if you are a Christian, which I am, and you actually like practice your religion, you go to church, you try to, and you do like you get married as a virgin and all these different things that he's promoting, you lower your chances. So he's just giving people a prescription. And Coach Greg Adams is kind of just saying, y'all just do you, bro. But for most men, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to lead to a more fulfilling life. I think more men are fulfilled through family, in my opinion. That's just from what I see. That's anecdotal, though, probably.
No, they actually help you with funding. They help you with everything.
They're not
yes.
going to be in court with you. They're not going to be.
They
in
don't
court
need
with
to
you.
go
They
to
don't have
court with you.
So
Money is the what talks, man, and bullshit walks.
Exactly. I agree with that. That I can agree with.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able to fund
that.
They
do all the time.
Listen,
they
all right,
assist them with custody agreements all the time.
These small marriages, I would love to see these out. They should do a documentary on them.
They do.
All right, so we can see.
We do have stats
but
on this.
Most people aren't under these, so we can say that's clearly the case.
But
in those situations here, under those
though?
situations, you have men that are not under this veil of, I don't know what it is, okay, that do fare worse when they're not married. Okay, that's typically what's going to happen.
Because the childbirth itself is unplanned. But if they're with a woman long term as a partner, they actually do better.
Absolutely, and I was
even
one of
if
those.
they're not
and I
married.
was one of those.
Even if they're not married.
Typically,
yes.
That's. But sometimes
So it's still
not
better
the
outcomes.
situation.
You're just talking about the unplanned nature.
Not necessarily.
I mean, mostly
because there's a lot of factors here. I mean, we can make things black and white. The guy doesn't have the ability to maintain the custody. He lives in another city.
Because
there's so many
unplanned.
other factors.
Because it's unplanned. I knocked her up. That's different than I was with her for a couple of years.
They were in a relationship. All right.
Yeah, but knocking her up usually happens early.
It could. It typically does. Because that's where men. And
Yep.
at that point, now they were raising the kid for 2 or 3 years. They were together.
But this goes
and
to
then
my
it happens.
point.
But it also goes to my point. In this situation here, right here, we have a lot of things that we like to make black or white and easily solve.
No, that's all nuanced. I agree.
Okay, very much nuanced.
Yeah.
At that point, then you're just telling us, oh, I'll just throw this aspect of religion on top of it and it'll fix it. Or it'll mitigate. It'll mitigate it. It'll mitigate it. It doesn't eliminate it. It just makes it less. You can't eliminate it.
You're not.
But even
there's never a perfect system, though. You're never gonna completely eliminate that issue. You're never going to be able to do that.
Less likely, but they're still going to go through it. Once they go through it, what do you do?
But when you said a marriage was a great institution, right? Did that eliminate all divorce?
It was very low.
Well,
about
right,
7 to
right. So
10%.
it's just you're only
Like,
talking
it
about
was actually
mitigation.
lower.
You're
It was
only
low-
talking about mitigation.
It was actually lower than the percentages that you're showing me.
I agree.
Way lower.
I agree.
Way lower.
But you're still talking about mitigation.
But we also talking about white people were least likely to get married under these scenarios too.
Yeah, well, we're still talking about mitigation.
Exactly.
And so
at
if
that
you
point-
say it's great and it's mitigating, and I say, okay, I want to move towards mitigation, we can never eliminate it. You can't hold that against me.
I can't, and you can't hold it against
I
me for
can.
telling men to avoid the situation, especially since, and I'll add this on, especially since we can know statistically women are getting married at an older age. That is increasingly high. We can look at
that's it. Yeah.
40 years ago, it was 20 years old. We can look at today, it's roughly around 28 and 30.
But there's some nuance there too. And
There's
I'll
a
tell
lot
you-
of nuance
well, hang
there.
on.
And
Here's
hold
a
on for
big
a second,
one.
but I
Okay,
was
go ahead.
completing a
Go
point
ahead,
here.
Go ahead.
Okay. At that point, you're seeing a lot of women choosing to not marry. You're also seeing a lot of men choosing to not marry those women that are older.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah, that's because of social programs, though. You take away all them social programs, man, that junk gone. Feminism is propped up. Feminism is propped up based on the concessions of taxpayers. You take away them welfare programs, man, you're going to have a lot less out-of-wedlock births. You're going to have a lot more people actually depending on each other, their communities, and marriage. Because welfare concessions is depending on your community. It's just by distant strangers because they're paying you via tax dollars instead of your direct community. You take away a lot of that stuff, man, it wouldn't be able to sustain itself.
do you get those people to have an ecclesiastic marriage?
I'll help you.
When you're telling them, these people are saying, I'm not marrying that woman.
Yep.
She's a stepmom, or so no, she's a single mom.
Yep, I
she's
understand.
older.
Yep.
She's past her prime. How are you getting that marriage rate up?
This is the
with
best.
the ecclesiastic
So I
marriage?
think that's a great question. It's one
Other
that
than saying that they got to be virgins.
and it's
'cause
one
that's not
that
gonna
I
work.
need, and it's one that I do need to answer to. So here's the answer to this. The reason that women are getting married older is because they're deferring their childbearing years for college. That's why.
That's obvious.
Exactly.
Okay.
That, I mean, literally, that's the
Exactly.
the
And
only.
that happened to every woman in my age group. Like I, went to school with people, not every one of them, but I went to school with people, ran track, did all these things. A lot of women were career focused. They wanted to sleep around, kick the can down the road because they're looking for the very specific guy that they want. And if they don't get that guy, they can fund their own lifestyle. So they're less dependent on the guy to actually be a moral guy. And so they're looking at guys that are just tall or handsome or they find attractive instead of looking at who the guy actually is, sleeping around, trying to then you get $60,000 worth of debt from college. And that's the goal of it, to put you in debt immediately, debt that you can't even file for bankruptcy under. Isn't that convenient? And so you're in this debt, and then you get out of college, and then the first thing you do is you got to pay it off. And so you go and get a job. And then and I mean, I don't know if you guys notice this, but once you get over the age of 25, unless you actively go out and try to meet people, it's very hard to meet new people, especially when you're busy, when you have to work to pay off college debt. And that's what's happening. And then now, you might be sleeping around still. Hopefully you don't get pregnant out of wedlock, have a kid on accident with a guy that don't actually like you. You getting overweight because you working all the time. You stressed out and you eating fast food instead of cooking. And you just eventually become less desirable in the future. So, there's a lot of issues with women procrastinating when it comes to childhood, which is interesting to me because you only get a small narrow window in your life when you can decide as a woman that you actually want to prioritize kids and family. And after that phase, you can be a boss babe for the rest of your life. You got like 15 years to decide if you genuinely want a family before you don't have that option anymore. And from like 35 to 70, if you want to go into a career, you want to go to school, you want to do all these things, you have the ability to do all that stuff. So the fact that people prioritize right away consumerism, materialism, taking trips, having the ability to buy a big, nice house instead of having enough children actually to live in the house is interesting to me. I don't know why it becomes a priority to do that. I guess I do understand a little bit more when you got $60,000 worth of college debt.
Reason, and one of the prime reasons that the birth rate is collapsing is because they're having children older because they defer those childbearing years.
Like I said,
for later
that's
in
not
life.
fruitful and multiply.
So,
That's just adding.
So we can
Complications,
So we can look
all
at
types
this,
of
and we can.
things.
Well, it is still multiplying.
Okay, all
but
right,
anyway,
yeah.
The point is when we're talking about, we go back to this whole propaganda thing, right?
You're not going to get a disagreement on this.
Hang on. The idea is, should we have propaganda that says, women, you go to school, we'll give you student loans, right? We'll back the entire thing for free, and we promise you a lucrative STEM career, right? When the opposition is actually true. Or do we run campaigns that say, no STEM funding, you got to pay for your own fucking college, okay? Or you can choose the more traditional path.
How likely is this to happen?
It's actually pretty likely. If you look at the idea of STEM funding for college, right? The idea of student loans and things like this, women are already trying to check out in the worst way because they can't have kids later in life.
But they're not getting married though. They're not
They
turning
do.
that
They do.
in.
They
They're
just
not
do.
turning that
They
in to
do
get married.
college first, and this is, by the way, where the body count comes from. The big body counts are coming because they spend all this time in college getting fucked.
Very
right?
obviously.
And
This is obvious. Yes.
And then afterwards, right, they get their little
That's
lucrative
exactly what I was
career,
explaining.
then they want to settle down.
They find us.
But it seems to me very obvious that if you wanted to do something about this, you would want to create the incentive for women to not go to college and instead use their childbearing years to get married, because that's what we always did.
I've actually created this scenario before, and it's very opposed to where society's going. Society
I think it's really
not
interesting.
showing.
Why not, instead of incentivizing single people through welfare programs, why not incentivize married people through giving people concessions, more tax benefits for people who are married and have kids? Why incentivize financially people to make bad decisions through our government programs instead of incentivizing people to make good decisions? Why punish families who have to pay higher taxes when they have children to feed to people who made maybe potentially irresponsible decisions when it came to their own reproduction? Like, why, you know what I mean? It just seems like it would greatly de-incentivize, or it would incentivize family more if you actually had benefits in society for having a family. I think that that's a case for, I think that's something you could do to promote more family in society for sure. Attack the court system, attack the divorce, the family court, and just make it be fair. You don't got to do it to make it in like a man's benefit or anything like that. Make it actually for the benefit of the kids that are involved in the marriage. Do that. And then, or involved in the family, do that, and then give people incentives to stay together, to be together, stay together, and provide stable environments for kids to be raised, instead of incentivizing people to make bad decisions by giving them government privileges, giving them government handouts.
That they're showing trends of this. You might have
like
little
punishing
spatters
people
here and
for
there,
having
but
a
if you have a
balanced
woman that
family
says,
and
"Okay, I
being
can't afford to
productive members
go to
of
college,"
society,
she becomes a
we are-
Walmart
Well, here's
clerk.
why-
Hold on for a second. She
okay,
becomes
go
a Walmart clerk, an assistant manager. I'm looking at those particular demographics. They're not jumping into marriages. All right, maybe in Tuscaloosa,
Yeah.
Alabama, they're still out here hoe-hopping. All right,
But
they're
here-
still finding a variety
But
of ways
here's
to
why.
work. Yeah.
So women are getting more college degrees than men because men have a viable option for making
Trade.
income, which is easy.
Trade.
I mean, it's actually harder,
It's harder.
but it's easy, and for them,
We can survive,
And
yeah.
the idea is, if you're a tradesman, you're gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, especially in modernity, because there's an incompetency crisis in the United States.
Absolutely.
So if
Yeah, I
you're
think
good
the
at what you
average
do,
age for a farmer right now is 65 or something like that, because nobody wants to do it. And so, for anybody who wants to be a farmer, oh boy, is it your time to shine. A lot of men in the past 20 years went into the white collar, and now the guys are going to start, if you focus on the trades, those are jobs that you can't replace with AI. So, yeah, it's a lot of money in there now.
you're gonna make a lot of money.
Money.
That's just it.
Women are less
And
likely
even
to
if
go in
you're
those
bad
It's hard,
at
though.
it, you'll make a lot of money. But the college thing created a situation we were not aware was going to happen, even though I could easily have predicted it, which is oversaturation. Women only go for a couple things, and they're sociological related mostly. They're not
Nursing.
really for STEM fields, and that's who's hiring is the big STEM fields. Everything else oversaturated. That's why women end up in government NGOs
Yep.
and government think tanks and
Correct.
psychologists, because the overage has to go somewhere.
Yep.
But that's saturated too. So you're seeing actually a trend begin to emerge of that trending down because of oversaturation. So if that's the case, these women don't want to go work at Walmart as the assistant manager, right? And if you had said propaganda plan, and the propaganda plan is simple enough, the idea here is just don't defer your childbearing years for college. Instead, we'll help you with incentives so that you have children younger and you
Exactly.
get married younger.
Yeah.
You will almost eliminate this entire problem. And yes, not only is
I
it
agree.
viable,
This
not only is
come up
it
with this-
viable, but we should be moving towards that. This idea that we shouldn't
understand.
get married rather than just create the conditions for which marriage is great is exactly what we should be doing.
And under those conditions, it would make sense because you're getting women that can multiply, that can
But
be.
it's only the churches that could get
Hold on for a
this done.
second. No, not really. But in this situation
Show me
here, I
anybody else who
agree.
could.
I agree with that scenario. I proposed that many years ago. However, you're gonna be hard pressed for women to actually pick that.
Yeah.
Although they're not going to college, they're trending down in college. They're probably not going to complete one of these liberal arts degrees. What you're probably going to see them do, they're still going to Coachella. They're still selling coochie. They're out here being sugar babies. They're going to OnlyFans.
Same
Some of
problem with
them are-
oversaturation,
Yeah,
though.
exactly. So it'll get oversaturated. Now you kick the can down the road to what the next thing is. I don't see the women seeing that college is prohibitive to them jumping into traditional marriages. I don't see that trend.
But that was the same argument which made in the 90s to men, that they would not that the trades are going by the wayside and they all needed to get a college degree, when in fact the opposite ended up happening. Now they're all moving towards trades in lieu of the college degree because of oversaturation.
Correct.
There's no reason for us to believe that if it's the case that women have the option and the propaganda behind it for them to get married at a younger age, right? Defer that with incentives. We can give all sorts
What
of
type of
incentives
incentives
for
would
this.
you give for this?
Oh man, first of all, you can give tax exemptions. For instance, you could say
These women don't pay taxes even when they make millions.
Yeah, but the thing that's
they don't catch up to them, but they don't pay the taxes.
They do have to pay property tax on the houses they get from their husbands when they divorce them. So
if they get married, then
the thing is what you could do is in Poland did this, and they had a pretty good degree of success, up almost 0.5%, moving and trending towards almost 1%, which is huge in such a short amount of time. They gave tax exemption, and you can pull this up if you want. They gave tax exemption if you had more than X number of children. I think it was 3.
That would be a beautiful thing to do.
Tax exempt for life.
Yes.
Now the thing is that's huge. Now, from a woman's perspective, why would a woman?
I would solve the birth crisis in America myself if I didn't have to pay taxes.
Go for that because she's tax exempt for life too. And the thing is, it's the same reason they're going to college, which is they want the money. The same reason they're selling their pussy online, because I want the money, is also a thing which you can incentivize them to do the other direction.
You could.
Because
It sounds
they
nice.
want the money.
It sounds nice, but
And it's worked. It's worked.
It's worked in Poland.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
in the places it's been tried, the incentives work.
Is that a comparable nation to the United States who highly depends on women being taxed?
Well, so did Poland.
It's not the same size.
Well, I mean,
We were a
but
very
it's
large
all-
country.
but
We're
it's
a
all-
very large
but it's
country.
all
I mean,
scalable,
it,
right?
It could be scalable.
It's all
I
scalable.
mean,
The thing
that's kind
is-
of like when people said Sweden did this and
Yeah,
talking about
but-
1 million people versus
but what I'm
100
saying
million
is
people. I understand.
We're going to look at the models where they exist
It's a-
to see
it's
how
a
they
nice model.
compare.
Yeah, 'cause
and
we
it's a
could-
better model.
Yes, it's a good model. It would be a good start.
It's a start.
It would be a
It's
good start.
something.
Could you think people would probably try to manipulate that? You said they have 3
course.
kids from the same dad or from different
You have to
daddies?
be married.
You would have to be married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this would be a
That's a
nice
nice, man.
opportunity for us to bring something that Poland has tried to a place where we don't have that same structure. They're somewhat democratic socialists.
No.
We're somewhat
Not at all. They're
capitalist.
very conservative.
They're
very
conservative,
capitalist.
but yeah, they have that, but they're also
No, they're very capitalist.
okay.
Yeah.
So, but typically we're a lot more capitalist than them. Would you
I
say
don't
that?
know. I don't
We're
know
a
if
lot more
that's the
capitalist
case.
than Poland.
Like Eastern
All
Europe
right,
has
we're-
become very, very based. Eastern Europe
Okay.
has become
all right,
very
but we
based.
can probably say 200, 350 million people versus Poland size
It's much smaller, yes.
12 million.
But that's what
All right, this would
scalability
be,
is for.
I mean, this would be the size, not even half of California at this particular point, but that you're scaling to.
Scalability works that way because
It
it's
could.
scalable.
It could.
38 million in Poland.
38 million, quite more than I thought. That
Yeah.
would be the state of California and plus Oregon, maybe, or something like that.
Well, and California is bigger than a lot of countries.
It is.
That's
It's
the case.
Fifth largest
Yeah.
GDP.
Massive.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, I'll give you that one. It's a little bit of a reach, but I'll give it
Not
to
just
you.
that. If we look at the Chinese model, the Chinese model really fucked this up. They decided that they were going to do the one-child policy. Remember that?
And they screwed that up.
Well, not only did they screw it up, but they have almost given themselves imminent doom because their birth rate has dropped down so low. Now, what are they doing? They're giving incentives for women to have children.
Exactly.
Now, we do it here, too, to a
We
limited
do that
degree
here.
with tax credits, right? But the tax credits, you're not going to incentivize a woman who can sell her pussy on OnlyFans to have a
Exactly, for way
child
much.
to have a
Yeah.
child for $3,000 a year.
And sometimes they even go on EBT and WIC, and they still use the system. So you're still finding ways where people will manipulate the system. And we're
that's the
seeing
whole
people
point.
that
We're
are
trying to
master
get rid of
manipulation.
that, right?
We would try to get rid of it. It would be a nice try. I'll give you that one. That might be a ball.
No, it's possible, and more than possible. And it's better than the idea of just continual degeneracy.
Well, I'm not promoting degeneracy. However,
Sex outside of marriage?
well, who is that degenerate to? I mean, that's your
Right.
Bible.
What's the most likely case of a woman making a woman a single mother, independent on the state? Because single mothers are the poorest demographic in America. Degenerate sex, man. People don't want to admit it. People don't want to admit it because people still want to enjoy the party, the sexual revolution, everybody sleeping with each other. What's the number one reason for guys ending up paying all this child support and ending up dealing with a woman that they don't actually like? for life because they got her pregnant and she refused to get the abortion. Degenerate sex. It's not only harmful to women, it's harmful to men too. There's a lot of dudes that stuck with a woman that they don't even like. They don't value their character. They don't think that they're even a good person, and now they're stuck with co-parenting with this person for the rest of their lives because they wanted to bust it. They wanted to bust. It's the truth. It's the truth.
So
I mean, most of your Christians, your traditional. Hold on for a second. Most of your traditional Christian women that are getting married to these simps are blindsided, typically by women that were promiscuous.
Sounds like
so
sex
that
out of
sounds like
marriage is
normal.
good.
So
sounds like sex out of marriage is bad.
It sounds like it's really bad, but
Yeah.
those are your women you're trying to marry, not the virgins that we're going to have.
You think
or
that
the
this is
overwhelming-
mitigated by you being a secularist versus a Christian? Give me a break.
I mean, you're not
If
going to
you're-
mitigate women throwing their pussy around the internet or
Yeah,
pining around the
well,
road. You can hardly mitigate that. I mean, you haven't done anything at this particular
You
point.
could just you could not even criminalize it, just make it illegal or heavily taxed. Man, OnlyFans models should be taxed at 80%. You ain't doing nothing for society. I be out here working hard, talking trash on live, and I'm getting taxed like we shouldn't be taxed equally. I got a family. You just want to bust it open. Tax them 80%. We'll solve the U.S. debt problem tomorrow.
busting it wide open on OnlyFans.
Yeah, we can put
right, these are the church
OnlyFans.
women.
You can outlaw OnlyFans.
I mean, every one of your scenarios is
Get free
a
healthcare.
big,
Yeah, you get free
big
healthcare
major
off that money.
swing at. They're not happening. All right, it's not happening.
Do you know that the
they're not
people versus
outlawing
Larry,
anything.
the people versus Larry Flint was not long ago when
Mm-hmm.
the normalization of the porn used to be outlawed. Okay,
Yeah.
it used to be
Mostly, yeah.
outlawed all over the United States, and
Yeah.
guess what? The effects that it had on the psychology of men and the effects it had on marriage were negligible. You could still get it to some degree underground,
Right.
But it was tough and it was illegal. Why do you think?
And people still went to the.
Why do you
they
think
went
it
to
is-
that they? I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
this. If you're old enough, they
Go
still
ahead.
went to that VHS area or the area of the magazine.
That was after
they drew
Larry
the
Flint.
All right, but that was a result.
But either way, like a solution to it isn't like make it legal. You're supposed to have to do things that are illegal in secret and private. Yeah, people are still going to do them, but making them legal makes more people do them probably because more people have access to it. Now it's to the point where it's right on your cell phone, and a 12-year-old who's going through puberty just has to click I am 18 and use a VPN. And he sees more naked women than King Solomon. I heard somebody say that. He gets to see more naked women than King Solomon, and he ain't even got hair on his legs yet. I don't think that that's probably better than it not being available and having to go to like a back alley to get a DVD from a man in a trench coat. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There are a lot of things like, never mind. But it's just it is okay.
That was kind of one
That
of the
was
things
after
they
they
said.
legalized it. Before
Exactly.
they legalized it, those sections didn't exist.
Exactly. So now it's wide and open. It's in the open.
Yeah, so
now,
we need to
where we at?
eliminate it. Yes, we
didn't eliminate Playboy and Penthouse.
That's
It
after
still
Larry
exists.
Flint. Larry Flint
It's-
was Penthouse.
I understand that, but it's still here. I mean,
yeah,
he didn't
he
get
won
rid
the
of
case.
It. Correct.
But
so
we
there
can
you're,
we're
how you going to beat
unwinding.
OnlyFans?
We're unwinding.
Did you know that not maybe even OnlyFans too? But I know that for sure Pornhub is owned by a rabbi, and they track your data and sell it.
And have been unwinding. That's
Again,
what Roe
you're
v.
trying
Wade
to-
was. The
right,
idea
you're
of
try-
Roe v. Wade was
By
to
the time
unwind.
you beat OnlyFans, the damage is done. I'm gonna just let you know.
Yeah, you know what?
Right, the
That's-
damage is pretty
it's
much
really
done. That
funny.
would
It's
take
like,
30 or 40 years.
okay,
to
well,
defeat
after
that.
a war, the damage is done. It might take 30 or 40 years, but you know what? The thing is we don't quit because it might take some time.
I didn't ask you to quit. What I'm asking you is, you're trying to solve the problem today of getting traditional.
Both. Both.
Traditional.
Today, tomorrow.
I understand that. Tomorrow will be a better day, but at this point, you're looking at traditional conservative women that have thrown their punanis out. Some
Sure.
of them are single moms.
Well, they're not traditional.
Someone just said, how about this? Just live your own life. All this ends. That's facts. It's not. You can't just live your life in servitude to your own desires. We're social beings and we depend on each other. And if individuals are choosing to make shit decisions because they're prioritizing what they want over what's good for society, then you're going to have a shit society, because a society is the sum of the people in the society. So this whole live and let live mentality that actually led to all this stuff happening, the degeneracy and the porn being everywhere and the access to sports betting and gambling being everywhere and all these just different things that have become legalized to pretty much sedate young men so that they don't get angry at their current circumstances. That comes from a live and let live mentality. But we have a obligation to each other. We're connected to each other in ways. We are united in raising the next generation in some ways. So like, yeah, you can't just have a live and let live idea. You're gonna get the society that we're going towards now.
All right,
But yeah.
again, they're not. But this exists, and unfortunately, the traditional conservative movement, or
And it's full of feminists,
women,
I agree.
Yeah, these women come in as feminists,
Yep.
liberals, and they cosplay, trick these men into marriages, say that they're going to marry them, not in the secular, and then they follow you, and then they run right back to the court.
no,
Now,
the
this
opposite.
does happen quite a bit, even
Not
in the
from
Christian
no,
church.
Not from us.
Well, I don't know how many you are. We still haven't determined.
But the thing is funny.
This still happens. So a lot of men get caught off guard because they see her thumping a Bible. Oh, she's one of us. And these women have figured out how to cosplay.
And again, I think this is a good question, right? And notice I've answered all of yours. You haven't answered any of
we
mine.
don't,
But
we don't need 1960s. Somebody said 1960s is not coming back. You don't need 1960s to make a comeback. You just need people to value family and the results and prioritize doing the things that make the best results for the future generation, because you actually have a sense of care for the future. That's all you need. You need people that have hope in human potential, not people who believe that you should just be able to snuff out human potential because a grown-ass adult woman decided to sleep with the man when she wasn't financially prepared. You need people who have hope. You need people who have that believe in something, even if it's just humanity in and of itself. Like you need those things. You need those things. You don't need the 1950s to come back. You just need women to care about family. Women can be in the workforce. Why not? I'd argue that it damn near takes 2 incomes now to survive. So it's not a problem that women are in the workforce. It's a problem that women are in the workforce in order to not prioritize family and children. That's the issue. If they were using their work money to value family and contribute to their family, that'd be different. And that's what women used to do in the past. Now they're using their money to drink margaritas on random beaches and then try to use a man and then shoot a buzzer beater at the age of 30 to use a man as a retirement plan. That's the issue. It's a lack of values for family.
When
thing
did
is,
I answer?
yeah, can I ask a
Back
couple?
1960s.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the progressive mantra is that sexual liberation, this is what feminism was based around, was sexual liberation. That was the big one.
Correct.
That their bodies were being controlled, not just from abortion, but from who they chose to have sex with because they were attracted to them, this and that. Marriage was a complete trap for women. It was self-destructive to them, this and that. What is the distinction in your message in that one to men?
What's my message?
Well, it seems to me that your message is that marriage is simply too dangerous, and that if you want to sleep with women outside of it,
Somebody said hope is not a winning strategy. Yeah, but not having any hope certainly isn't. And it's not just based around hope. It's based around the ideas that if propaganda got us into this situation, you can revert that. And it will happen. It's just sheer demographics. Christians are going to have more kids than secularists. Secularists can't replace themselves, so people in the future are going to have more Christian perspectives and perspectives that come from Islam too, because they have a lot of kids in America too. But predominantly Christians have more children because there are just more Christians in America. So they have more kids. So yeah, it's not just about hope. It's not only about hope. There are other things you could do. You could attack the family court system. We already mentioned a lot of these things. It's not just about hope, but hope is a starting point. You can't just have a hopelessness towards it and hope that it's just, and then in that case, you're just hoping that it changes itself. Or you're just saying that it's never going to change, and that's just defeatist. Yeah, you ain't got to rely on hope, but not having any hope certainly isn't the solution either.
fine, and it's actually liberating for you because you're moving away from the trappings of marriage itself.
And it would be safer.
Hang on.
Yeah.
That seemed like the same exact message that we got in the 70s from feminists.
If you frame it that way, it would be.
Yeah, you can't.
So you're a
it's just two
feminist?
You can't fix people that don't want to be fixed, but you don't need to fix people. You just need to surround yourself with people who already think of and see the world in a certain way. All these hoes out here, you don't got to fix them, and you shouldn't fix them. You shouldn't. You don't have to convince a woman that's been taught to not value family to want a family. She's not going to value family. If a woman believes that being a mother and a wife is lesser than being in the workforce, she's not going to value her position and her duties in that role. You don't have to convince those types of women to do anything. Let them go out. Like I said, with the demographics, they're burning themselves out. It's over. It's not sustainable over time. So no, you don't have to save them. You don't have to change their minds about anything. Just let them live and die. And it might take more time than just our generation, but I mean, it is what it is. That's just the direction that it's going.
Oh, for a second, it would be two different outcomes.
You're
protecting.
As a man, your duty is to. There's a difference between being useful and being used. And as a man, your duty is to find a woman of virtue to be virtuous towards. A woman who is not virtuous does not deserve a virtuous man. The issue with modernity is there are women who do not believe in traditionalism when it comes to the female perspective, but they believe in it when it comes to the male perspective. So they think that they don't have to be virtuous women, but they get a virtuous man, and that idea is collapsing because a lot of those women who believe that are not getting virtuous men. They're not getting men at all. Maybe they don't want the men that they have to offer, but either way, the point that I'm making is that they're not going to be able to sustain themselves because they can't even replace themselves. They don't, So
wealth, access to children. You're actually being able to control who has your children.
That's what they wanted.
Exactly. Well, no, they want to be able to kill their children and abort them.
They wanted to be able to determine what happened with their children.
We're trying to figure out where we have the control legally. They're having the control over their body. These are two different. These are two different outcomes.
So what's the
legal
delineating
outcome
factor?
Is what the men are trying to figure
from
out.
a 1970s feminist to your messaging right now, what is the difference?
They're trying to control their bodies.
So are you.
I'm trying to control legally, financially. These are two different things.
Those are your body outcomes. You're controlling your bodies.
No. Don't just make it a body.
It's the same thing.
It's financial. These aren't not my
bodies.
body.
That's the same arguments they made. It's financial.
No. You're trying to make it the same. I know you're trying to. No. You're trying to cram that in. Oh, finances is your body. I'm trying to control the legal outcomes.
So were
related to that. Related to finances. Not related to me being liberated and sleep with who I want to. The first goal was to control what happens to me financially. It was never the goal for men to avoid marriage, to sleep around. That's the feminist goal. Those are two different things.
They make the same claim. They make the same claim. Their claim
never was financially.
We're not telling women that they need to go sleep around.
Those are two different things.
We're not telling women they need to go sleep around. We're just telling them they can if they want to. Isn't that the same as your message?
If they want to. Some men don't sleep around.
Yeah.
Some men don't sleep around.
It's just feminism for men, dude.
No, that's what you want to call it.
There's no prescriptions. It's just feminism for men.
How's that not a prescription? I get to control who I'm with. I get to control where the law is.
Hold
on for a second. And I get to control where my finances are, not the state.
Said the feminist.
No. That's not. No. That's not. It's not the woman's finances.
We don't have a bank account. We can't decide what to vote. We can't decide what to do with our children. We're men's property. It's the same shit.
That's a secondary issue.
Oh,
that is a secondary issue. You tried to compare it and then say finances is body. I mean, come on,
That's
man.
what
I mean,
they were fighting.
You're really trying to cram this.
They were like, we want credit cards.
Narrative.
We want to be able to control our bank accounts. We want to be able to control our finance.
That's very much a secondary, tertiary issue. We're talking about what you framed it as.
It's the primary issue.
The primary issue for me is finances. It's not to sleep around. All right, that would be two different things. But I'm not maintaining my independence and staying single so I can sleep around. That's not the primary issue.
I understand.
It is for finances. So those are two different arguments.
No, they're not.
You want to make it the same for you? Go ahead.
Let me give the explanation.
Please.
If every single argument you make, even if you say these ones over here are tangential, but I agree with them, is the same exact argument of the 1970s bra-burning feminist, whether or not
that's what you believe.
Whether or not it's the primary goal,
make it work for you.
Hang on, man.
Make it work for you.
Even if it's the case, it's not the primary goal; it's a secondary goal. They're still the same goals.
You framed it as the number one goal.
Let me at least make the argument before you respond.
Reach on in there, man.
So the thing is,
dig deep.
Is if you say, "Hey, man,
dig deep."
This is about financing. It's like, okay, well, the 1970s feminists, we can't have credit cards, we can't control our bank accounts, we can't control our own financial independence from men. That's what they're fighting for. You want the same thing: independence from women to control your own finances.
You were talking about promiscuity.
Almost done with the argument, then he can rebut it. Next thing is, when you're talking about promiscuity, sure, sleep with whoever you want, right? It's under your purview because you can do whatever you want with your body. Same exact argument that they were making. They're not the property of men, right? They should have complete sexual liberation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these are the same degenerate structured systems which led us to where we are currently right this second, except you're just providing them for men instead of women. It's like, can't we at least at some level look at this and say, look, just because these crazy women are doing these insane things, we can actually, as men, do something about this prescriptively without adding the degeneracy. Yeah. Can't we do that?
Okay, let's go back.
Okay.
There's a such thing as, medicine. You might take a medication to solve one issue and you get side effects. You're telling me the side effects equals what the men wanted as to solve the problem to heal. That's the reason they took the medication. Now
Maybe
you tell
that
me
was
about
part of maybe that was always a part of my issue with the degeneracy promotion and like the red pill ideology. I've always had an issue with the promotion of degeneracy because it's like, you know, people will say like, oh, women are doing this in the family courts and women are blah blah bloop. But you don't have reproductive rights as a man, so you can't go around and sleep around and just do that for fun because you could end up getting somebody pregnant that you don't even like. And then all of those rights and freedoms that you prioritize through your independence because you don't want to get married, that all goes out the window once you make a woman pregnant anyway. She gets all of the right and all of the say. So I've never understood the idea of like just promoting degeneracy, and I just don't think that is good for people. It sounds good because, you know, in your head you get to go and sleep around. Who wants to waste all that time trying to talk to women? Different women every time, all that money, time that it takes to try to sleep with a woman, and for what? For you to get a 6-second, a 2-minute session? It's just like, you know, it just never really made sense to me. I understand the self-improvement stuff. Before you have a family, is good to put yourself in a better position in almost every way. I do understand that, especially because that's all you got to do is to focus on yourself and try to make yourself better when you don't have a family as a man. I understand all of those perspectives, but as far as like, you know, you just sleep with random people, I never understood that part because it just gives the control back to the women in that sense because they have all the reproductive rights.
all these side effects. A side effect of feminism being able to control their body is to also have finances, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with the men. The men didn't intentionally go in there to say, this is for our bodies.
What?
We went in there to say, this is to control our finances. Then as a result of that, there could be some other things that happen as a result.
Yeah, but if the results are the same as feminism, who
it's
cares?
not the same.
What's the
It is
difference
not going
in
to be
results?
the outcome because at that particular point, the man has controlled his finances. He's outside of the state system.
That's what
So
the
when she go-
feminists argued for themselves.
That's a completely different reason. You can have
Who
the
cares
same
if it's
outcome.
it's the
You can-
same fucking
listen,
outcome.
You can have the same outcome, and it could be for different reasons. All right, you're saying an outcome pretty much says it's a reason. That's not true. You can have two different reasons and
great.
have similar outcomes.
So we have the same outcomes for 1970s
okay,
progressive
but that's not the
feminists
intent.
for men
So
because you intended it to be different.
But you wanted to
Great.
compare. You just simply wanted to compare it as the same.
It is
It's
the
not.
same.
It's apples and oranges.
It's
apples and
it's
oranges.
apples and oranges because
To
you didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that
No,
way,
you
even though
said-
that's the same result.
You framed it that way to
Because
fit your
it's the
narrative.
truth.
That's your narrative.
Yeah,
It's not my-
controlling your finances aren't degenerate, of course. Well, who would make that argument? He's talking about the fact that the prescription is to then sleep around if you want, and that's related to feminism because it's just promoting degeneracy just through a masculine lens. So he's talking about the promotion of the degeneracy part. Controlling your finances is just part of being a man. There's just something anti-man about spending $6 or $8 on Pringles. You're supposed to control your finances as a man. Men are frugal. We don't need much. That's what we're supposed to do. That's part of being a man, in my opinion. So, yeah.
That's your
narrative.
narrative.
You just
killed-
agreed
Hey, listen,
that what I said is
true.
I didn't agree with anything.
You did. You just said that's the same. It's the same comparable
This is the outcome.
institution.
This is the outcome. If I choose to do something for different outcomes, it's not the same.
just wild.
Just because certain things line up.
It's just
the way you
feminism.
want. And you're cherry picking, by the way, and you're very good at it. You're cherry picking
Oh,
the
okay,
good
cherry
things,
picking.
the bad things, and then you want to reframe traditionalism and call it the traditional church. Well, the traditional church also had the Ku Klux Klan in the 1950s.
No, that was the
Is that what you want to do?
non-traditional.
Okay,
That's what Protestant churches.
Okay, well, it's the church. And
No,
at that
it's not the
particular
church.
point, if you want to
No,
go
it's
ahead
not.
and cherry pick what's good and what's
by the way,
bad,
they were
that's
Democrats.
a great Snapchat.
Those were Democrats.
Exactly, and of course they were Democrats,
And
certainly
not
what the
Republicans.
Okay, well now where are we at? There's going to be Democrats in your church? No Democrats.
Not
Okay,
usually.
so at
There are
this
some, of
particular-
course.
Of course there will be.
Yeah.
So there are going to be people that have
Yeah,
the
but what
same
does the
ideology.
KKK have to do with anything?
You're snapshotting traditional world that literally you can just pinpoint 10 years.
Yeah.
And if I go back 10 years before, it was non-existent. You're
So what?
reaching, you're creating a pie in the sky. And then if I fast forward 15 years later, it don't exist. Now you're trying to bring it back out
How
of
do
the
you
dead
know?
like you're Billy Graham. I know
This is
that
true.
doesn't exist.
What doesn't
It
exist?
is not the normal traditional church. You're screenshotting things. You're picking out a period of history to say we need to take it back from here. That period
No, I'm
was
doing the
only a
opposite.
small percentage of
Trying
the,
to give a holistic view not just of
You're
the
giving
entire
a religious view,
not
not
just
a
the-
holistic view.
well,
It's very
look,
religious.
most of history is full of religion. I'm
and
sorry
a
to
whole
be the
bunch of
bearer.
religious people killing people. But go ahead. Go
accounts-
ahead.
that accounts
Keep
for-
it going.
that accounts to-
all right, a lot of people killing
So
each
that
other, a lot
accounts
of
to
divorce, and a lot of fornication.
About
Go ahead.
4 to 6% of all wars were religiously based.
How much?
4 to 6%. You can look it up.
All right, I don't care what. That doesn't matter.
4
They
to
kill each
6%
other
is
at
pretty
massive
low.
rates. All right, listen. Religion is not the
4 to
answer.
6%.
You guys, you're
Yeah, I
you're
know.
trying to tell
Degeneracy
me,
and feminism for men.
I
is
didn't
the
say it
answer.
was. You didn't have to live degeneracy if you're non-religious. That's your world.
yeah, I
Again,
know.
you always make it fit what you want. To
Because
cherry
it does
pick.
fit. It is the
doesn't
truth.
fit.
That's what you guys advocate
You're
for.
only good if you're religious. That's ridiculous. All right, you only make good decisions because you're religious.
I think it
That's
seems-
ridiculous. That's
it's-
what you hope.
Did I-
And that's not the case because a lot of people that are in your
Why do you
tradition.
say
Hold on for a
only?
second.
Like, why do you say
Hold
only?
on, hold on.
When I,
a lot
when I
of
talk
you
about
just-
outcomes being
you
better
just
than-
admitted you just admitted
Better.
that there are women that are feminists in your church. Of
course.
Okay, so there's your solution there. You're telling me
So
it's
what?
always better.
It
And
is
it's a
always better.
Snapshot. What you're doing is selling men a fantasy of them.
And you're
achieving-
selling them feminism.
I'm not. Well, we can agree to disagree on that.
Well,
But you're
no,
selling them
agree
a
to
fantasy.
disagree, just selling them
And
feminism.
you're selling them a fantasy. All right,
A fantasy
that's
that I
not
have
gonna
data
exist.
to
Matter of
support.
fact, most people will be dead by the time you get even 1 inch closer to whatever you're proposing.
Well,
most
under your-
men will be dead as a doorknob.
Under your
but
proposal,
under your
you have assured that black men will be dead. You said so yourself. There's no fixing it. They will be. That's your prescription.
well, that's the prescription that you heard. What I told black men is to leave that community. The community is not to
Are
be
they
saved.
doomed or not? Like you said.
The black men leave the community, they thrive.
Yeah, I know. Are they?
Yes.
Are black men doomed? Like you said
The
earlier.
black
or
men
not?
that leave the community, they thrive.
Yeah, I know.
They
But
do
are,
very well.
are black men doomed? Like you said earlier. Or
Under
not?
the matriarchy of the black community, yes.
Okay.
Under the scenario that I'm proposing for black men, absolutely not. They thrive.
But that's in the future. What
But
about
that's
right now?
So that's
what about
no,
right
no.
this second?
They're thriving right now under your degeneracy model. All right, they're
No,
thriving
no,
right
none
now
of them.
under degeneracy.
Who?
Oh yes, they.
Who?
You're looking at one right
You're-
now.
you're- what-
You're looking at
so wait a
one.
second.
So that's who.
So let me get
You're
this
looking
right.
at the notorious one right now.
You're
That's
thri-
who.
so-
You want an example?
so men-
Give me your numbers.
Yeah, so men-
You didn't give me your numbers.
men
the
are-
whole damn stream. But
Of
you're
what?
telling me
I gave
who.
you tons.
No, give me your numbers of your ecclesiastic marriage where your pastor on the little house on the prairie is going to prevent
Yeah,
them
we
from
would have
getting
to
legal.
Bro, what's
Give me
happening?
them numbers.
Yes. Again.
Okay, you're asking me for
How
mine.
many times
I gave
do
you
I have
one.
to explain this?
Come on, man.
So again, when you're talking about just because I don't have polling data for the United States specifically, we can definitely look at other nations where there's ecclesiastical marriages and the divorce rates. That's one. You can do it right now.
No,
The
no,
second,
no,
the second is this.
You keep
even
changing
if
that.
I
That's moving
grant,
the goalpost.
even if I grant that just because polling data for that specific thing doesn't exist right this second,
Okay.
the polling data for people who are engaged in state marriage is still lower. That makes my
that's
argument
great.
much more compelling
That's
than
great.
yours.
That's all fine and dandy. You're comparing 125 people to millions of people.
No, these
All
are
right,
millions
what
of
number-
people
What
in
number?
the state.
What's the number
Of
people
what?
that participate?
Of what? Which thing?
I keep asking you this. You never give me the
I've
number.
already
I
told you 50 times there's no polling data.
Exactly. You don't have a number.
But I
Yeah,
do
I'm
have no-
assuming this is gonna get worse because there is no moderator. Somebody just mentioned that, and I was thinking that I'm like, this looks like it's heating up, and there ain't nobody to bring the temperature down. So let's just see where this goes.
It's a
Numbers
pie in
of
the sky. It's a
people-
fantasy.
Dude.
You've been selling people a fantasy.
Do you realize that
I love it though.
it
You know,
makes-
listen.
you make my point stronger, not worse?
A fantasy?
If it's the case that people are engaged in state marriage right this second and are part of traditional churches and their divorce rate is lower, it
That's
has
fine.
to logically follow that if they were not engaged in state marriage, the divorce rate would be even lower.
You're talking about getting hit over the head 30% to 50%. Okay, that's great.
It's
I'll
huge.
Give you that.
That's huge.
I'll give you that. That's the difference between 150,000 people. Yet you're telling me you have a better solution
No,
to
it's more than
mitigate that.
150,000.
Hold on. You're giving me a mitigating better than that 30%.
That's way
That's
more
what
than
you're saying.
150,000, dude.
Where's that solution for the better than the 30%? I've been asking for it. You can't tell me how many people that you got under these
but
notorious
there's no
contracts that don't
I
have
can
the state.
logically demonstrate it for you. There's no
I
polling
need you to
data
get
for
that
it. So
number.
what?
Get that number. That would be a great
When I
so
asked
you can
you-
tell the audience. Hold on
Yes.
for a second.
I'll tell
you can
them.
tell the audience
Okay.
how many people that you're going to prevent from busting out this ecclesiastic contract with your little house on the
It's not a
prairie, priest,
contract.
whatever it is that you're doing. If you could tell your men how many people you have doing it and you prevented them from getting divorced and losing their kids under custody, please tell us.
Yeah, so
Otherwise, it's a fantasy.
let's respond again. Do you have the polling data for how many of the black men you've personally helped?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see it.
Hundreds of thousands
Let's
right
see
now.
it. Let's
Hundreds
see
of
the polling
thousands.
data.
Hey, everybody in the chat.
Where's the polling
Press
data?
one. We're gonna do it right now live.
That's
We're gonna do it live.
scientific
Everybody
poll-
press one.
That's polling
if you're
data?
A Coach Greg Adams
That's polling
If you-
data.
If you follow me for the last
You don't
8
have
years,
hundreds of thousands of
press
people in your
1.
chat, dude. Give me a break.
Press 1 if you can see it. Look. You see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Where's your
No, you don't want to
polling
look.
data?
You don't want to look. Look at this.
Where's the polling data?
Coach gang represent.
Okay.
Do you have
You see it
scientific
right here?
polling data?
That's more than
Yeah.
your ecclesiastic contracts. I can
great.
guarantee you that.
Okay, everyone in the
can-
Crucible chat who Andrew Wilson has helped, put 1 in the chat. That's scientific polling data,
Go
says
ahead,
Coach
go ahead.
whoever.
I know
it
you
is.
don't want to hear it. I thought you was gonna let it happen. Now all of a sudden you don't like the numbers. Come on, Andrew, man.
That's not
I thought we
polling
were better-
data.
I thought we were better
That's
than
not
this.
polling data, doofus.
Okay,
What are you
pull-
talking about?
You gonna call
That's
me a
not
doofus?
polling
Hey,
data.
were you gonna call me a doofus?
Yes, that's doofus shit.
Yo, man, that's crazy because I asked you for a number, and I'm the doofus. You can't even give me a number.
I gave
under
you
your
hard-
data.
dude.
Wait, where's your army at? What's
Yeah,
the name
pull
of
the
your
chat
group?
up.
What's
You
the name
want
of your group?
The Crucible chat.
The Crucible Army. Go ahead and pull them up and tell
tell
them
them
how
real
many
quick.
of them are under your
Hang on.
ecclesiastic contract.
And let's make sure we got this straight. How many people are in his live chat right now?
He's got 2,060.
And see how many people are in mine.
Let's go. Pull it up. They should beat me in your ecclesiastic contract. They should floor us in the ecclesiastic contract.
Only 4.3K on Crucible.
Oh,
4,300?
man.
Well, it's like not even double.
Just one.
All right, we're both doing well.
Just one, please. Just one, please.
We're
And now that means I win.
where they at?
That's
Where they at?
scientific polling
Oh,
data.
There's crickets over there. Okay.
Just ones. Just
There they
one.
go.
All I got to do is
There's the
ones, and that's
Crucible over there.
scientific data.
There's a couple of 2s in there. I want the ecclesiastic contract marriages.
Oh, no.
That's what
You
we're
know,
asking
you
for.
said, who have I helped?
Oh, wait a minute.
That's different.
No, you ask who, for me,
Yeah.
who's followed my prescription.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not
who has the
polling data, dude.
I ask you for the ecclesiastic
God.
contracts, Andrew. This is very simple.
What part of
This
we
is
don't
very-
have the polling data, but I
'Cause you
can
don't have the
logically
numbers.
demonstrate it? Do you
You
not
don't have the
understand?
numbers. You're selling a fantasy.
We do have the numbers.
You're selling a fantasy.
Oh my God, dude, this is
You're
you're
selling
so
a
low
fantasy to
tier.
men. And I think what you need to
It's
do
like
is
talking to a fucking wall.
And I hope that all those cancer sticks that you've been smoking will help your ass live long enough to see how far you led men astray. I would love that for you to survive, and I would bless you by the name of God in the Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints that you survive all them goddamn smokes
You
you've
don't
been
follow
out
the
here.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day
All them
Saints.
smokes you have, so you can come out here and live and see how many men
Jesus
you
Christ
led
of
astray.
Latter-day Saints. You follow Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Somebody does.
You
More
don't.
people than that.
Give me a
More
break.
people than the Crucible.
The
More
LDS
people that you
are not in the LDS church,
hey,
dude.
More people,
Oh my
more
God.
people than you have under your ecclesiastic contract. I can guarantee you that.
There's no moderator. Y'all, there's no moderator. Where does this go? Where does this go? There's no moderator. Nobody's gonna stop this.
All right.
All you have to do is agree to one proposition. Is it the case that you personally think
Not
that
today.
if there is no state contract, you're not win a state
Easily.
contract, your chances of getting divorced are going to decrease? Is that true or false?
If that's true, even if you don't get married, correct. Your chances of getting divorced goes to 0. Oh. And that's the same thing I said. Don't get married, you don't get divorced. The number one cause of divorce is marriage.
Not
Boy,
marriage,
it sounds like
a state
it sounds
contract.
Like, no, the number one cause of divorce is marriage. Hey, Andrew, let's just say
Of
this.
course, you can't get divorced unless you get married. So yeah, of course. I mean,
Man, listen.
I thought they could divorce you even if you weren't married to him 5 minutes ago.
No,
What
you
are
went through a
talking about?
ceremony. You went through a religious ceremony. So at that point, they can. But if I never went through a ceremony, they can.
They can sue you for anything by your logic, whether you
No,
went
no,
through
no,
it or
no, no.
not.
Don't move the goalposts. I said you went through a ceremony. I didn't. All right, those are two different things, sir.
Which part of I don't really again I don't understand if it's the case that you
He's
say
scrambling and scraping for shit right
yeah,
now.
if it's the case that you say
He's
if you're
scrambling and
married-
scraping for shit right
if
now.
You're
Look at
married
him.
by the state.
Look at him scrambling
Yeah,
and scraping.
if you're married by the state, your chances of marriage or divorce
But if you don't
increase.
get married, your
Mm-hmm.
chances of divorce is 0.
Yeah, okay, wait a second, I'm sorry.
Your chances of if you don't
Except
get married,
unless you're
your chances
cohabitating,
of
right?
divorce is
Unless you're
0.
cohabitating.
Depends.
somebody said the major cause of death is being alive. The number one cause of car crashes is being in a car.
On where you live.
Yeah, so then it's not
That's common
zero.
law, not
so
in
you just
California.
lied.
The number one cause of drowning is being in water. It's not being able to breathe when there's water. No, I get what CJ is saying. I think that this is really interesting, but I don't think that anybody's gonna stop this, and they're just gonna. I wonder where it goes because this is definitely off the rails now.
It's not
Not in
zero.
California.
So then it's not zero.
What about if you don't cohabitate?
Yeah, again. So
Again.
now you're moving the goalposts.
No, most of the time. If you read my book, and I bet you can't read. Did you write a book? I'm pretty sure you didn't.
No.
Okay,
I wrote a
CGA.
book.
My
that
wife wrote a
basically
book,
gave-
and I take all her money, though.
Good. Well, that tells me the type of man you are. Holy mackerel! You're pimping your wife out now. What's
To
next?
write- to write
what's
books
next?
that I
What's
profit
next?
from?
If those, how many books that she sold? Now let me get back to
pimping-
this.
I'm
pimping
Hold
her
on
out
for a
'cause she
second.
wrote a
Hold on for a
book?
second.
What
My
the fuck?
my
What?
prescription for men is
My
no. Hold on for a second.
prescription
No.
for my wife out to write a book.
Yeah, well, I guess YouTube's going well if you're living off your wife's books. All right, what's her name so we can give her some shine to sell some books?
Oh, her name is
Bro, I'm
Rachel
so
Wilson.
well for these people doing well, bro. What are we talking about now? They just said anything. They said anything. It sounds like to me CGA is not religious, so he doesn't care about the religious prescriptions that Andrew Wilson is promoting. Andrew Wilson is saying if you're a man and you are already religious, attend church with the woman that you want to marry. Make sure that she actually values family, and that's the best way to mediate your chances of divorce. Coach, CGA is just saying like I don't agree with that because I'm not religious.
The author of Occult Feminism. I guarantee it sold more copies than yours, sir.
All right, we can look it up.
Let's
It's
look it
over
up.
that. Nah, we can look it up.
No, let's look it
now
up
watch
right
this.
now.
Watch this. All right, go ahead.
I want to look it up right now. Now I just want to know.
Now, at this point, what have you done? You're living off the backs of your wife? Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Is this traditional marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
Boy, oh, boy. Men have fallen. I'm going to tell you that.
Absolutely.
Men have fallen. It's a disgrace.
Fire by a Blaze said, Andrew ideal sounds more promising for us. Yes, marriage can be can gradually cause divorces, but not marrying and being alone forever is a sad way to live. Yeah, I don't think that most people would actually be better that way. I think that that's a pipe dream. Even the thing about degeneracy, a huge part of the reason why red pill is different from feminism is most men can't even practice degeneracy, even if it's promoted amongst the red pill. Most men can't practice degeneracy. Most men are not getting women, and most women aren't getting these careers that feminists promised. So even with the promotion of degeneracy for most men, it's just not even obtainable. When feminism promoted sexual revolution, though, it was almost universal that every woman could practice the sexual revolution. So it was super detrimental to out-of-wedlock births and all those other things. But, I still don't promote the degeneracy aspect because even for the men that can practice it, they probably shouldn't. It can make you jaded towards women, too. When you're the guy that they're cheating on their boyfriends with and you're used to seeing a certain type of woman, you start to become jaded towards women. But if you're a playboy, those are the type of women that you're going to attract. Those, so it gets you skewed. There are issues out here. Let's keep going. Let's just keep going. I wanna see
You're
this
living
going.
off
I'm
of
ready
what?
to
Is
wrap
this
it up, too.
traditional
5
marriage, by
minutes
the way?
left.
Yes.
Your wife is in the traditional marriage and you're living off her finances? God damn. All right, boy. The crucible is falling apart at this particular point, bursting open at the seams.
Yes, you got
Gentlemen,
me.
What's your book called?
Free Agent Lifestyle.
You got me, man.
Are they going ban for ban? Is that what they're doing now? They're just going ban for ban? Both of them making money? They just going ban for ban now? It's a flex off?
Yeah, I did got you.
It's true. I take all of her money. It's true.
Well, that's what you said.
I mean, I do.
You said that.
I do.
I mean, I'm not saying something you didn't
all
say.
of it. And it's been
Big
knocked
bang
out.
take look bang. Exactly. Like
Every
Traditional
dime.
marriage sounds great, guys. Traditional
How
marriage
does
sounds
that
great.
sound bad? Who would be upset by that? I take all of my wife's money and spend it on guns. He says traditional marriage sounds great,
That's
guys.
traditional marriage. That falls under traditional marriage?
Sure.
Oh, boy.
What's untraditional
All
about
right,
it?
That's a great traditional marriage
It
model.
sounds like great
All right.
traditional marriage to me.
Yeah.
I can't find the numbers, honestly.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
This all happens. Shit happens. But, it's a bestseller, trust me. You should read it.
So's hers.
Yeah.
It's just sold
But
more.
what have you
It's
done?
just sold more.
But what have you done?
I take her money.
Zero. Exactly, boy. I mean, you hear this?
Yeah.
This is the traditional patriarchy, masculinity here, in live and in living color. But you can follow him. You can follow me.
I mean, your book is ranked higher on the charts and it has more ratings.
Oops.
Can't find the sales numbers on either.
The sales numbers are what matters.
Oh. Oh.
Let's see the numbers.
Oh.
Numbers.
Uh-oh.
Numbers.
Uh-oh.
Numbers.
Oops.
Numbers.
I'm higher ranked. More people have.
Let's see the numbers.
Come on, man. I don't know. I don't keep
funny.
the data. I don't know what
I
happened.
don't know how many books you've sold.
Millions.
So millions of books. Give me a fucking break with this shit.
How many books you sold?
You
Zero.
Millions of books. I write the best books. I've sold millions of books. We have the best people writing the books.
sold zero goddamn
just
books.
lying and coping, dude.
You listen. I'm higher ranked.
Yeah, you sold
people-
millions of
Hey, look,
books.
look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie, Mr.
he's
Numbers
selling
guy.
books.
I got
Okay,
higher
where's the
rank.
numbers?
Higher rank. More people
I wanna
have
know how many you've
look at
sold.
More people have rated the book.
Yeah, and
Free
get-
agent
you
lifestyle
can-
for life.
And guess what? You can definitely brigade
For
your own Amazon
life.
shit.
You challenged me.
Show me
You're
the
the one
numbers.
challenged me,
Where's
sir.
the numbers?
You sold zero
All right,
goddamn
guys,
books.
I want to know who y'all think is winning the debate so far. Not the roasting match, not the band for band back and forth. One for Andrew Wilson, 2 for Coach Greg Adams. I want to know what y'all think in terms of who's winning. I have the poll up here too. It's saying 62% Andrew so far. I want to know what y'all think.
Are
Man, what? You saw the numbers?
no,
he
I
pulled
didn't.
the numbers.
I asked you for the sales numbers. How
He
many have you
pulled the
sold?
numbers. Free agent lifestyle for life. Hey, everybody go out by the free agent lifestyle.
Yeah, the free
Hold on.
agent never doesn't
No,
know how many
no.
you sold.
I'm higher ranked, man.
So
You
what?
Seen it. I got more people. Look,
That doesn't
hey,
mean
Shawn,
shit.
Shawn Michael. Hey, you see that? I'm higher ranked.
I'd imagine with the ranking algorithm, sales does play a factor.
Come on, man. We already know that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
What are
But
the
I don't
numbers?
I don't know my numbers. My probably
I
better
know.
than hers, but I know it's better than yours.
That's true.
Right?
I've never
You
written a
got
book.
zero.
I just take the,
I mean, you
I just take the author's
You come
money.
up with obvious solutions to scenarios that
And you have
anybody
none.
can
You just want
anybody can come up
feminism.
with. I don't have a solution. Free agent lifestyle is a solution.
That's not a solution to
It's
anything.
not. It sure
it's
is.
just degeneracy.
It's a solution that you don't like.
It's just go fuck chicks.
No, that's what you think. All right. It's a solution that you didn't.
How's it
even
going
read
to
the
help?
book.
How's it going to
How
help
did
with
you-
abortion? How's it going to help with anything?
Well, that's what de-evolution is for. Read my book,
De-evolution?
De-evolution. Go ahead and pull that up. All right.
De-evolution.
I have
How
a
does
second book,
de-evolution help?
De-evolution. Go ahead and look.
CGA?
How?
How about you
You
read
out
the
here,
book
man.
and then come back?
Just
You
tell
didn't do
me.
your research.
How does de-evolution
I
help with
figured you
abortion?
were a better debater than this.
Can you
and be
answer the
more prepared.
question?
No, be more prepared next time because I don't have time.
You
for
can't
this,
answer
man.
any
Listen,
questions.
But I'm going to sell some books.
Just no
Free agent
questions
lifestyle
answered?
and de-evolution. The link is in the description box below. All right. I did my work. I don't have to explain it. I wrote a book. Your job is to do the work. All right. And that's what we teach men to do. It's not about degeneracy. We teach men to do the work and not come up with pie in the sky
be
fantasies
feminist?
that don't work.
To be
All right.
feminist?
The Captain Obvious.
you know it
your,
doesn't work?
Your solutions are very obvious. Control propaganda. All right. Jesus Christ, man. Look, anybody can come
Here's
up
your
with that.
solution. Do whatever you want. Fuck
The
whoever.
free agent lifestyle. Yeah,
Fuck
baby.
whoever. Just fuck whoever. It's fine. We're not feminists, those guys, even though we have all feminist propositions.
I bet you your wife's body count's higher than yours.
Yeah, I bet your wife's
bet
body
your
count
wife-
was higher than yours,
No,
too.
no, I'm not married. I mean, I'm not married. And your wife, you living off of
Anymore.
her. I bet you her body count.
Positions.
I bet you your wife's body count's higher than yours.
Yeah, I bet your wife's
bet you
body
your
count
wife-
was higher than yours,
No,
too.
no, I'm not married. I mean, I'm not married. And your wife, you living off of
Anymore.
her. I bet you her body count higher than yours.
You think so?
Higher than yours.
Yeah, I bet even though we have all feminist propositions.
I bet you your wife's body count's higher than yours.
Yeah, I bet your
I
wife's
bet you
body
your
count
wife-
was higher than yours,
No,
too.
no, I'm not married. I mean, I'm not married. And your wife, you living off of
Anymore.
her. I bet you her body count higher than yours.
You think so?
I know so.
Oh,
I
okay.
know
Just
so.
like you know your
And
numbers?
She's a traditional
Just
conservative.
like you know
I
your
know
numbers
she done got
are
ran.
higher?
I know she done got ran through more times in the
Gotcha.
Holland Tunnel.
So that's it.
Oh,
It's just now
man.
add
That
on
was
just-
about my
how-
wife.
Hey, you shouldn't be talking about that man wife. Come on now, CGA. You know you don't talk about nobody wife and kids when you especially in a debate. Come on now, CGA. Low blow. Might be too low. That might be too low. I don't know. You talk about nobody wife like that, man. You don't talk about nobody wife like that. But that's man, y'all. This is wild. This is insane. But the fact that there was no moderator, not surprising that it goes in this direction. I know after the debate has to be awkward because how do you even?
What we want to do?
That's where you went.
No, you
Did I
brought
say
her
a
up.
word
I didn't bring
about
up your wife.
Did I say a
I didn't
word
bring up your
about
wife.
your wife?
I don't got one.
Yeah, if you did, do you think I would have?
You brought her up.
I don't got
I
one.
brought my. Did I attack her?
I didn't attack her.
You just said she had a high body count. You lying sack of shit. Show me the proof.
I don't have any proof.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
she's
just
a
making
tradition,
shit up.
Traditional conservative
You
women.
lost the
Hey,
debate,
listen,
so you went
I didn't
ad
lose the
hom.
debate.
I don't even
You've been
care
losing
at
the
this
debate for a
point.
long time.
Your wife has a high body count.
I bet you she does. That's the number.
What's the proof?
Traditional conservative
None,
women
yeah,
have
none.
higher body
She's not a
counts than men.
She's not a
Yeah.
tradcon, dude. You don't even know what you're
How you-
talking about.
How's she not a tradcon and you married her?
I'm not
She
a
feminist?
tradcon. You
Well,
didn't do
what
your
are you?
homework.
What are you?
I'm a Christian ethicist.
A Christian ethicist.
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. And
Very
you
good.
still don't know the numbers, how many people follow you.
Follow what?
Follow your prescription Your master solution. No numbers.
I literally have
but you're
given
asking
you
me
number
about numbers
after
and we pulled the
number
numbers.
after number
Oh,
of
my goodness.
the fact that the traditional
many
churches'
men-
divorces are lower.
We got that. But how many men follow your
We don't know the
prescription?
polling
We
data.
don't know.
We don't need to.
But-
we know that even if they're with the state, it's still lower.
Coach gang, one
Coach
in the
gang.
chat. All right, Coach gang, one in the chat.
That's
You
funny.
bought the free agent lifestyle, and it helped you.
Coach
Put a
gang.
one in the chat.
All right. It's been 2 hours. You guys want to call it?
Yep.
All right, guys, check them out. That was a fun debate. We'll let ChatGPT decide who won this thing. We'll throw in the transcript in there, link it in the video. See you guys next time.
Holy moly.
And all right.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm a Christian, so, very biased, I guess. Obviously, I think that the solutions that Andrew Wilson proposed are very reasonable, especially for men who consider themselves to be Christians. Be more active in the church. Find you a virtuous woman or a woman that you consider to be a woman that at least prioritize family. And that's going to help you with some of the statistics around divorce. If you still want a family, regardless of these horrible divorce statistics, the best thing you could do is, try to mediate them. But I do understand CGA. It's just more of a less religious perspective. It's more of a hedonistic perspective. It's more of a, there's nothing you could do about this because, we don't have control over it. I'm kind of in the middle. I think you attack the laws. I think you incentivize family. I think you target through propaganda, similar to Wilson says with that. And then if you're a Christian, you also become more involved in the church and active in your children's lives and have as many kids as you can as Christians so that you can outpopulate these people as quick as possible. And then you don't have to worry about a lot of these issues because the people that grow up will grow up with strong Christian ethics. That's, my perspective, and under different laws too that don't allow for people to just break up, break up their families for the sake of their own happiness and get rewarded to do so. And then you can't have sex or you can sleep around. You can be promiscuous if you want to, but you can't avoid the consequences of promiscuity by killing your children. You have to have them by law, unless of course you might be the mother's health and all these different things. But yeah, y'all, I appreciate y'all for coming in, man. I thought that this was a very interesting discussion. I think that this is going to be the fork in the road for a lot of these discussions. One is going to go more towards a religious perspective. The other one's going to go towards a more nihilistic perspective, more of like a just do you type of thing. And this was what, this is the meat and potatoes of this, of like where we are right now. In the red pill. But I appreciate y'all for coming by, man. Maybe I'll do more live streams if y'all really enjoyed this one. But right now I'm about to go eat, and I might make a video later, but we'll see. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L, and give me the HBO special. That's up, brother. I was special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.